All right, guys, I'm curious about this video. It's going to be a doozy. It's actually a Synthetic Man documentary. Synthetic Man is something of a bit of a lolcow when it comes to... He's just an interesting fella who takes online stuff a little too seriously and doesn't seem to live in the real world. So I want to watch this video. He was the one who had the terrible take on the new Fallout show, which I thought was great. It was a fantastic show. I don't even play the Fallout games. It was just well written. I can appreciate well-written things. It's from Dead Domain. It's called The Miserable Lonely Mind of a YouTube Nazi Incel Deconstructing Synthetic Man. Wow, that's crazy. Let's see what we got here. Let's get it started.
Take me down by any means.
Oh, sorry, I gotta...
But people are desperate to take me down by any means necessary.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't think that's true. I think most people just like making fun of him a little bit for his bad takes.
Dead Domain video could be the spiciest that people have seen in a long time. Most people are not.
Oh, was he getting ready to get hit with this video? And it... oh no!
Autistic enough to go through my live streams to find out that I'm actually like an edgelord alt-right type of person.
Okay.
Please.
You're really helping yourself, bud.
Dead Domain, take the stage. The last thing I want to do is waste my time watching your content. You can waste dozens of your hours making a giant hit piece. I stand behind everything I...
Well, you know, to me, a hit piece isn't a piece that makes somebody look bad. It's a piece that tries to make somebody look bad in a deceptive way. So if we're just shown Synthetic Man being a bad guy in some capacity, that doesn't mean it's a hit piece if Synthetic Man is actually a bad guy. And maybe that's just my definition of a hit piece. But I don't know. We'll find out.
I've ever said.
I stand behind everything I've ever said.
I have a Funko Pop, right? I have a few amiibos too. It's like whatever. Synthetic Man's a soy boy.
My mom just got here, so I might see if dinner is an option.
Okay. Isn't he? I think he's 30, by the way. I'm pretty sure, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure Synthetic Man is like 30 years old. He's still living with his mom. I mean, listen, times are tough, but I mean, come on, brother.
Or if I'll have to make my own tendies.
Incredible.
Want me to do like a...
Do I think somebody like Synthetic Man should have a platform? Yeah, of course. It's so funny to engage with his content. it's just so funny. Everybody needs to be able to go through a phase of watching horrible dog shit content creator. People need Synthetic Man. Some people need to look back and go, yuck. You know, that's what they need to be able to experience. So, yeah, I do think so.
There's not nearly as many of black male white females as you would think, by the way. The toucan propaganda. Some of these cuckold subhumans need to stop watching their gay porn.
I'll drink a little bit more. I think that's what you guys want to see.
It weirdly also combines with my strange fascination with eugenics, because the idea of Fuda is some kind of like alternative Ubermensch.
I'm a little confused, but my thing is this guy unironically believe in eugenics? Because I don't know if he understands. He's one of the people that people wouldn't necessarily want to see, right? Like eugenics is basically selecting which humans to stay alive or whatever in some capacity, you know, which I am against, obviously. But he's not one of the top tier guys here. He's like F tier. I'm not trying to be rude. But what the hell?
It's a butt plug for new Abby to shove her giant Fuda cock in my ass. You have to do things worse than Hitler to fix.
How come like alt-right people love weird stuff like that? Like, isn't Nick Fuentes constantly talking about that as well?
What's happening right now? Considerably worse than Hitler. An affirmative action hire, blah, 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 blah. You know, you, kill. It's time to make it stop. Nobody says bigotry except subhumans. People who should be executed. Every single one of them, without exception. They need to face the wall. The pendulum will swing back when Larry Fink is decapitated on live television.
Who's Larry Fink?
Birth control with your hormones, and it's made women attracted to twinks.
Well, then how come nobody wants to date you then? You look like a twink.
Maybe this next hit piece will be the one that finally gets YouTube to do something about me.
Alright, explicit usage of bigotry. Oh my god, what is it, my 20s? Okay, let's see what we got here. Where do I get a fucking band-aid from, dude?
The internet can be a pretty negative place.
I'm gonna be honest with you, I wasn't expecting somebody like that to me. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. By the way, I was just a little shocked a little bit. I was like, oh, okay. God bless. I'm sorry. It's my intrusive thoughts coming out. Like, person looks different. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just like kind of just came as a shock to me. That's my issue. Just to be clear. Okay, sorry, my bad.
which might seem like an understatement. The internet is a place where people are frequently targeted for harassment, death threats, doxing, swatting, and more simply for existing.
True
in the
that.
darkest corners of the internet, on places like 4chan,
And being ugly.
Kiwi Farms, and other places with lax content moderation, communities have developed dedicated to misery of all kinds.
Did this person say Did they say Twitter too? Because Twitter, let's be real, man. Twitter is kind of a waste now. Twitter's just like 4chan with the porn, actually. It's just, I feel like there's no positive audience that could come from there. Like, I go on there every once in a while. But like, I don't make content for there because it's just so weird and toxic. And then probably if I posted my clips on there, I'd probably do well on there as well. I do very well on TikTok. I do decently well on Instagram. And some of my stuff would probably hit there, but like I enjoy edgy jokes, but I don't enjoy, like, I like edgy jokes, but I don't like audiences who take it seriously. So I really don't need the people that are like, whoa, you must hate this group of people. It's like, no, man, I'm just having fun. Like, you're weird. I don't really. So, and that's what I feel like would happen is all of a sudden people would think that like I'm on their side when I make a silly little joke about how, like about something, whatever joke I make. So I just feel like Twitter would be a new audience of obnoxious asshole people. And I really don't want that, so.
Hang around the internet long enough, and you'll hear words like incel and blackpilled and even doomer thrown around. All various ways to describe people who seem to wallow in various states of misanthropy. There are entire communities built around people who just spend their entire lives being mad at other people, using slurs with reckless abandon in their little safe spaces. Now, it shouldn't be too surprising that these websites are replete with racism, conspiracy theory, violent rhetoric, and various bigotries to aperitif the slurs. And if you're a slightly more well-adjusted person, you might ask, how does someone become like this? How does someone choose to spend their limited time on Earth not chasing a creative pursuit, finding love, investing themselves in a professional field, or any other of the myriad things you could do? How does someone become so miserable that their only recourse is to try and spread that misery to others and form
Well, I think that
communities around wallowing, self-pity, and hating out groups?
I mean, it's a victim complex, right? Usually these individuals have something going on in their life that sucks, right? There's also the mixture that I think especially young men tend to be racist more than young women. Young men tend to be more racist. They tend to enjoy racist jokes more. And they also feel a little frustrated by the system, which is understandable because, we're having the right conversations about how there are different groups that are disaffected or disenfranchised by different systems, which is true. And I think some of the conversation kind of turns into, straight white men are bad. And not all of them do, but I think enough of them to kind of push somebody who's already probably struggling in their life because they're antisocial. They didn't have a father. And now they're seeing people hate them and they're taking it very personally and seriously. And they're getting angry and they're getting frustrated and they're getting kind of just spun around, So I get it, and they're looking for someone to say like, hey, I see you, dog. And instead of doing that, we don't do it. And we just kind of like, hey, fuck you sometimes. But yeah, man, like even, cis, white, straight, cisgendered, whatever, white guys, we have our own struggles as well. Mommy doesn't make me food no more. No, everybody has a struggle. You don't have to be a particular race to have a particular oppression associated with it. And I think it's nice, especially to acknowledge, like, yeah, men do have struggles. Like the economy is rough in general. Men tend to have higher expectations of success on them. That might be because of a patriarchal system, but it is the system we live in. I didn't make the system, so that can be a struggle for young men, right? And it's nice to acknowledge it. We don't have to sit here and compare who has the harder time, right? Because it's obviously me, because my dick is fucking rock hard. No. More productive conversations instead of turning into a hate group. Because then there's some people that can identify with different groups. They don't have oppression or struggles, but they like to pretend that they do, and nobody really calls them on it so that they can be hateful. And that can be another problem as well. So, yeah. Anyway, thank you for the 20-month medium gut from Jado. Hey, Pop, I've been gone for a while. Jack Esposito and I teamed up. Watching him crane kick everyone in a bar fight was transcendent. Incredible. Is Jack in here today?
That brings me to the YouTuber Synthetic Man. While he's only been active for a few years, Synthetic Man has managed to amass a fairly sizable audience of over 120,000 subscribers through a combination of videos and regular streams where he mostly just goes on unhinged rants about wokeness and why he doesn't like things. He gets a spotlight every so often when he makes a video relevant to a popular property.
Usually it's a shit video that people make fun of him for it.
Yet infuses his ranting with open racism, sexism, or homophobia that makes him an easy target for reaction content from other creators.
Either that or it's some kind of multi-vault experiment, as they fail to adequately explain in the show. Vault 31, 32, and 33 are all directly connected to each other.
What do you mean failed to adequately explain, dumbass? You watched only one episode, dumbass.
It's true. He only watched one episode and then he made this entire fucking like meltdown.
Perhaps maybe watch the whole first season where they do actually explain in detail. It's just called a slow reveal, dumbass.
He's right. That's true.
Bro just watched one episode and started chirping at the first sight of a black person. How are these people real? I feel like this is...
It's true. It's so funny too because Lucy was like not a Mary Sue in any capacity. She was a great character that actually had to earn her chops. And whatever strength she had, they communicated why she had that strength. Like she was a decent fighter because she spent her whole life basically in like almost like a military-esque type of drills inside of her vault. But still Mary Sue to him because she was a competent woman. Most of the men in that show were competent as well. Like, because one thing that sometimes they'll do is they'll make men incompetent to try to overpush the competency of women. They didn't do that in here. They had competent men in here. There was an existence of a trans person, which was cool because they didn't make a point of it. They're just like, this person's just trans. It was like, I thought that was great. You know, I'm not necessarily always trying to engage in social justice conversations. So I thought that was great. That made him fucking cry and melt down too. It's just everything is a fucking problem with this guy.
I feel like this is just like a meme personified. You know what I mean? This is the meme about like the genuine racist neckbeard.
He's had public spats with other anti-woke content creators and even considers himself too extreme to collaborate with people like Mahler, The Quartering, Nerdrotic, and others. But he didn't start
And too much for The Quartering is wild.
off that way. Synthetic Man, as he is on YouTube today, is basically an outright Nazi incel. And I'm not just the kind of left cuck soy boy who just calls everybody a Nazi. No, I'm going to back up pretty much everything I say. And believe
No, I mean, I believe it. He's fucking crazy.
me when I say Synthetic Man, at least from what he says, fully has Nazi beliefs.
Basically everything after World War II. You could say World War II and its consequences were a disaster for the human race.
What? Yeah, I mean, we did nuke Japan. That wasn't good. Although we're like their best friends now. What a fucking story, man. Like, think about it. You ever watch any anime? They think Americans are awesome. Like, we're fucking incredible to Japan. So maybe it was good that we did that. But it's like it's not good. It's just a silver lining. Like, I know All Might's not American, but like he's American coded and they love him.
I can't remember which general it was that basically said we defeated the wrong enemy.
I like the Berserk music playing. It's so funny because I like Berserk because it's just an incredible story. He probably likes Berserk because a woman got violently raped in it. So, you know, I guess we're not the same person.
I can think of one Austrian who tried to save the world in all of history. Never mind. Anyway.
The YouTube terms of service violations he stacks up in an average stream are plentiful and constant. He laughs at explicit 4chan tier Nazi memes his viewers will send in his chat. He pushes conspiracies about global Jewish cabals controlling the world. He gets mad at any woman.
Okay. It's so, I find it so funny when people like Synthetic Man or like Nick Fuentes, well, they'll legitimately talk about how they find black people to be inferior. And that's why they shouldn't be around white people and blah, 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 blah. And they feel so superior. But then when Jewish people have better outcomes than them, they're like, oh, Jews are trying to run the world. Maybe you just suck, bud. Maybe you're just genetically inferior. Like you think black people are. Now, obviously, that's absurd. But if that's your logic, like maybe that's the problem. Maybe the Jews are just better than you. Take an L, bitch, you know?
Or person of color expressing competence or intelligence and will spin that into subliminal messaging. These aren't just me speculating, by the way, as I will back up everything I'm saying in his own words, and these are just the tip of the iceberg. Now, over the last 3 months, I've watched more than 200 hours of Synthetic Man's content.
Oh my god, how do I donate to you for that? For a mental health fund? Holy fuck.
And you might think that would leave me bitter and angry towards this person who often talks in thinly veiled slurs and goes on tirades about wokeness and SJWs and BlackRock ruining everything.
Honestly, I don't think I would expect that. I think you'd probably just find him pathetic. I mean, like, we're talking about a 5'6", like, slimy man that lives at home that has a kind of like a baby voice. There's really nothing going on for Synthetic Man. Like, I mean, like, you know, not, of course, not like the Chad 6'4" alpha Papa Gut. You know, I'd feel bad for him, you know, because that's why he hates the world, because he's just got nothing, man.
White people hold dear. But instead, I actually feel genuinely bad for Synthetic Man, because as I'll show, while he is a miserable person, a genuinely miserable person, he is the one responsible for his misery. What started for Synthetic...
He just needs to get some pussy, dude, and he'll start... His black pussy will fucking change his life. That'd be crazy.
Synthetic Man as a
who's the black woman that wants to take a fucking Take one for the team, dude.
Have a gaming channel has become a cesspool of openly violent conspiracy, racism, and general misanthropy. Because of how Synthetic Man chased an audience that encouraged his worst tendencies, in turn leaving him burnt out, passionless, and more bitter and angry than ever before. So up front,
I mean, that makes sense if he's constantly trying to appeal to extraordinarily, toxic people. You're going to get that audience, and then they're going to want certain content from you. It's called audience capture.
I want to preface this by saying this isn't a takedown of Synthetic Man. This is a cautionary tale. Now, if you're a fan of Synthetic Man, or even just the right-wing Gamergate crowd, or even just hate lefty SJW snowflakes like me, you're probably thinking this is a hit piece. But I promise you, it won't be. I will simply be examining the things Synth has said in his own words, using his positions and statements to show how much of a miserable, self-loathing hypocrite he actually is. See, if it were a hit piece, I'd be calling him names without backing it up, making assertions without any evidence, or insulting
Yeah, he'd be doing what I'm doing. Just kidding.
him for his habits or appearances. But I have plenty of evidence.
I'm not trying to criticize him for his appearance, just to be clear. I'm just saying that a lot of these people, he's in that same sphere. You can't have a take on eugenics and expect people to not criticize the way that you look. You can't support some form of eugenics and have people not go well, look at you. Would you really support that? Do you really feel like you're what are you really contributing to society? What can you even contribute to society? You know what I mean? It's kind of it's relevant.
Evidence to justify anything I will call him. And frankly, I don't need to make Synth look bad. He does that all on his own just fine.
Damn.
Willingly and constantly.
This guy's whole video is, I'm not mad, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed in you, Synthetic Man.
And I would encourage anyone who subscribed to him or considers yourself a fan of his content to watch this entire video and really actually consider the things I say. And if you still support him at the end, you have my sympathy too. And you can call me a f***ing and we'll go our separate internet ways. I'm also not too worried about Synth himself responding. While he talks a big game about masculinity and the eroding standards of being a man in society,
he talks about masculinity and the eroding standards of being a man? Are you serious? I'm not trying to be an asshole. How do you talk about masculinity and the eroding standards of being a man when you still live at home with your mom? I'm not trying to be rude, but what the fuck are you? What does that even mean? What's the eroding standard? Here's the eroding standard. Say with your fucking kids. You don't have to say it with your wife if you guys are miserable, but say with your fucking kids. What the hell is this guy on about? What?
Society, he's not really the confrontational type. Like most internet tough guys, I'm willing to bet he just doesn't have that dog in him to actually handle criticism head on.
I bet he wishes he could have a dog in him, but he's part of a very hateful sphere, and if he was gay, they would hate on him. That's why he makes jokes about femboys.
Develop a cogent response. I'd love to be proven wrong, but if he does respond, I doubt it will consist of anything more intelligent than elementary school insults and some ad hominem and strawman attacks. And for new viewers to the channel, I hear you ask, why? Why, Jordan, would you subject yourself to this slow-talking incel stereotype for over 200 hours? And it's not just because It's
got to be almost fascinating at a certain point. You ever watch pimple popping videos? I imagine that's what it's like watching Synthetic Man streams. It's just a morbid fascination of what the fuck is this? I could see that.
Kind of channel and brand has become all about doing things nobody else will really take the time or effort to do. It's because Synth and how he's become more radical and hateful are representative of a growing amount of predominantly young men in online spaces.
It's interesting. I heard a theory about how incel type people have sexless men is what they are. Have always existed, and they've always been considered some of the most violent people throughout the entirety of history. And I don't know if this is true, but I was watching some scholar talk about it, and he's like, yeah, the Vikings were they were sexless men that really couldn't get sex. We glamorize them nowadays, but they were just kind of ugly, sexless men, so you would send them off to other places to pillage and rape other civilizations to keep them away from destroying your own. You have sexless men like priests or monks that have lifelong celibacy, people who operate in the church in some capacity, because again, they are incels and they will have a negative impact on society unless you give them some value and meaning and something to do. I always found that very interesting, and it's what do we have in our society for sexless men? VR porn. So let's get on that.
Synthetic Man here is more of an experimental subject. Like my deep dive into Matt Walsh, I needed a subject that had broad application, in the sense that in Synthetic Man's story, you can see a lot of comments.
I don't know if it's 100% true, but I found it an interesting theory of trying to of this interesting theory.
With other more regular people. As I'll show, Synth's story has a lot in common with other young, disillusioned, primarily white men, and those commonalities are important to understanding how to try and help people going down a similar path, to prevent them from becoming as cynical and hateful as him altogether. Also, like Matt Walsh, I needed a subject who had large swaths of content where he spoke off the cuff, giving an uninhibited look into his actual thought processes. As with any good observational study, I needed a large data set to work on, and Synthetic Man's variety of late-night drunken streams where he's goaded into racist, unhinged, and occasionally violent rants from his audience made for a perfect data set. Synthetic Man very rarely has a filter, and that makes him, at the very least, a degree more honest about his racism, sexism, and various bigotries.
Damn, imagine this video gets this guy banned and he just loses his ability to support himself normally, and you see him working at McDonald's.
Than some of his contemporaries.
It's terrible.
There are plenty of other rambly, ranty, anti-woke dweebs in this pop culture and video game focused side of YouTube, but dorks like The Quartering are too invested in their grifts to really be honest. They're focused on building a platform, expanding into a business, a podcast, selling shitty coffee and mugs, to the point that they basically only have the grift to hang on to. They pump out dozens of videos weekly to get the maximum amount of views on hot button issues with next to no effort put into any of their content.
Well, I kind of do that. Except I don't talk about, I just don't have hot takes. I just have normal takes. I feel like the hottest takes that people have are normal takes that they try to make hot, if that makes sense. Because people do that shit all the time. They're like, hot take, here's something provocative. It's not really provocative, it's just disrespectful. Because I say shit all the time that's probably not necessarily like mainstream. But I say it respectfully. Like I'm not trying to offend people. They're trying to offend people. They're trying to like rage bait for attention. That's what it is.
And then there are the wannabes following the formulas of The Quartering, Mahler, Nerdrotic, Heel vs. Babyface, Melanie Mac, and dozens of others.
Heel vs. Babyface is such a fucking clown.
Ranting outrage bait that occasionally gets them noticed, but mostly falls into the background. These C-listers, like Rev Says Desu, or Endymion, or Furtanga, aren't notable because, like the upper tier of grifters, they kind of just follow the line. They want to get those sponsorships. They want that paper. So they will be anti-woke, but won't say anything too terribly upsetting. Which brings me back to the reason for picking Synthetic Man specifically. He doesn't have that same filter. While he'll still shill for useless products for sponsorships, at least while companies still wanted to work with him before he became too toxic of a name, he long ago stopped trying to censor his views.
Damn, he got advertisement deals? Shit, I've never gotten that. I feel like, how the fuck, what am I doing wrong? What the fuck?
For reasons we will see soon. Where some channels might just dance around blaming Juice for society's issues, Synth will just go on.
I blame Juice for my issues because I'm diabetic and there's too much sugar in there.
Unhinged tirades about it.
Devontae, thanks for $5. Will the rainbow representation ever go away or die down? Is it possible to go back to the 2000s level of games?
So just to be clear, rainbow representation will die down when it becomes something that is normal, right? Like once it's just a normal thing that exists, nobody will be virtue signaling about it because it will just exist and we'll move on to the next thing, right? Because that's how it happens. There's lack of representation or there's oppression associated with a group, and then that group gets advocated for, and then of course there's going to be people who over advocate and virtue signal about it, blah blah blah, and then things kind of like dial down. It's not that big of a deal. So
you'd have to fire every leftist working for the game industry right now, and of course somehow we have to beat the influence of a certain toucans from space.
He's talking about Jews. What a weirdo.
They have to pull out their funding, and you fire every leftist. That's just not going to happen. Both those things are not happening. Omega Supreme WG.
Don't give up, Synthetic Man. Let me give you all my key, my Kai. Right, Dragon Ball Z.
He's like, America's the center of the world, and we're against our will, because I don't think any Americans actually want this, but our government is imposing themselves on the globe, right? And it's not even our
Oh, I love it. I think it's fucking based as hell. What are you talking about?
Government. It's the people puppeteering our government who are not Americans. I mean...
Okay. It's always so funny when people have this like Jewish theory, and it's like, why hasn't there been a single Jewish president if Jews are so fucking impactful in the United States? I don't understand. Like, just make it's a single fucking like. So you're telling me that they make themselves so prolific when it comes to Hollywood and all these other industries, which they are. There's a disproportionately high representation of Jews in Hollywood, and the reason is because back in the day, Jews weren't allowed inside of the movie industry, so they made their own. It just happened to do better, right? So you're telling me that so they're showing that there's a disproportionate amount of them in this industry and that industry. It just happens to exist because of that. But they didn't make themselves president? Like, clearly they don't have this power, the magic power. I don't know why we're saying this. I'm fucking Jewish. We don't have this power. But I'm psyoping you. Oh my God. There you go.
They are maybe born here, but you get the point. Israel is doing it. It's not America's fault directly, So
Okay.
Israel puppeteering America is enforcing American culture on the globe.
And in case you ever thought he was subtle,
Damn, who would want to see American culture around the globe? Oof.
here's the
Me, I would.
thumbnail he made for his now delisted Last of Us 2 video that you can only find on Rumble. Where some channels might debate the merits of black or
Rumble.
strong female characters and hint at ideas adjacent to white replacement or social engineering, Synthetic Man will concoct elaborate narratives around these conspiracies.
Creating a slave race that will never stand up to their masters. That's why the golem, if you've ever heard the golem, like analog, allegory, whatever you want to call it, again, you got to be careful about my words here, but they want to
Okay.
create a golem race, essentially, a slave race of
So, historically, I'm pretty sure golems used to be like another Jewish thing. Like it, I think that's the origins. I'm pretty sure golems used to like have a historical, like it would be called. Yeah, the golem is a Jewish figure, or is a figure in Jewish folklore that is an artificial being created by magic, right? So golems are like a Jewish thing. It's so fucking crazy.
people
Hey, what's going on, man? I'm happy that you're here, man. Love you.
who will make society function, and it's a sustainable population, low IQ, right?
Does he realize he's one of the low IQ people?
And they just, I don't know what they figured is a good number. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, like 3 billion people. If they reduce the global population to 3 billion dumb people who will just, and it's not just about fucking equity, okay? Let's say, hypothetically, you were trying to create a race of mongrel slave people with double-digit IQs, while you believe you're the best ever, you're God's chosen people, right? You need to encourage the creation of the mongrel slave race. So
Okay.
what do? Okay, well,
Let's see
one,
what he does.
you show as many interracial couples as possible in media. Every single commercial, every single TV show. That's
Just to be, I just have a question. How does interracial couples reduce people's IQs? I don't understand that.
one thing. Another thing, these people who, for whatever reason, are considered, at least on average, to be the most attractive people, while they also coincidentally are too intelligent and too, they have too much ingenuity, creativity, all of those things that could be a threat to you. Well,
What?
if we simply stop giving them jobs, they can't feed themselves. They're poor.
Who's the people that are more attractive than the Jews? I don't really understand. I mean, I don't know that Jews are necessarily known for their attractiveness. Again, Jew here. I'm not saying that like negatively. I'm just saying I don't know that that's like a stereotype I've ever heard of. But like, who are you, the attractive one? Is that what he's claiming, that like he's an attractive guy, or that like what? I don't really get it.
Women, unless they're extremely high above average in terms of looks, women are not going to date the poor white guy over the diversity.
Well, Jews are white. That's another problem, is they separate Jews from white people, even though Jews are literally white because they need to, because they hate them.
Higher dude who's making more money, right? Unless he's hideously ugly. The point is to bring
White people still make more money on end of, or like everybody else, except for I think Asians now. Who gives a shit?
things to a balance.
It's false. It never happened. It's a fake. It's fiction. It's an urban
Synthetic Man, hey guys, I'm a really hot guy and girls won't fuck me because I don't have the money because the Jews are taking it. That's what he's saying here. Really? It's like so hard to look at this guy. What the fuck are you talking about?
legend that never happened.
Combined with a channel well over 100,000 subscribers that has some videos reaching well past 500,000, and this makes Synthetic an ideal channel to deconstruct because when you actually look at his uncensored opinions, he basically has been allowed to spread 4chan-style hate unchecked on YouTube's platform.
Wow, smart guy, huh?
The reason I've picked him isn't because I dislike him in particular over other people, it's because he's uniquely masked off in ways very few of his particular niche of content creators are.
Yeah, I mean, he has the opposite of a halo effect. Right? The halo effect is when you're really attractive, so you get away with stuff more. People are nicer to you. He has the opposite. It's called the pathetic effect, where people look at him and just feel sorry for them. So he's so unthreatening that he could say things that would typically come off as threatening to people that are actually capable looking. You know, that's it. And so they just like, oh, okay, it's just like a stupid dog barking. It's like a little chihuahua barking, you know?
That's not to say I think every anti-woke channel is harboring genuine Nazi beliefs. Synthetic certainly is, as I have shown and will continue to prove. But for their part, I think people like The Quartering are your standard mainstream conservatives, probably, possibly alt-right ding-dongs. They know to toe the line to maximize ad revenue, yet still draw in a political audience. They also still play a role in the ecosystem for people like Synthetic Man, helping to radicalize impressionable and occasionally emotionally detached young men, a story we've heard time and time again. For
So that porn, dude, it emotionally detaches them.
example, if you aren't super well versed in the internet, but you're thinking, hey, I've heard of 4chan and Kiwi Farms before, it's probably because both have been linked to multiple mass shootings, where the shooters were avid posters and browsers on the boards. Needless to say, they aren't healthy or mentally stimulating places to spend your time, and they truly only foster hate and negativity. Now, with the rise of the new half-assed Gamergate 2 movement, we've seen a new legion of people willing to harass and send death threats over very important issues like how big a video game character's tits are. And with the
I mean, listen, I just want to be real with you. I'm all for inclusion, but you can still add nice big fat titties in video games, right? Like, this is my thing, is like, don't take those away. Just add other things. Add smaller make different types of beautiful tits, different types of beautiful butts. They don't all have to be big, thick thighs. I'm not against it. Give me some BBW girls. I'm not against that either. I'd like to put myself against it. Make hot women. You can make hot men too. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, just don't take them away. That's all I'm saying. So
the growing footholds of movements like Groypers and the alt-right on places like Twitter, gaming has once again become an unsuspected
But I think part of it comes from entitlement too, because like, sometimes people get annoying when they make games inclusive. You know, sometimes people could just be annoying. We talked about overcorrecting before, but I think sometimes people will look and be like, this character's just not hot. And then that offends them because they feel entitled to that character being made for them in some capacity. But it's just like, not everything is made for you. Like, it's okay. You can look at a piece of media and go, that's not for me. You know, we watched that one guy had this weird meltdown because some games were weird anime gay games, and it's like, that's just not a game that's just not for you. Like, you don't have to. Not every game needs to appeal to you as a person. So that's what I think it comes down to.
Ideological battleground where every day teens and young adults are being inundated with hateful ideology, like the literal Nazi talking points Synthetic Man all but encourages from his audience. If you think I'm joking, by the way, Nazi jokes and explicit anti-Semitism and hate speech are regular occurrences in his super chats. People pay to have him read them out.
Based.
Like a super chat advocating shooting all black people, Jews, and gay people.
Okay. With what, cum?
Exemplified by emojis, to which Synth simply laughs.
That's a random name. Thanks, $5. I usually enjoy your content, but giving platforms to meanies where I draw the line. Also, squirt, probably shoot. Shoot all. I don't even know if I want to read what those emojis are. Whatever. It's a monkey emoji, a gay flag emoji, and then radioactive, and then Star of David from Orbit, Chud face. There you go.
Wow. I wonder if he feels good about having this as part of his audience.
Okay.
Followed on the same stream, by the way, by a super chat that donates $14.88 while blaming Jews for all their ills.
Don't you think that maybe one of the problems with you if you're poor is that you're donating to a fucking weirdo on the internet? Maybe save your money and stop donating to fucking freaks online.
OFN, thanks to the 14 Canadian.
It'll be so funny because these are the guys that'll like make fun of people for paying for OnlyFans when they're probably the ones paying for it. They're like, yeah, it's a waste of money. It's this, that. But then you're going on and donating to your favorite streamer, you know, complaining how you have no money. I'm not trying to be an asshole, but like, if you enjoy my content, that's great. But if you don't have money, don't give me it. What are you gonna? Why would you do that? You have to be about yourself first, doggies. You know what I mean?
In 88 cents. Every time I read that, I have to.
Oh, 1488. That's like a meme, isn't that? That's like a anti-Semitic meme.
Say it slowly. I'm starting to notice.
I'm pretty sure like the numbers 1488 is like an anti-Semitic dog whistle.
That the juice is behind all of the world's problems. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, and his super chats also make violent threats towards other content creators, like this recent one of Moist Critical, aka Penguin Zero.
That's a random name. Thanks to Canadian.
Yeah, it's a 1488. It's like an anti-Semitic hate symbol. So
Moist should be graped to death by.
Why would you? Okay, just to be clear, these people hate gays. Why would you think about a man being raped to death if you hate gay people? Isn't that fucking gay? Aren't you gay as fuck for saying that? I don't understand. These people expose themselves every day. They should rape this guy to death. That's gay. Okay, raping a guy is, and they're probably men, is gay. Well, so why would you say that? You shouldn't be saying anything close to it. I'm just saying, like, this is just you guys are gay. What do you mean? What the fuck?
Fat N-word.
Wow.
Okay.
Incredible.
Almost every video I will show is still up on YouTube at time of writing, with many featuring dozens of blatant violations of YouTube terms of service.
Damn.
I will be linking a document below divided into categories with
this video might actually get this guy banned.
the links to each video and rough timestamps
my
for where
God.
violent, racist, conspiracist, and misogynistic rhetoric can be heard. One major reason Synthetic Man likely still has a channel at all is because nobody but his most ardent 4chan fans are willing to watch so much of his content just to report him. If anyone should choose to notify YouTube of his multiple infractions shown throughout the video, that would have nothing to do with me. Now, for those—
Well, it would have something to do with you, but, you know, if he's actually violating the terms of service, then, oh well, you know.
still thinking this will be a hit piece, I'll even bump up the difficulty to hard mode. I won't attack him over personal issues in his past. I won't attack him over his appearance or perceived physical faults. I won't attack him over things like his family or his parents. I won't counter the political arguments I show that I obviously disagree with. I won't even argue about differences in opinions over video games. That one, you have no idea how hard that one is for me. Now, I will be thoroughly debunking some of the various conspiracies he shares and helping to educate on the issues that he clearly knows nothing about. But aside from that, this really can't be considered a hit piece, because it's not going to so much be about Synthetic Man.
This guy's really trying to make this for not his own audience, and I could actually respect and appreciate that, right? Because obviously people will make content for their audiences, generally speaking. But you know, there's an additional appeal that you can make. But this guy's like, listen, I'm just not going to try to attack him. I kind of want you to know that if you're a Synthetic Man fan, like, you're fucking dumb, but in a nice way. I said it in a mean way, of course. But again, I can appreciate that. How the fuck do I heal this guy?
As it is looking at people like him and how people become radicalized and miserable on the internet. Despite what people like him might think, he is not a unique individual. He's not a noticer. There's one concrete, assured thing I can tell you from watching over 200 hours of his content. It's that Synth and his fans are not hard to understand. He is a deeply depressed, self-loathing, simple person who lashes out at anything that doesn't fit his incredibly narrow view of acceptability. And that goes for everything, ranging from relationships he doesn't think are okay to other people.
Assuming interracial, we saw that before.
People's opinions on video games he disagrees with. And almost all of that has to do with his hypocrisy. You see, for almost every point he makes, he himself will say something that either disproves it or shows that he takes part in something he condemns others for. For example, he loves decrying degeneracy and openly insulting trans people and anyone who's not a straight white man, really. Yet he sure does seem to engage in degeneracy of his own.
Bro, I don't even know. It definitely is some kind of weird psychological damage. Because it's like, it weirdly also combines with my strange fascination with eugenics. Because the idea of Fuda is some kind of like alternative.
Fuda is basically trans women, by the way.
Ubermensch being also like sort of ties into the fetish, because typically how Fuda are depicted is some kind of like superior mix of the sexes, the best traits of women while also having like a penis, and usually also
He's talking, just to be clear, he's talking about how he's effectively trying to talk about how he's being psyoped into liking trans shit. That's what it's coming down to, which makes sense, because people who hate trans people the most are the ones that are attracted to trans people the most. Like, again, I've been bringing up Kelly Cadigan once in a while. That's a trans conservative content creator. She'll rage bait to get more views to her OnlyFans. Who's jerking off to that? It's not liberal men. It's conservative. So conservatives, she makes them feel comfortable, and then they jerk off to her. Like, you know, that's what it really boils down to.
also vagina. I don't know, man. It doesn't have to make sense because it's not real. It's a butt. God damn it. Yeah, whatever. It's a butt plug for new Abby to shove her giant Fuda cock in my ass. There you go, I said it. You guys gotta stop jerking off to porn. I'm a living example. My head only is filled with disgusting shit.
Now that's just a little—
It's so interesting because he's effectively said something along the lines. He's the kind of person that justifies being having a problem because of some kind of a mental health issue. Oh, sorry guys, I've been basically psyoped into liking this thing. It's not really my fault. Stay away from it. I'm an example. But then if anybody else had said the same thing, he would be shitting in their mouth. Somebody's like, yeah, I know I'm fat, but like I can't help it. I had, you know, bad eating habits growing up. Somebody made me, you know, whatever. He'd be like, oh, what's your excuse? You know, oh, that's not an excuse, but he's doing the same thing. You're decrying degeneracy, and then you're engaging in degeneracy and saying, oh, I basically have a trauma. It's like, okay, dude.
a taste of what's to come. So stick around, because those are fairly low ranking on the list of the dumbest shit he's said.
The hypocrisy. Well, I think it's a Roman numeral 1, but same shit.
I will get to his background and how he became more radicalized in a bit, but first I want to tackle how Synthetic Man is a hypocrite, because I think showing the examples of his thinking and how he goes out of the way to avoid accountability is foundational to understanding how someone becomes like him. It's a combination of a deep lack of curiosity and a lack of taking any accountability for one's actions. And when I say hypocrisy, I want to immediately say I don't mean the things he's gotten mad at others for criticizing him for, like constantly blaming casual gamers, yet getting called out that he just buys casual type games to play on stream.
Well, he is a casual gamer though. Like he did his whole God of War thing, and he's like, I tried to beat this game on not the hardest mode, the second hardest mode, and he got his ass kicked, so he quit the game, and then he put it on like the easy, like a normal mode. That's a casual gamer. And there's nothing wrong with being a casual gamer, but you suck at games. And it's okay. because I suck at games. Actually, I'm getting better now. But anyway, there's nothing wrong with that. But he wants to be part of this elite club, which you really don't belong to. And then he like misinterprets every aspect of Fallout. He's like, the show politicized these different groups, and it's like they were always kind of politicized in the games.
Because that criticism is petty and beneath me. No, I'd much rather show how Synthetic Man, despite quite literally claiming gaming as a hobby, calls himself a hardcore gamer and getting mad at anyone who doesn't match his arbitrary definitions, is actually not that well versed in the games he plays. He is a casual gamer. Now, most of Synthetic Man's content revolves around
Damn, this is going to be the most hurtful thing that he's heard.
Video games, and he seems to see himself as an authority on the subject, based solely on how often he unilaterally declares people who don't agree with him to be wrong, or more commonly, subhuman.
Fuck journalists, fuck Discord subhumans, and people are like, do you have a Discord? No, I don't have a Discord.
You might think to yourself, surely with a channel dedicated to video games, Synth has some real expertise in gaming. Surely he's played hundreds of games. Well, no. See, the thing about Synthetic Man is he feels qualified to speak on things he really knows not that much about. For example, here are just a few of the iconic classic games he's never played.
I feel like almost every stream I get asked, like, have I played X game like a million times? There are a lot of games that I haven't played that I probably should. Have you
So why don't you just play them, man?
played American McGee's Alice before? No. I would like to play more of them, since I only finished 10. I haven't played the Devil May Cry's either, Shunda. I played Turok 1's re-release on Steam for a while. I kind of got bored. I might just skip it too. Have you played any of the Shantae games? No, trailer, but I never played Jet Set Radio. Play Need for Speed Most Wanted 2005? No. I don't really play those games, but like RTS games, I don't play those. Okay, I could try. I didn't play Hitman 2 or 3 of the new ones, and I never played the original Super Mario RPG, so yeah, I kind of want to play the Xenosaga Saga games, even if they end up not being that good. That'd be okay. I never played Control. I know some people recommended it to me. Admittedly, I still haven't played Morrowind to this day. Morbid friend, thanks to the €5.
Damn, Morrowind is usually considered a pretty big game. How come he hasn't played that?
Why'd you stop at the 2B playthrough near Automata? The third playthrough, which is completely different, amplifies the game exponentially. Yeah, well, I would have to play through a second shitty playthrough. Yeah, I know. Bully, I know. People tell me to play Bully all the time. I will before GTA 6 comes out, that's for sure. I'll also play GTA 4.
Granted, some of those examples might not be on par with Mario 64 or Halo, but for someone who has invested so much time and energy into depicting himself as some
This game sucks. What the fuck was that?
kind of authority on games, you'd think he'd at least try more of these things. A growing point of recent frustration in his community is that he really just plays the same kind of games over and over, those being open world slop that he never stops complaining about, games from his childhood that he never stops sucking off, and the woke slop that he forces himself to trudge through so he can prostrate it before his audience.
Well, he comes in trying to hate the game first. Like, he already has an idea of what he wants to say with every game that he plays. Why am I stuck on this fucking chair? Are you kidding me? But that's like what he likes to do, right? Like, he's like, oh, I'm going to hate God of War because this, that, or the other thing. Because Freya, a historical, mythological, powerful female character, is a Mary Sue because why are women as strong as men? Even though she literally could never be Kratos, and that's established pretty well in the game, that Kratos goes easy on her constantly. Right, so he plays, and like, I understand being locked into playing old games. I'm playing WoW right now, which is a new expansion, but it's like an old... What the fuck is happening? What the fuck are you doing? What the fuck is happening? But it's an older game, and I've actually just started getting into games again, you know, and because my job is to do content, you know, I'm very fortunate for that. But I started playing more games. I started playing harder games. I started playing the games on harder modes, like God of War on the hardest mode. I'm trying to rebeat it, and then like I got Black Myth Wukong, which is, I'm not a big Souls-like game. I'm very uncomfortable. I'm old. Old people are annoying and uncomfortable. But like, I'm getting into it and I'm bitching and moaning, but like, I think I'm halfway through that game, and it's a tough game, at least for me. You know, maybe it's not a very tough game for other people. I don't know. You know, but like, that's kind of how it is. He's 30. He looks like a kid, but he's 30, you know?
Does he actually go out of his way to play any games other than the AAA releases he's always bitching about, yet always seems to buy and play? Or his nostalgia fix and random regurgitated open world slop he seemingly loathes, yet can't get enough of? No. Already you can...
But I'm also not sitting here like a gaming elitist. Like, I just, like, after I finish God of War and Black Myth Wukong and God of War Valhalla, I think I'm going to try to play the old Kingdom Hearts games just for fun. You know, I love people have recommendations like Bloodborne. I'm not good at hard games. They make me angry, and I don't like being... I like being angry, you know?
See some of the hypocrisy here, and how Synthetic Man is quite literally just making his own problems to complain about them. On the Synth dedicated Kiwi Farms praise thread, people are mad at him for not playing more diverse games, though they also note that it's probably because they don't think he's skilled enough to play games like Ninja Gaiden and Devil May Cry 3.
That's funny.
This is interesting because he did get bizarrely touchy over criticism of his video on Doom Eternal, where he complained it was too complicated.
Because you
Doom Eternal was too complicated?
wasted, hundreds of hours or whatever getting good at a game, again, does not make your opinion any more valid than mine. I still beat the same thing you beat that I'm talking about. And I didn't like certain things. And learning stupid mechanics that I think are exploits, like hot swapping all these different guns and different cooldown timers and throwing in frag grenades, ice grenades, blah, 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 which I do that stuff, I just don't do it well enough. Because my reflexes just aren't fast enough. I'm not good at, quick reacting to a situation as
That's kind of a self-report there, isn't it? That you're not very good at the game.
much as some of these people. Because the game's just too fast. The game's too fucking fast for me.
Well, you could just be like, yeah, this game's not for me. There's nothing wrong with that.
If you wanted to boil down a lot of my complaints to Doom Eternal, I literally just think it's too fast.
Despite making his channel to ostensibly cast light on classic games, he's kind of just bad at game criticism in general, not just taking criticism. Synthetic Man has never...
I guess that kind of makes sense why he just bitches and moans about woke games, quote-unquote. Because he's not very good at games, so he can't really talk too much. Like, he has no real skill other than complaining about shit like a woman.
never been able to just say, hey, this game isn't for me. Or more tellingly, is never able to break down why gameplay systems interact with each other, how encounter, environment, or gameplay...
There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I think there are too many systems in this game, and it's frustrating for me. Like a lot of, we'll say Eastern games, like Asian games, have a lot of systems in them. Like I played, I forgot the name of Ark Online, I think it was at Ark. You know, it's like a top-down, almost Diablo-ish kind of MMO, I think it was called. And the game is visually beautiful. It's fun to play, but there are like a lot of systems, and it's just frustrating to play sometimes. And so it's a turn-off for me. I don't know if it makes it a bad game. It's just not really for me. You know, but you can just say like, oh, this game's not for me. There's nothing wrong with that.
Gameplay design contributes to his criticisms. Instead, he usually just hand waves away everything, even when it reveals his own ineptitude with the gameplay. In the process, revealing even further ineptitude with criticism and then being able to take criticism.
Having fun, I would just call it addiction. Because if you've ever watched any speedrun in your life, and I'm not even going to count GDQ, because all of them are degenerates, but if you just count...
Why? Speedruns are crazy. I could never speedrun, but I still think that they're fascinating and very interesting.
Normal speedrunners, look at their face while they're playing the game. Do they look like they're having fun? No. No, of course they're not, because they've played the game like 1,000 times. They know exactly what's going to happen.
Well, I mean, I think that they're having a different type of fun. They're having an accomplishment level of fun. So I can get that. Like when I'm playing, like you don't have fun during, you have fun after, because you've accomplished the thing. But there's nothing wrong with that.
They've done the same thing over and over.
And not to be a little, I feel like it's a male behavior too. Like I don't know, and I could just be a little regressive in that thought, and that's fine. But that's what kind of Reese is to me.
Again, just to beat it slightly faster, because their dopamine receptors are fried, and so are yours, whether you admit it or not.
Even his fans have noticed that he's just not very good at playing games. They even make fun of him with the inside joke of a DSP moment when he fucks up on stream.
Isn't that guy like a big lolcow?
Reference to the infamous internet lolcow Darkside Phil. For his part, Synth seemed to be in on the joke until recently, where I think he just got so mad at people calling him DSP and son of DSP that he just banned it from the chat. Again,
funny.
Not great with criticism. Now, these might seem like a bunch of pithy points, but I promise they are going somewhere. I bring up gaming first because that is what Synth constantly claims his channel is about, that he just wants to play games. He doesn't want political arguments.
But I don't even have a fucking political opinion. I just care about video games.
That's definitely not true, but okay.
That's it. Caring about video games is being right-wing in current year, because, like, fuck you. How dare you not accept all these, shit that I don't even have to say. Because, saying it is offensive. But no, I've really gotten that mad over things that most normal people would find pretty trivial. But that's because I love video games. Unlike people who claim they love video games by jerking off whatever the most popular game is released at the time, I've been playing games since
I feel like people will sometimes jerk off social justice narratives, but do people jerk off video games? I don't think that part's true. Most time they love tearing apart video games. At least I feel like that.
I was 5 years old. I played probably well over 1,000 at this point.
Whoa.
To save my own skin. Honestly, just because I don't care about politics that much.
See, he thinks it's the hypocritical left that's always injecting their politics into everything, which apparently he must be a secret leftist because he cannot go a fucking stream without making some pretty explicit political points.
Blatant white humiliation ritual I think I've seen in any media, where it's literally just like, what, you think I'm a diversity hire? I had to be checked 4 times more than everyone else for this job? Do you think
What is he talking about? Oh, Madam Web? I mean, I don't know how good or bad that is. People said it was pretty bad, though, so there might be a level of truth to what he's saying. But That's the problem, though, is that like he's always going to say it. It's like racism exists. There are times where like a black person will get bigoted upon because of their skin color, but then sometimes people focus so heavily on something like a particular narrative that they filter their whole life through it. You know, like there's like fat people will do the same thing. They will focus so heavily on their weight. They think like, oh, if somebody's mean to them in real life, then it must be because they're fat, when maybe it just isn't that, right? And so Synthetic Man is victim brained. Synthetic Man is like full victim brain. He's always going to say that in every situation. Anytime there's like, again, you know, Freya from God of War as a strong female character historically in literal mythology, but the fact that she can go toe to toe with Kratos is woke mind virus. Why?
We are not qualified for this.
I just old man sneezed.
You know, things like that. And she's like, no, I do. You know, I mean, she said like some corporate speak shit. And I'm just literally like, every time the bitch says something, I'm like, yes, you are a diversity hire. You're not qualified for this. You know, like, it basically just rattle off everything. You had lower college scores
Based alert.
than everyone else. You're fucking...
What are your college scores, bud?
An affirmative action hire, blah, 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 blah. You know, fuck you. Kill. I'm losing it. The low birth rates in the West are completely artificial based on what the elites have imposed on us. Like,
the low birth rates in the West are because people are more intelligent in the West because they have better access to education. They don't want to make stupid decisions like having kids before they're financially ready, on top of the fact that it's a difficult financial burden to have kids in the West. That's what it comes down to. No person is inherently smarter than another person, like no group or race of people. But when you have access to better education, you're going to wait before you have kids for the right time, which sometimes it never comes, funny enough. Right? And so that's why. It's not because of the Jews, which is what he's trying to dog whistle, by the way. That's literally the reason why.
you know, birth control and microplastics and high fructose corn syrup, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas in Japan, it's, you know, it's a result of the lifestyle, but the lifestyle is certainly nothing admirable. No comment. I love how even the fucking aliens love human women. This is, you know what, this is an allegory for race mixing.
See, this is why I started with gaming, because everything about his channel and all of his hypocrisy just stems from there. The very first thing he sells himself as, a gamer who doesn't want politics in his games, is basically an outright lie. He loves to call out other people who don't play games, loves to call journalists and casuals that people who are ruining the game industry.
See, that's the difference between me and most of you who watched the original video that you'll never understand. I actually care about games.
Oh, he's playing Hades. That game's actually pretty good.
I actually care about...
I have to play the new one. I still haven't.
...this industry. For you, it's...
I care about this industry and keeping it pure and white.
...just a casual hobby.
So
if
stupid.
video games disappeared from the earth tomorrow, you would move on with your life and it would be like nothing changed. Because that's always what you fucking normies do. Every goddamn time. Doesn't
Damn, using normie unironically is wild work, brother.
matter what the hobby is. You invade it and you ruin it. Because you feel excluded or the rules are too hard.
It's so funny because like we live in a time where it's easier to make video games now than it ever has been before. And so there's just more video games that exist. That's pretty much it. It's really not that deep. And some of them are just not going to appeal to you as a person. And that's what he's struggling with. He feels like, oh, they're replacing our shit. No, they're not. There's just more video games available. Like, you don't have to like all of them. That's it.
Or it's too hard to get into. So people change things to make it more accessible, and then you move in, and then you change everything.
It's funny that he's crying about accessibility. You were complaining that a game was too hard, and so it shouldn't be. You're the one who wants to make it more accessible.
And you make it go to shit.
By the way, I'm not even necessarily against accessibility in video games, depending on how it looks. Like, a good example, in my opinion, is God of War. I recently-ish replayed every single God of War. And I'll tell you, one of the things that's frustrating is, and I used to do this when I was young, is pressing, like, button mashing is insane, and it, like, hurts your finger. I was able to still get through the game, and it was fine after I got adjusted to it, but, like, how the fuck, like, it's obnoxious. I could totally see why people would complain about that. They'd be like, oh, this is too much. I could totally see that. So, like, I'm generally okay with accessibility. It doesn't ruin a game to make it more accessible. It's a fucking chore to have to button mash in the game. Stupid.
And it's the same exact thing with the fucking feminists, leftists, SJWs, cucks, beta males, whatever you want to call them. It doesn't matter what buzzword. The group of people who are
he's acknowledging it's a buzzword.
Perpetually offended and ruin things with their politics. They're
This guy's offended by everything.
ever-changing politics, ever-changing rules. Constantly more fucking rules.
But look at what he plays. He's the casual player. He constantly lashes out at commies and the left for making things about politics, but from his jokes to the chat he encourages
The lefties made the doom eternal difficult. It's fucking bullshit.
to the bizarre conspiracies and pretty blatant calls for violence, often inspired by something as simple as seeing a black woman in a video games.
Failing, thanks to 5 years. How are you disappointed by the Elden Ring DLC? Were you expecting to tone down the difficulty to cater to it? Okay, you fucking retard.
He got so offended by somebody calling him out.
Or, you know, that's a good thing. I'm sorry. This is Pride Month.
Base slur usage. He got so offended because people were talking shit about him there.
You have dog
The game's not is actually bad because there's a black woman in it.
Who cares?
shit taste. Absolutely an embarrassment. Are you kidding me? If the only thing you like about Souls is the difficulty, you're not a fan of Souls. You're not.
Listen, I'm not a big fan of like Souls games. They're hard. I don't like hard things. I'm not gay. No. But my understanding of the Souls games, and I could be wrong, is that they have a very good story. And they have a very interesting story. Like, I've been playing Black Myth Wukong. That story, I mean, it's beautiful. You know, there's a goodness in the beauty of it and seems to call upon mythology. My understanding is that Elden Ring, George R.R. Martin helped create the mythology of that, which is a great writer. Finish Game of Thrones so that they can remake the last few seasons, please, of the show. And so, sure, I'm sure that's part of it. I don't think it's because black women are bad. I'm not sure if that's part of. I'm not sure if that's part of why people like Elden Ring, but I could be wrong.
No, that is not the reason why the Souls games are good. Never were. Still is not. If the only thing you like about the games is that they're hard, you're a subhuman. Period.
Like,
Subhuman.
what makes someone a subhuman for using Discord or liking Souls games for their difficulty? It's so weird. I don't want to get too off track here, but it is bizarre how limited his lexicon of insults is for someone who spends so much time on 4chan. Like, he should have an arcane tome full of racial slurs nobody's heard since the Ottoman Empire.
I'm going to be honest with you, bud. I know quite a few that you've probably never heard of. I'm 34 years old, guys. I've heard a lot of stuff. I am not going to lie, man. It's fucking crazy. We're going to retire him, though.
And the best he can do is just to call someone by the social media they use. Second best is usually call them a subhuman or a degenerate. Like, most things he does, it's just so toothless and lame. The same goes for words like
He's just a dork.
leftist, liberal, and communist, which, by the way, he uses.
He'll just say, I can't use the slurs because they're not politically correct or something. And I'll get banned.
All three interchangeably, probably because he doesn't know the difference, but also because he has to immediately label any dissenting opinion based on politics. For him, it's practically reflexive, like flinching. Most of the time, he has to make up political alignments and conspiracies to inject into his rants. Like, there can be no political statements made whatsoever, just a woman or person of color, and this will be how he reacts.
Dude, how do these keep getting made? BlackRock, this is how we... never mind. I'm not going to Fed post. But if you just look at history, I'll put it this way. If you look at human history, when one man decides enough is enough and does something, okay, it would have happened by now. We are all domesticated soy boys in comparison to the Giga Chad of the past. Uncle Ted was right. God.
Well, I think it's because most of the people who are... most people who find... The people who are capable of doing something, if something bad was happening, are not offended because they don't feel anything is going on. Because they're not victim-brained. Like, this guy is victim-brained, and he's very beta. Like, there's nothing particularly redeemable about this person. He's short, he's unattractive, he has a shit voice, he's not particularly intelligent. There's nothing that he would be able... Like, he's nothing. He literally could not go and get a regular job and, like, get any women, right? So, like, that's what... He's an incel. He's, like, a part of society that we usually try to cast aside because they're pathetic. And again, we should be empathetic to a degree, of course, you know, but that's it, man. Could you fucking kill this right? Sorry.
Damn.
I think it wasn't that.
We need the new Uncle Ted. Come on. There's gotta be...
Fucking pet keeps on. It's ridiculous.
BlackRock needs to go down. Like, no one's buying this. There's only so many times they can get woke.
I don't know how good or bad this game is. I don't really know. But, yeah, he complains, like, he makes this complaint about everything, so.
Go broke before people realize, this money's coming from somewhere.
What?
And they seem to have unlimited money. It's almost like voting
Oh, he's talking about Jews, okay.
with your wallet isn't enough, okay?
He just sees a woman or a person of color in his chat, brings up a political point, and he goes off with very little self-restraint. He cannot help himself but to bring up politics constantly, and for a portion of his fan base, that's why they watch him, for his based takes. And you can go to his Kiwi Farms thread to see them say as much. His chat often goads him into these political tangents, and seemingly pushes for more violent and unhinged rhetoric, especially during his drunken streams, but I'll get to that in a moment. First, we gotta keep hearing about how Synthetic Man is everything he claims to hate and be against. Let's get back to his opinions on the leftist commies ruining games who want to push their political ideologies on everyone.
This is what happens when you live in a far left echo chamber and have for years.
This guy lives in a far right echo chamber now.
Everything you see is propaganda, but they're essentially just people who bitch and complain about anything that isn't leftist propaganda all day, and that's their entire life. They don't consume product because they're all fucking broke. They live with their parents, they're unemployed, and all they do is surround themselves with people who think exactly like them all day.
Is this him just talking about himself? I'm actually very confused.
That's all they do.
Now, you might be asking, why does this make him a hypocrite? He's just making fun of losers who still live with their parents and have no experience in the real world.
Yeah, he's that guy.
Because, like everything else I've listed so far, the things he's getting mad at just describe him.
No,
Yeah.
I just don't have nearly the bills most people do, because I'm one of those people who lives with their parents. Well, I live with my mother, not my dad, but you know.
Oh, fuck, I don't know if I said it. I knew it. He doesn't have a good relationship with his dad, dude. I fucking knew it. I knew it. That's why he's such a fucking pussy. His mom babied him too much growing up. 100%, 1000% that's true. I'm telling you. Like, listen, women are great, men are great, but you need like a strong masculine and a strong feminine presence in your life, or you're going to turn up to be shit. That's like just the reality. And this guy probably just had a woman in his life, didn't really have his dad, so he got coddled his whole fucking life. He was told that everything he says, thinks, and feels is valid, and now he's a fucking beta pussy. Like, you need your dad to kick your ass. Your mom needs to build you up, and your dad needs to break you down. Or, you know, it could be two dads or whatever. I don't give a shit. But you need, you know, masculinity will break you down in a little bit, and the femininity will build you back up. And it's good to be broken down. It's called productive stress. Like, you go to the gym, you break yourself down, and then you give yourself time to heal. Like, you need something like that to toughen you up a little bit. Not too tough that you can't recover from it, but you need some toughness. And it just seems like he didn't have that toughness in his life. And now he's just kind of a pussy. He's a fucking, like, that's it.
Job, yes. Full-time, definitely not. In the sense that, I mean, it's full-time in the sense it's my only form of income, you know, kind of. I don't know. I mean, it is.
What do you do, OnlyFans? What the hell?
I'd say it is. We'll just say for the sake of argument, it is.
Oh, okay.
But I don't work full-time by any stretch, no. I'm a lazy motherfucker. I do, you know, what it takes. Exactly the amount of effort it takes.
Wow. That sounds like a great guy. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I do something similar. I've always done that at jobs. I've been like, I try to be as productive as possible. I try to be as efficient as possible. Like, I try to do the least amount of work and get the most amount done. And I was good at it. Like, I don't try to work hard. I can work hard if I need to. I have worked hard before. It's like people who like jerk themselves off for working hard. You know, I'm not the soft hands brother. I'm like, I do what I got to do, but I also do very well, right? So I exert a certain amount of stress to get done a quality job. And then I just figure out how to make it more efficient so I can get the same work done with like less effort, because who the fuck wants to do as much work as possible? Why would you want to intentionally be inefficient? That's just pathetic.
He's never really lived anywhere but home. He's 29 or 30, hasn't had a real job in years by his own attesting. By the way, this is not me speculating. He basically spent his entire life just playing and caring only about video games.
You should have a full-time job and this should be your hobby. That's just not going to happen. Because, first of all, I'm way too lazy to do a real job. Second of all, most people who have real job, if they make quality content, can't make the video. Like, look at how many videos ER released this year, and you wonder. I mean, everyone wants to be a perpetual.
I wonder if he makes enough money to like exist. Like, I wonder, because I know he will get good views sometimes, but how consistent and how often does he make a video? How much donations does he get? I mean, I wonder if he even because he was even saying like, oh, I don't really do that well. Oh, you gotta love this one. Black Myth Wukong is pretty good for a Chinese game. I wonder if he even beat the game. But he's posting like, what is it? Maybe 1, 2... Yeah, he's posting twice a month, and he's getting like, yeah, there's no way that this makes enough money. You know? Posting twice a month. I don't think he makes enough money to like make a good amount of... What? I don't know.
Perpetual child. I've been doomed to this existence by bad parenting, partially, but also a lot of bad choices I made.
Like everything with Synthetic Man, He has a double standard here. Practically the only
He would shit on any leftist who said the same thing.
consistent thing about him is his hypocrisy. While he fully admits that he's too lazy to have a real job, he doesn't take any of that responsibility on himself, instead blaming his parents for what he calls learned helplessness. This is a misappropriated psychiatry term that he basically uses to justify his ineptitude. We will talk more.
This is stuff that you'll see like really annoying far left kids on TikTok. Let's be real. It's not even the lefty kids on TikTok. Like that's their identity. They're like, see, I can't do this because I have some kind of... He's talking about having a level of an oppression associated with him. I am incapable because I wasn't raised particularly well, which is the same conversation about like some kind of systemic oppression. Is like, I didn't have access to a thing when I was, you know, growing up, and now I can't. I'm incapable of existing. It's the same thing, dude. It's fucking crazy.
More about this plenty later, but for now, it's worth pondering that when this laziness is brought up to him, his defense is that nobody knows what he's been through unless they've lived his life.
When are you going to accept your parents were trash and teach yourself what you
His dad probably beat him one time because he didn't get him a beer when he came home. And can you blame him?
need to know? You can't do that. That's cope. I would love for you to show me an example of someone with basically learned helplessness teaching them all the skills, because
Bro, he's such a victim. Learned helplessness.
every time I've heard something to that, they exaggerated their parents' issues, because that just doesn't happen. At a certain point, it's just not gonna fucking happen.
Dude, this guy's a fucking loser. What?
Therapy isn't for men because men want solutions, not validations. Women want validations. Yeah, well, I'll be honest with you. I wanted validation for a long time, but not from therapy, from my parents.
Oh no, didn't get validation from his mommy and daddy. Bro, listen, I'm not a victim at all. My dad was never around my entire life. And I love my mom. My mom was like a fucking man, okay? My mother, very masculine. And she used to hit me a lot. And by the way, that's just what you did back then. You know, when she went to therapy, well, we actually did go to therapy at one point. She stopped. My mother's not a bad person. She's actually very good. She did a lot for me. She did more than most people would. But, like, sit down and fucking cry me a river, pussy. Like, what the fuck? Oh, my daddy wasn't there, and my mommy coddled this guy. His mom's probably fucking sucked his penis off. Probably fucking pulled his foreskin back and cleaned it for him because he wouldn't do it himself. And then made him come. And he probably bonded over that weird experience they had together. This guy is absolutely 1,000% is a fucking weird attached mama's boy. 1,000%. I'm fucking guaranteeing you. 1,000,000% this guy fucking has jerked off to the thought of fucking his mom. I'm just telling you. His mom coddled him. That's the problem. His dad didn't beat him enough. Okay? So, sorry, I'm just saying. That's fucking true. It's a real fucking thing. I love my mom too. But this guy's acting like this guy's incapable. He's not incapable. His mom does everything for him. His mom should have kicked him out of the fucking house by now. Like the reason why he's incapable is because no one's ever put any stress onto him in his life in a meaningful capacity. Like he has no motivation because mommy lets him stay home and probably make a subpar amount of money and not actually do anything with his life. This guy's gonna hit 40 and be like completely financially dead. Like he's not going to be able to sustain his career here. He's just not going to be able to. And he's gonna be fucked. But his mom's still gonna let him fucking live off of her. That's what's going to happen. He's going to probably move to like a poorer state just so that he can survive because he doesn't want to get a real job. That's literally all it is.
I never did get that. Eventually, you learn to give up on those things.
And some of you might already be getting ahead of me and wondering, does he reserve that same sentiment for the experiences of other people? Does he require that empathy and understanding for others' lived experiences and emotions before allowing them to be valid? Say, for example, when it comes to women, trans people, or people of color.
The hell am I doing right now?
Fuck no.
Some anti-Zionist isn't making me pro-Palestine. Sure. It's not, like, I don't even care about the Middle East. That's the truth. I wish nobody cared, and I wish they got no foreign aid or any of that shit. I wish, everyone had to fend for themselves. And so,
if you had to fend for yourself, you'd be dead, bud.
For those of you who are NEETs, obviously depressed, don't know the purpose in life.
I think a NEET is just a sloppy fuck that doesn't do anything in their life, right?
Probably not going to get a girlfriend, etc., etc., etc. You have to realize that.
Oh, NEET is an internet for not in employment, education, or training, basically a burnout, which he's projecting on the trans people who actually do things. What?
If you can somehow manage to...
Yeah, I went on a date with a trans person once. It was a long time ago, and they did some kind of weird computer shit, made more money than me. It was wild. That's my only real life experience with a trans person. Because I know... I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to... some people still not necessarily out and stuff, you know what I'm saying?
Work up the motivation to do something, literally anything, some creative pursuit. That's why you see all these who are making video games, Because they're the neats, dude.
It's so funny because like I'm a lazy person. Like I can be very lazy. I know how to work hard, but I can be lazy, right? And I have been lazy when it comes to my content. I don't even really work that hard, and you could still put in effort to, you know, boost yourself up. All this guy does is make 2 shitty half-ass videos about a video game, always having to criticize the game. He couldn't even Black Myth Wukong. I'm only halfway through because I've got like 20 something hours into it. I'm trying to like really do a lot of the stuff. Phenomenal game. He still has to criticize it because it's fucking Chinese, which is weird because he'll also criticize Western values probably. Anyway, some half-ass shit fucking game or video every other week that he'll throw out, some like bland take, having to make sure that he throws some racism in there. Like, why isn't he doing more? He could be doing more, but he doesn't want to. He could like put himself out there on like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, blah 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 blah. But he has no interest. He's also not entertaining. And if he actually did that, he'd be banned faster. This video might actually get banned, to be honest with you. I get $5 from Brody. Did you actively culminate empathy, or was it a natural trait for you? Legitimately asking liver content. No, it took me a long time, man. Like I'm not like a super like it took me a long time. I think I matured slowly. It took me a while to become like more empathetic and like understand. I can be very thick-headed, and sometimes I can think what I know is I think I know better for people than I actually may do. And it comes from like a place where like I'm trying to like be kind. So you know, I'll like take on struggles onto myself to help other people, but that's not necessarily the best thing for people. I think I developed a lot of my empathy with my wife. She's been very good, you know. So a lot of it came from that. Yeah, she's a good woman. I think it takes a man needs a good woman to not be a fucking moron, you know. And gay people stuff too, right? You know, gay, feminine, masculinity, whatever. I'm just speaking generally, you understand. But yeah, no, I didn't naturally have any empathy. Like I said, my mom was very masculine. She didn't necessarily communicate a lot of empathy to me growing up. She loved me. Like she was there for me as much as possible. Like she worked like 60 hours a week, and then she would devote all her time to like, you know, like helping me with stuff like Boy Scouts and other things. Don't get me wrong, she's a good person, but she's very she's a man. She's one of like 8 or 7 kids, and she was like the first daughter, so she had a lot of those responsibilities taken onto her, and she was very close with her father, so you know she was very masculine in that sense. So it took a while. Needed like a feminine sense or presence. Helped quite a bit.
Say probably the most of them are not working a real job. They're probably living off of disability. Maybe they're working part-time or something. But the type of people who have the time to work 5 years on a game, they're the people who don't like actually work hard.
Oh, he's criticizing game developers that are trans because they live off of the system and develop video games. It couldn't be that they get money to work on a job. They okay, incredible.
History, women have been attracted to men older than them, which is a conflict because women.
Yeah, sure, but not super much older. It's usually within like a 5-year age gap for the most part. There are some more extremes, but
and over 30, you know, roasties are extremely jealous of young women. They take it out on men by saying men are pedophiles for dating a woman younger than them, when the younger women are seeking out older men. So this is why.
Well, again, it's usually within like a 5-year age gap, and if you're like 30 something years old, you know, trying to date an 18-year-old, you are kind of weird because what do you have in common with them? But like, you're not a pedophile. I just think that you're kind of pathetic. But you know, whatever. You do you, fresh and fit. Am I right? I mean, they're also closeted homosexuals that desperately want to suck each other's dicks off. So
this is why, like, these fucking.
I also okay.
Anyway, never mind. We're gonna get into severe incel talk in a second. But the point is, these empty egg cartons are an extreme issue with online discourse. They need to be banned. They need to be like banned en masse because their opinions are corrupting future generations because they have nothing better to do. They have a lot of them have successful careers. You know, a lot of these women probably make more money than I do, almost certainly.
Already, you can see
is that a bad thing?
How Synth is deeply insecure, lashing out at so many things, often with tired insults, but for everything he bases his...
I feel like Synthetic Man's the kind of guy that would use that argument that women like older men as an excuse why he can't get women. Because there is a conversation that's like, oh, 20-year-old men like struggle really hard to get women because those women typically want the older, more established guys, maybe in their 30s. And there might be a level of truth to that. The problem is that he's older now, and I feel like he would still use that argument because I think that I think he still thinks that he's 20-something years old. But he's not. You know, you're supposed to be more established at this point.
His channel and personality on, he is undermined by himself. He's the one who can't go to a game without injecting politics, even when there are none. He's the casual who doesn't play a wide variety of games. He's the person who has issues with difficulty. And I know in the extremely unlikely circumstance, he's made it this far into the video. Like, come on, I've seen how he freaks out at being forced to watch a 2-minute cutscene.
Yeah, he could just react to the video too. put it on here.
But if he's still watching, he'll likely be saying something to the effect of, but leftists say all art is political. Which is a true statement, but not in the way he thinks.
I've never heard that before.
Where he believes leftists need all art to push a political agenda.
Ubisoft claims their games are not
Oh yeah, I guess that's different. Saying all art is political is different than saying that art is trying to push a particular agenda. Okay, I guess. I've never really heard that before. I'm not like super, you know, active in these spaces, so.
political, which obviously is false. Their games are political. I don't want to get into an argument of everything is political, because that's something that commies say for good reason.
Well, I think the problem is that anytime Synthetic Man sees a black person, he thinks it's a political statement. Like he's just, I don't really understand. You know, I grew up around a lot of black people, so I just know black people just exist. It's normal to me. I think my school was like 30% white. Like it's all cool, like my high school. Who gives a shit? So for him, it's a political statement anytime a black person exists because he grew up probably in like a poor white area or something, with a shit fucking father. Sorry, I don't know. I could be wrong, but this is the read I'm getting here. And he just blames all his problems on fucking minorities.
You know, if you understand anything about communism or socialism. And if you want to get into like bitch boy semantics, which is something I like to do a lot, yeah, everything is political, technically. But that's not what people mean. They just don't have the words to describe what they mean. And as society has made the slow march into making literally everything political, with many people simply telling you that everything is political, yet out of the other side of their mouth also telling me that...
I mean, isn't Star Wars political? Like, I imagine he would like Star Wars. Isn't Star Wars like a political statement? I've seen George Lucas talk about it. I think it was something to do with the fucking Vietnam War or something. Like... Everything is going to have a political undertone in some. A lot of things have political undertones in them. You know, you may not necessarily be able to apply them, and part of that's because I don't think he understood that conflict. I didn't when I was young and started watching Star Wars. I don't know what the fuck, you know. So I just see like a cool, interesting movie, but.
I'm making things political when everything's political, so figure that one out. If they didn't have double standards, they'd have no standards at all, right? But obviously The Last of Us Part 2 is probably the most infamous example of being unable to escape propaganda in modern games.
I gotta play The Last of Us games so I can see what he's talking about. So that's what kind of motivated me to play all the God of Wars, just to be like fully educated on these games, you know?
Despite the fact
and to complain about how God of War 3 was mediocre. Fuck you!
The apocalypse took place in 2013, which is a few years before the trans movement even started. One of the major characters in the game, Lev, is trans.
When people say all art is political, they mean that art is political because artists are influenced by the culture around them, which includes the political strife and developments of the time, or how those political developments have affected them. Quick tangent, but one of the best examples I can think of to illustrate this is Francisco Goya. Francisco Goya was a court painter
yeah, he developed the Goya products. Yeah.
For royalty in the 1700s who made amazing photorealistic portraiture. Then after witnessing some awful shit during the Spanish War for Independence, his entire artistic style changed. He made a series of drawings depicting the horrors of war in stark, brutal reality. Later, when an illness relapsed and he almost died, he made arguably his most famous works called The Black Paintings. When you compare and
that's too woke.
contrast his early work with his later work, there is a stark difference to the twisted, hellish style in the Black Paintings. While the art itself is depicting death, sadness, madness, and whatever else Goya was going through, the art itself is undeniably influenced through the lens of its creator by the political state of the time. This is what people mean when they say art is political. It's not that the art is taking a political stance or pushing an agenda. It's saying that you can't properly discuss these works of art and their themes without acknowledging the political upheaval in Spain at the end of the Napoleonic era and how it directly and deeply affected Goya.
I guess. I mean, I just don't give a shit, I guess. For me, I don't like to think of things too deeply sometimes. I have the ability to, I think. I just like, you know, that's interesting. You know, I don't usually pick apart all the potential political statements of every single piece of media that I engage in. Sometimes they'll be like overtly annoying about some political statements, and I'll be like, okay, it's kind of cringe. But I mostly don't give a shit. Like, I think, what was it called? Sex Education was a great show. And then the last season just kind of fucking boring, and it does feel like a little too inserted, if you understand what I'm saying. But the show's always been, like, very affirming of, like, you know, sex and gay stuff and trans stuff and all these different things. And then the last season just got so fucking, like, in your face. It became less subtle. It felt like the story became, like, a little less intelligent. It just got so fucking boring. And whatever debuff is happening is, oh, I have to jump. Okay. Gotcha. It just became, like, I don't know, kind of, like, annoying and preachy to me, you know? But thank you for the $10 from Jado. Everything is political. It just means that everything is informed by various aspects of society to some degree. Conservatives just translate everything is pushed in America. Well, I feel like what I just said is some of the complaints from conservatives. Like, hey, it feels like you're pushing the particular political narrative at the sake of the actual goodness of the piece of media. Sometimes that does feel like the case, and I'm a left-leaning individual, so like I'm cool with gay and trans shit and whatever. But sometimes it does come off as just a little preachy. So I think that there's a level of truth to some of the conversations that are happening. But the problem is that people are always looking to apply that logic to everything that exists, and that's where it becomes like a legitimate issue.
No art class or history teacher would bring up Goya's
because they have like a victim complex,
black paintings without talking about how they were affected by politics. And when you consider his proximity to politics, witnessing of war and strife, and falling from royal favor, it makes sense that the art he's creating reflects a more pessimistic and macabre worldview. Was this an elaborate tangent just to show people some of my favorite paintings?
Maybe. My favorite paintings are hentai, so I can't show you that.
But also, the next time somebody scoffs at all art being political, you can immediately tell how much they actually know about art and its themes, and how art is directly affected by the time and political climate it's made in. There are plenty of trends in films that reflect this, by the way. Economic anxieties represent...
Well, anytime I hear somebody say all art is political, it sounds like they're trying to have a conversation with me about something I do not care about. And I already get enough of those at family parties from people that just love to yap about like all their shit. They're nice people, but you know what I mean? So I'm already dealing with that, so I'm not trying to listen to your fucking dog shit. I'm just being silly.
By the slew of haunted house horror movies after the mid-2000s housing collapse, or the glut of slasher movies depicting teens engaging in ruinous sex and drugs as killer fodder during the height of the AIDS epidemic and the crack crisis in America. So when Synth goes on a rant about Jews or black people or women and says leftists can't say anything because they say everything is political, that's not how that argument works. All art is influenced by politics, but that doesn't mean all art is trying to push a specific agenda, a mistake that he makes constantly. In fairness, Synth Chat brings things up almost as much as he does, though, particularly when it comes to things they can make fun of him for. One of these things is an in-joke in his community about Fuda. Now, I don't want to go and like do a whole tangent.
It's wiener on girls. It's not Japanese style or hentai style. No.
On Fudanari.
I've heard of it before.
Because, you see, Synthetic Man is wildly transphobic. Basically doesn't believe there's any such thing as a passing trans woman, that it's gay to like trans women, that they're physically repulsive. So he hates women with penis.
See, if you were a real man, you wouldn't really care about this argument because anything I want to stick my dick in is feminine and a girl. Because I'm a real man. So if I want to put my dick in a fucking woman, that's a woman. If I want to put my dick in a trans woman, that's a woman. If I want to put my dick in a femboy, that's a woman. And I've talked about this before. But some femboys are more women than women because women don't try anymore. They wear blue jeans and they burp and fart. But these fucking femboys, man, they stockings and perfume. It's crazy. They'll even eat a diet that makes them a soy diet to make them more feminine. So philosophically, who's the real woman? I believe that's a quote from Socrates. So
you'd think. Unless it's an anime.
My experience with seeing women's cruelty, what made me food a pill.
Can it be?
Bro, I don't even know. It definitely is some kind of weird psychological damage. Because it's like, it weirdly also combines with my strange fascination with eugenics. Again, like food is...
We already saw this clip, but...
something that really only works in anime. There's many fetishes that only work in anime. That's why, like, autists, weebs, whatever, always say 2D is better than 3D. There's a lot of ideas. Like, femboys are another one where it's like, if you see, like, real feminine men trying to be femboys, it's repulsive to any straight person.
Okay.
No matter how feminine they try to appear to be.
You know, it's so funny because, like, legitimately looking at two gay guys kissing is, like, kind of yucky to me. Right? Because I'm not gay. There's nothing wrong with it. But I look at that and go, oh, that's not for me. Like, I wish I was into it. It would increase my dating pool, but what are you going to do? But when he uses the word repulsive, he's trying to be disrespectful. He's not like, that's not for me. Because I find it a little yucky. I would potentially use the word repulsed. No, I wouldn't, because it's too much. Too harsh. But he's trying to say, like, oh, not only is it not for me, but it's degenerate and wrong. By the way, guys, I jerk off constantly. I have a porn addiction. So who's the real degenerate, right? That's pretty much him, in a nutshell.
The best they can accomplish is with filters on photos, but whenever you see video, it's never enough.
Why are you looking at videos, dog? What the fuck?
There's gonna be a primal part of your brain that still knows it's a man. You know what I mean? But with anime, you can make anything look like anything.
Okay.
Husky, I said this earlier.
It sounds like he's disappointed that trans women aren't more passable in his mind. Does it not communicate that to you, or what?
Earlier this stream, some fetishes are meant for only fiction. Okay.
Oh,
I'm sure in
I'm just supposed to imagine them. They're not supposed to be in real life.
I don't know. Anime, I've said it a million times, anime can make almost anything appealing. That's the problem with anime. Anime is unintentionally helping the globalist agenda by being an art style that can manipulate the minds of the at least slightly autistic. You know, which I may be. That's what I'll say.
Oh shit, he's self-diagnosing too. He's clicking every box. Holy fuck. He's a goddamn leftist.
On this matter.
Because of what he cites to be a porn addiction, Synth apparently does find trans people attractive just when they're anime girls with big cocks. Like, whatever floats your boat, dude.
It's not the cock that's the problem. It's that they look like boys.
Okay.
Dude, as long as it's not
That's
lolly
his
shit
argument.
and nobody's getting hurt, knock yourself out. I don't give a fuck. But if you're going to say that Futanari isn't trans, you're definitely wrong.
Oh, you're not a big fan of short stack goblins, bud?
Trans is anything outside of cisgender. The Fuda stuff is a point his chat is constantly making fun of him for. And like, everything he says is kind of just cope that he got drunk once and admitting to liking Fuda muscle mommies.
I mean, yeah, I'm a coomer, but like, I don't even fuck.
Wait, he likes the Fuda muscle mommies? That's like next level. That's not just like in like, you know, anime trans stuff. That's liking masculine. That's interesting.
Really have a waifu. He'll definitely grill me on the Fuda question. Well, that could be entertaining. I don't really care. Like, what do you expect me to say? It's just like, I'm a coomer. What do you want from me? Openly have waifu? You're a zoomer.
It's interesting. All he has to do is meme, and then everybody's like, "Yeah, I guess that's funny." Like, what do you mean, dude? Aren't you a degenerate? Like, based on your own logic?
Bud. I was just joking. I don't have a waifu, and also plenty of millennials have waifus. You fucking whatever the opposite of an internet person is. I don't know. Third world shit skin. I'm kidding. People are really gonna think I'm racist if I keep going there.
I'm pretty sure you are racist. I mean, I like edgy jokes, but I like to make it clear that I do not want like an edgy audience that's hateful. You know, I guess I like a little more conservative-leaning jokes and more progressive-leaning politics. So this guy just seems to hate groups of people for their existence and pretends he's not racist.
Mr. Thanks for 20 pesos. Griffin.
Well, I don't think that he thinks he's racist because I think that he's convinced that he's right. So if he's right, then he can't be racist because racism is bad. So that's probably where his mind's at. But he is racist.
Thinks Poison is a Fuda you like. I think technically she's a she-male, so that would make her a man with, you know, extensive surgery, like a Brazilian.
Well, I mean, that's a dated term, but
prune, basically. I don't think there's very few canonical Fudas in fiction.
Real quick, one other point. It should not surprise you by now that Synth is like crazy racist. Despite the fact
really?
that he did this very scientific poll to prove, specifically to me, like by name, that his chat couldn't be racist because they aren't all white.
And I wanted to say I would shoot.
Yeah, because black people, Hispanic people definitely aren't racist. Have you ever talked to a Cuban person? Not even trying to be that guy. Because everybody has the capacity to be racist. Mostly, again, it's mostly men. That's my opinion. But like, you guys remember the Stop Asian Hate narrative? That kind of ended because they found out that most of the people like attacking Asians were not white. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say. It doesn't speak to the inherent existence of any group of people, but that does seem to be the case statistically. There was disproportionately more crimes from, I think it was black people towards Asian people. Again, that's not like black people aren't inherently bad or anything. That just happened to be the statistic. And it seemed like that kind of killed the Stop Asian Hate narrative because that was a time where the BLM was very popular. So, yeah, every group of people has the capacity and ability to be racist. So.
Myself before I save a crimer. All right. See, this is what I'm saying. Like, in Game Sense is Indian, so this is not like some white guy being like, again, for the lurking leftists. This is an Indian saying this. Okay, so
yeah, Cuban people can be very racist too. Cuban people tend to be very conservative too. So
if you're thinking like, oh, only white people are racist or whatever, no, I have a very diverse chat. In fact, if there's any lurking left,
but doesn't that just prove that he's racist? What?
He's in here. Let's do a
Smart Cuban count for sure.
Poll right here. Are you? Hold on.
I mean, honestly, white people might be the least racist group of people, and I only say that because we're the old. It seems like white people are held to we're called out more for our racism, and I understand why historically, but you know, maybe call everybody out for racist stuff. Just saying.
It's been a while since I've done a racial poll. Are you white? There you go. So
I'm sure everybody's going to answer correctly. Yes, I am white.
Here you go. So all lurking leftist watch as my audience is more diverse than any bread tuber. Get shocked. Be about to be blown away at your own because I know you're lurking.
This is it's so interesting that he believes that this is going to prove people are apparently very honest in his chat and his opinion.
Especially a certain troon who's making a
okay, that's a transphobic slur.
hit piece on me.
Okay. Oh, is that who this person is? Oh, I guess, yeah, I mean, that makes sense. They are trans. I'm assuming they're referring to this person, Dead Domain. So, which, by the way, the video is very good. So
make sure to get this for the video.
This is so good. This is so good. You want to see how he constantly contradicts himself? Buckle up. You might think that's not how polls work. You're going to give an audience an end goal you want them to meet, and then
yeah, well, I've never seen a white person online say they were black just to say the N-word, so
they meet it, shockingly enough. Well, not only is there basically no way to do an accurate poll like this in this setting, but people who aren't white can be racist too, as evidenced by something that happened in another stream where a Mexican fan of his started posting anti-Semitic memes in the chat. So he even has fans in other countries and acknowledges that they're also racist.
Just some guy in chat who's just talking about JQ shit out of nowhere. How many people in this chat just
people probably know this, but JQ is like Jewish question, so it's like proposing it's anti-Semitic stuff basically.
Come here to fucking get on the soapbox. We know Klaus Mystery. Klaus Mystery. I should figure out how much a Mexican peso is worth, and
it's like 20 pesos to $1.
And as for being not racist, Synth did this poll to show he's not racist. On the exact same stream, he said this shit.
The whole point of the race shit is for the divide of the white man. I don't think they really needed the help, though. I don't think the white man has ever stood with each other. We would also have to count the light Hispanics if we're counting Italians due to Spain. No, Hispanics are mixed with native South Americans, though. Or I guess Mexico is technically North America. That is a completely different ethnicity. Some of the dark Italians, I'm sure, are mixed with North African, but that's not the entire race.
Who the fuck has these conversations or even thinks about what groups are mixed with what group?
Hispanics are an entire race of mutts, quite literally an entire race of mutts.
Now, that's not where this little polling...
I just find it so interesting that this guy talks about anything genetically, anything. Look at him and listen to him. There's nothing to be proud of. Like, I'm not to be an asshole, I could kind of get it if somebody is racist, if they look or they're exceptional at something. Like, I could understand a racist person that's like, look at me, I'm fucking tall, I'm strong, I'm intelligent, I'm this and that. But this guy is fucking dumb as dog shit. And I think that he is that way, and he acknowledges. I think part of his mentality is like, well, I should be smart, but basically I've been cucked by the Jews. Like, I think that's his legitimate argument. And it's like, it's a victim complex. Like, he would have been smarter, he would have been better if it wasn't for groups of people taking that away from him. But it's like, I don't understand the foundation of this, because you're such a fucking beta. I don't get it.
Saga ends because in another stream, when his chat was pestering him about being Aryan Chads or whatever the fuck, he talks about if he did a poll, half of them would lie.
Aryan is not a meme. Aryan is not a meme. You motherfuckers aren't even blonde hair, blue-eyed anyway. If I did a poll, half of you would fucking lie. And as
not my audience,
a bunch of people have already told you, I know, the real Aryans weren't even German.
So not only does he acknowledge that his chat lies during polls, but also that
that he likes to look at anime polls on women.
White people can be racist. So good job, I guess, at proving nothing but your own ineptitude in this case.
Make sure to get this for the video.
Like, the dude can't not contradict himself. From just that little interaction, you might get the idea that Synth isn't very smart. I'm not saying that.
He's not. He's a fucking moron.
I'm not gonna say that.
I am. He's stupid as shit.
Somebody else might say it. I'm not going to.
Remember,
I'm not actually asserting anything here. Just someone out there might. But to that point, I'd recommend looking at this part where he has his friend on the stream and brings up a thought experiment. See, the next part has it all. Him not being good at games, him being wildly racist, and him contradicting himself.
Sounds like a Papa Gut stream.
Well, how would you feel if you hadn't eaten breakfast this morning?
What the hell is this?
I never eat breakfast.
What?
Right, but how would you feel if you hadn't eaten breakfast? Or how would you feel if you had, since you don't eat breakfast?
Kobe, what are you trying to get at right now? Just fucking spit it out.
Oh my god, this is I'm DSPing this so hard, but it's partially because you're distracting me with. Look at my drive jacket.
I genuinely don't know what the fuck you're talking about. How would I feel if I ate breakfast?
Okay, the whole point is it's based on a psychological experiment. Who was it in chat who was talking about it last time?
What the hell is he talking about? I mean, technically, breakfast is breaking your fast for the day, so you have to always eat breakfast because it's just your first meal of the day. We usually associate it with like a morning food, though. But like, what the fuck is he talking about?
Was it Bisky? I don't know. He was describing it. It's based on a psychological experiment where basically can't conceptualize. Well, they can't conceptualize multiple things. They can't really imagine an alternate past or future, or imagine the future, and they also don't have sympathy or empathy. And it's basically just.
Oh, he's talking about like a thought. He's talking about a thought experiment, and he's talking about how there are some people who are incapable of engaging with hypotheticals. So it's like, did you eat breakfast this morning? Yeah. Oh, what would happen if you didn't? Like, what, in an alternate world, if you didn't eat breakfast, what would you feel? Like, oh, I'd probably be hungry, right? So that would be the answer. And if you can answer that question, there's a much higher chance that you're able to engage in like a hypothetical. That's, I think, is what he's talking about. It's not a particularly, it's okay, cool. That blow his mind with that? I don't understand.
It's an analysis of criminals.
Unsurprisingly,
What?
this little thought experiment originated on a 4chan thread. This is nothing but black people stupid memes, which is how it spread online, and probably how Synth knows about it. It's also, I cannot stress this enough, not how IQ works. It won't surprise you to know this originated on 4chan as a racist way to say black prisoners basically don't have object permanence. There's literally no proof this experiment ever happened outside of this one 4chan post, so at most it should be taken as probably fake. However, Synthetic Man...
Object permanence is the understanding that objects and people continue to exist even when they are not invisible, heard, or touched. Oh, would that communicate object permanence, having a conversation? I thought it was engaging in a hypothetical. But like, yeah, sure, those exist. Things exist even if you're not engaging with them, I guess, right?
Thinks it's surefire proof of how to tell who's smart.
It's such an interesting concept. Like, really thinking about it sometimes fucks me up. Because I'm like, I'll see somebody sometimes, I'm like, that person is me. Like, we've gone through two somewhat unique experiences, and like, we've come to this point at the same time in life. Like, what a fucking wild thought. It's so weird to like think about that. Like, it's just so bizarre.
And who's not. To ask them a hypothetical question, if they're unable to grasp that hypothetical, they're an idiot. And then his friend says this.
Like, basically, dumb people can't conceptualize hypotheticals. Like that's.
I just gave the example of you never conceiving the idea of mine and Devin's hypotheticals.
No, I understand the hypotheticals, and I do play along.
You bitch and moan all the time.
What are you talking about? Name an example.
The first thing that popped in my head, I don't know why, but when we were moving shit to when you still lived at your old house, we were moving shit to your storage locker, and Devin and I asked you a hypothetical. We're like, Devin, Kobe, what would you do if right now a plane crashed, like right beside you? And you're like, I don't know, I would just it would crash, I guess. I was like,
I can't stand your lies. I can't stand them. Your lies. You lie like you breathe.
Now, this could be a friend just making up a story, but...
Could be him sensationalizing a story, but also Synthetic Man is stupid, so it's just fun.
I kind of doubt it. The specifics are too off the cuff, plus Synth has attested many times to having memory problems. At any rate, I believe
Probably a poor diet choice, because I'm like overweight and I have issues with my diet, and they're actually getting better, and I've noticed my memory has gone better, so that's pretty cool.
Friend story way more than just random 4chan post. But the point here is that Synth is ready to believe the 4chan post was an entirely real thing, a real way to determine people as being mentally inferior, literally eugenics, and then it applies to him too. Now, again, this could well be a fake story from his friend, but judging by Synth's reaction, his insecurity, which you already know about, and the way he kind of just quickly dropped the subject and moved the fuck on, I kind of doubt it's fake.
Fuck.
You'll notice plenty more little hypocritical points for Synthetic Man throughout, but I want to start here to really hopefully give you a sense of who he is now. We will go more into the depth of his radicalization.
I mean, I think I know who he is now. He's a fucking loser.
In his beliefs, including the provably false places he gets his...
Yeah, maybe a lack of breakfast. Yeah, maybe a little less smart.
...evidence for his beliefs from later. And as I'll show, these aspects of Synthetic Man, more than any opinions on gaming and wokeness, are what seem to draw his most fervent fans. The ones that identify with his life, the way he chooses to live, and who he chooses to blame for all the problems in the world.
Well, that's one of the things. Like, if you ever put all these people in a room together, you'd realize like how much of a joke they really are.
This reflexive, reactionary streak of lashing out at the slightest perceived infractions of wokeness, existent or not, is why people congregate in places like Kiwi Farms and 4chan, and on Synthetic Man's channel. But since channel wasn't always such an open cesspit where his chatters felt confident making allusions to Moist Critical being sexually assaulted by N-words.
Sorry. Okay, incredible.
Synthetic himself may have had some questionable and borderline extremist beliefs, but the work he was doing started very differently. In fact, when he started his channel 3 or 4 years ago, he seemed like an entirely different person. And
he got online brain rotted, baby.
And a much happier one, too.
Fuck.
In 2020, Synthetic Man said about creating a YouTube channel that, in his words, was mostly meant to review current games and shine a spotlight on games he enjoyed and wanted to show to more people. This is evidenced by the first few videos remaining on the channel, a video of the Resident Evil 3 remake, and a video talking about 10 games he wished were more acknowledged.
On this site made a top 10 list, there would be countless games worth your time left unmentioned. Really, 10 doesn't even do a list like this justice, so don't think of this as the definitive 10 games that you refuse to play. These are just the 10 best games I've played that didn't get the praise, attention, or copies sold that they deserve.
He just wanted to be a gamer, and that didn't really work out, so he got angry at the world, because obviously it's the world's fault that he's shitty at making the content that he wanted to make. And there we are.
Going back to these videos, there is a stark difference in his style, presentation, and attitude. While there are minor hints towards some transgressive attitudes, like complaining about Jill being too much of a girl boss, they are mostly run-of-the-mill YouTube videos, and also videos that for a new YouTube channel only did okay in terms of views. Then he did a few unscripted videos ranting about The Last of Us, Pokemon, and a video titled Gaming is Dying, You Are Killing It, featuring the faces of other YouTube critics like Stephanie Sterling. And these are where his modern persona originates. Synthetic Man has spoken many times about how he doesn't script his videos, he talks off the cuff, and
Same here, dude.
I talk off the cuff.
as a result, records what he calls rants about certain topics. What started his content likely meant to...
Well, there's probably part of him that liked doing that because it's easier. It's easier to not make a script. It's easier to not do research, right? Obviously. And so he probably started enjoying that aspect of it. The problem is I don't think that he's smart enough to... Well, I guess it's working for him, kind of. But... I mean, he doesn't seem to have anything meaningful to say. It's always the same thing over and over and over again, just whinging about fucking wokeness. It's so stupid. There's nothing profound about it. He's not saying anything intelligent. Nobody's going, oh, yeah, that's smart. He's just talking. It's fucking insane.
To pad his output until he could put together more thoughtful videos he enjoyed and started the channel for, such as a retrospective series. These intensely negative rants quickly became his most popular content. Just compare the views between retrospectives and rants released around the same times, like the Demon Soul and Spyro retrospectives not cracking 20,000 views, while the Gaming is Dying rant is over 400,000 after 4 years. This would become a trend, to the point that it's been over a year since his last video that wasn't a review on a recent game, commentary on an industry event, or just ranting about something dying. And he's always talking on stream about eventually getting to various ideas for videos that just never materialize. If you go back to the beginning and watch his videos, you also see how frustrating this experience was for him.
Well, you guys asked for it. You want another rant? I'll give you another fucking rant. You gamers are addicts, and you would buy the shit anyway, because you can't be fucking bothered to go play some old games. Like, that's all it is at the end of the day. That's why I started this channel, was I just wanted to talk about old games that I thought people should play, right? That was it. That's literally why my old video titles are why you should play, you know? Even if nobody clicks on that and nobody cares. Because people don't want to hear game suggestions, right? The gaming audience is...
I mean, people would if so there was from a person that mattered or had some kind of credibility, but this guy sucks at games, so...
Pretty much just divided into two categories. People who want to hear somebody complain...
Like, there are people who suck at games, but they seem to be very knowledgeable on game lore. And those are people that people would still want to hear and, like, listen to and be like, oh, that's interesting. Like, let's see what you have to say about that. But he's not good at games. He has no particularly interesting insight about games, so, like, that's where he's coming from here.
Which, I guess, is what I'm doing right now.
What the fuck
and
is
then people just want to hear, you know, someone jerking off and, like, getting hyped about whatever the new big thing is. I just, in my Spyro video, which you guys didn't fucking watch, some of you, you know,
I mean, one of the reasons is because old games don't age well. Most of them aren't that good. And I hate to say it, but I kind of realized that when I replayed God of War, like quite literally and unironically, my favorite game series, the first few God of Wars, they're not really that good. And like, they're not bad. They're still solid. Like, they're playable nowadays, but like, they're really not, they don't age amazingly. Like, the reality is, for all its flaws, God of War 2018 is probably the best God of War to ever have been released. Certainly from a story perspective, because it's fleshed out better and it's more consistent than the old games, which there are like 7 or so of the old games, so the story gets fucking wonky as fuck. And then gameplay-wise, it's more refined. It's not perfect. I think Ragnarok's gameplay is better, but the story from 2018 is better. And especially since it also has the old content to call back upon, it can be a little picky and choosy about what it does and doesn't decide to acknowledge, to retcon some stuff. And it told a somewhat new story about a character. And it resonates additionally because, like, especially if I was young when I played the original God of Wars and angry, and I'm older and more reserved and more mature, it appeals to that as well, right? But, like, you know, playing through the original God of Wars, and I love them, and it took a while, but like, they're not as good. Like, they're not as fun. I genuinely found myself having more fun or of playing the newer games, because they just age better. The mechanics are a little better. The challenges are a little bit less. They're more fair. You know, they feel better, and that's just kind of a reality. And like even God of War 3, where I do think that it kind of fucked the story in a particular way. At the same time, like it was more fun than probably playing God of War even 2. Like it is more fun feeling, even when I think that it lacks in certain areas. So yeah, man, old games, it's hard to get new audiences to play them because they're just not really as good, unfortunately. A lot of what's keeping you going is nostalgia, which is not necessarily bad. But like Classic WoW came out, not that good. Doesn't hold up. It's not a horrible game. People still play it, but that's why something like Season of Discovery is interesting, because it modernizes the game, but it maintains that classic feel. And so that's just kind of a reality. Newer games are taking adjustment, but like once you start to really get into them, like they're fantastic. I mean, I think that Wukong game is phenomenal. It's insane, but it took some adjusting. I had to change some of the way that I looked at video games, and some of the, you know, just it's little weird things that probably hard to communicate, but they're different. It's just a different thing. So, you know, yeah.
I know some of you watched it. Those of you who commented, you know, love you guys. But everyone else, you didn't fucking care because,
what the fuck am I supposed to do with this
as I've said before, you don't want to hear game recommendations. You just want to hear someone shit on something or somebody hype something up coming out new.
Synthetic
Yeah, so why'd you keep doing that?
Man began his channel to make gaming videos and seemed genuinely interested in playing and talking about the games he loved from his childhood, not from a point of view of elitism or decrying wokeness, just because he genuinely loved games. Despite his lack of overall knowledge about games, I do genuinely believe that he at least loves games, or at least his nostalgic memories of the ones he loves. I believe he has an abiding appreciation for games from his childhood like Crash, Spyro, Darksiders, and others. Yet, he also quickly realized it wasn't enough to stand out in a crowded content landscape, or at least that his audience reacted more positively to content where he was complaining or getting angry.
This is not a persona I'm putting on. This is legitimately what I think. Unlike channels like Angry Joe, I have never had to fake anger for a video. I actually used to review some older games I'd never played before at people's request or on Patreon. Honestly, I just couldn't stand to do that anymore after a certain point. My passion for YouTube has dwindled despite my increasing success.
What are you, liberal? Oh, my passion's gone.
So now I pretty much only make videos I want to.
Yeah, I mean, that explains why people started God of War 2018 and not God of War 1. It's a terrible thing to say, bro, because, like, I love God of War games. Like, I'm not somebody that's, like, a God of War, original God of War hater. And it takes you a while to come to the conclusion, but it's just, the original God of Wars don't hold up that. Like, I would like to see a remake. I would unironically like to see a God of War remake that, that has you play through a more modernized feel, potentially playing as modern Kratos that has to go back in time, and this would be fucking awesome to me, make the decision whether to do everything the same, which he regrets doing, to maybe even save his own old family, or to do all the same horrible things that he did, relive that trauma, but this way he gets to meet his wife, and he gets to have Atreus. You know, and that could be a very interesting way to remake the old games without making them just complete rehashes. And I think that would be phenomenal story-wise to go through that conflict. But that'd be great. But in my opinion, 2018 really is like the best God of War that was ever. It's just story-wise, it's so good
to make for one reason or another. But that said, there certainly is a lot of credence to this criticism. There's certainly been many times that I've wanted to talk about a game, but I feel like I couldn't because I know nobody would watch it. Now, you might believe otherwise, but I have the numbers to back it up. It is certainly much less successful.
Yeah, this guy's all the audience captured. He's gonna spiral. That's really. I mean, it's good to listen to your audience, and like I'll do things that my audience likes that I might not necessarily like. Like the Mama Max video, I did that. I didn't necessarily care. It was a little interesting, but like people were saying to me in Discord, and it's like that's, you know, people want to see that, and it's like, okay, I'll do it, but I don't shy away from things I like to do just because the views might be bad. Like it doesn't really matter. Like I don't really care. You know, it's always a good experiment to kind of do something different. Some people might like it, some people might not. It's good to, like, you know, every failure is feedback. So even if it doesn't do as well, I get feedback from it. And sometimes I've been surprised. I'll do something that I think people will think is bad, and like people will like it. I'm like, oh shit, this is actually kind of interesting, you know? Like we had some downtime, and I did like the Caleb Hammer video where I watched about that guy. I liked that. It was fun. It was different. It was a little less serious. It didn't do well at first, but then like after a week, it like was one of my best performing videos. You know, so you kind of want to do more than that. You don't want to just get caught into doing one type of content.
Successful than my lazier videos like these TV show reviews I've been doing this year. Which kind of brings me to another side point. I don't really consider this as a criticism, this is just a suggestion, but a lot of you seem to want me to cover any pop culture, especially really shitty, woke TV shows or movies. And I understand why. I clearly have a anti-SJW audience, whatever you want to call that, right? I'm not surprised by it all. Obviously, in my first dozen videos on my channel, I made those two Last of Us 2 shit posts.
And here's a point that I absolutely understand Synth and what he's been through. I started my channel around the same time with a similar goal. Occasional video essays and explorations of forgotten games. I didn't do retrospectives so much as in-depth documentaries where I interviewed game developers with interesting stories to tell, and polished video essays dissecting the themes of games. But like Synth, I didn't get much traction because it is a very crowded space. I wasn't able to make this a
I mean, that makes perfect sense.
full-time job until I started making political content and intensely researched deep dives. And
Did this person get popular in like 2020? Because that would make the most sense. Because that's like where I got popular too, and I did some political-ish content too. So now I do more drama content. It's fun.
on the now rare occasion I might make a gaming video, the views are absolutely paltry compared to even the stream highlight videos I throw out to pad views in between bigger projects. Like, the views I get for one of my shooter ranking videos where I play through Xbox 360 era shooters and rank them all are literally not even worth the effort I put into them. But I love doing them, so I kind of just suck it up and put them out for the people who do want to watch those.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes the lower, like the worst viewed videos can still be really good for your audience that might really like it. Some people like some types of stuff. You don't always have to get a lot of views to have a successful video. Sometimes, you know, your closer audience might enjoy something more. So
I understand the grind. And I understand how demoralizing it can be to be excited for a video, to put a lot of time, effort, and passion into it, and then have it fail.
Can I do something?
But on YouTube, you don't always get to pick your audience so much as your audience finds you, and you have to choose to follow them or not. Which brings me to the Syncells, the joking name his fans go by. His fans.
I mean, you could still make a. I could pin posts. So look at that. Sorry, I'm in the chat. I pinned the. I never thought to pin the video that I'm watching in the pin if you want to watch that instead. Sorry. Anyways, it'll be in the description if you're watching it afterwards. Yeah, I mean, you can choose not to necessarily go into the direction that some people have found you for. You know, you could look at it as a new opportunity, or you could be like, no, I'm not going to go in that direction. It's really up to you. You might not be as successful as a content creator, but you know.
Fans come in a few flavors, with some being casual Gamergate types or 20, 30-somethings looking for a place to say slurs they could say in middle school and reminisce about
Well, I guess you could just have two channels where you have a passion channel and hope that that can grow by itself. But
a time when
or you just do them all on the same channel, whatever.
360 games were all the rage. I'm willing to bet a sizable portion of his base are people like this, or even fans of adjacent channels like.
I feel like a lot of people in Synthetic Man's audience suck at video games, and they just whinge and fucking cry, bitch, and moan about it because they miss the old stuff, because they miss the old days, and they don't really understand the difference between those two things, and they haven't grown up yet. Like, again, when I went back and played the classic WoW, the actual classic, it was fun and it did tickle the nostalgia, but then you realize, like, I'm a grown man and I might have the time to play, but I don't want to spend the time to play like I used to play. I don't have 12 hours a day to play. I don't enjoy that. I want to be able to play a game for maybe 2 or 3 hours a day, and then maybe even take a break for a few days, or maybe even take a week off and not really get set so far, drastically far behind, you know. And then also, Classic WoW is significantly easier than this game, than like modern WoW. People might cry about that, but it is an easier game. The difficulty is in the time you have to spend and not the actual skill you have to exert. That's just a reality of the situation. You know, and then you could obviously do everything in this game, Live WoW, on the easier modes and get it all done, and that's cool. But like, if you want to play the real game, in my opinion, you do like the mythic level stuff, and that's the hard level stuff. And like, so it appeals to people, and those are on a micro level, which is like, you know, using your abilities, how to use them, positioning, all that. It's much more difficult than a game that came out 20 years ago. So
like Nerdrotic or The Quartering. A lot of people just seem to yearn for a less woke time, perpetually stuck in a high schooler state of mind and looking for a place where they can tell edgy jokes without worrying about offending the leftist woke tards or whatever. These people tend to identify with Synth on some level, or at least agree with his more milquetoast takes on things like the gaming industry. But what about his more hardcore fans? Synth himself has admitted to browsing 4chan threads and Kiwi Farms boards before, so it shouldn't surprise you that some of his fan base congregate in similar areas. What's interesting here is that they gather out of a genuine fandom, it seems, and Synthetic Man has made no attempts to make a fan Discord or website of his own, despite plenty of people asking in the comments. He has professed to be incredibly lazy, a point we will talk about more, But that leads to this odd balance where he has a loyal audience, but doesn't want to do anything to maintain them. In fact, he kind of seems to hate them, actually. But
That's funny. I mean, I have the Discord. It's really, I mean, you only get access to it, like, and you can subscribe to it, and it'll give you, like, alerts when I'm streaming, but it's mostly just for people, for my closer fans who want to chat, and you have to have the YouTube membership in order to join, which has been pretty cool. It stays pretty casual. There's usually no riff-raff in there. And if there is, I'll just ban somebody. I don't really give a shit, you know what I mean? But they're usually pretty good, so I like that.
Begrudgingly accepting their super chats out of obligation at this point. Instead, the fans have created their own private Discord.
Yeah, older games waste a lot of time, sometimes on purpose. Yeah, for sure. Like, WoW, it's so funny because WoW is considered one of, like, the fucking baby games back in the day, baby MMOs, because there was significantly less time needed to be invested into that game than other MMOs at the time, you know? You know, oh, you can get max level in only, like, 200 hours? That's fucking ridiculous. Which is the truth. It's just so funny.
Both of which I mean.
But now you have people that like finish Ragnaros the game's released. They figured out how to get to level 60 and like within a week they've hit level 60 and downed Ragnaros on multiple characters because it's just so easy. It's an easy game now. So
managed to get into, and have additional gatherings in places like Kiwi Farms, a site well known for gathering private information to lead harassment and doxing campaigns. The Discord is filled with the same kind of detached cynicism and I'm too cool to care about anything, open racism and bigotry you will see anywhere on 4chan. Hardly a conversation that goes by that doesn't throw in a random slur, but it's a kind of hollow hate that just doesn't feel genuine. Their heart isn't in it. His Discord might talk about Uncle T and Uncle A, barely coded names for Adolf Hitler and Ted Kaczynski.
Who the fuck is Ted Kaczynski? You know, I don't even think I want to know.
But this is just another empty corner of the internet for seething, sad teenagers and college dropouts to come together and vent their frustrations to blame anyone but themselves for their problems in life. The Kiwi Farms thread, however, is
Soy Boys
particularly interesting because it gives a look into just how close Synthetic is to the mentality of his fanbase. See, they don't see Synthetic Man as some kind of ideological leader. They see him as a loser just like them. They don't regard him with much respect, and many people barely seem to even like him. They simply
damn, they just making fun of him because it's like making fun of themselves, huh? That's fucking crazy.
Follow and goad him because they find his meltdowns and conspiracy rants entertaining.
That's funny.
Some might identify and like him a bit more.
So I'm the average Synthetic Man enjoyer. Wow, the Unabomber. I don't really know too much about the Unabomber. Was it like a racist thing? Incredible.
Than that, but from what I saw, it seems like his fanbase doesn't find his
incredibly bad, obviously,
personality entertaining so much as the meltdowns they can push him into. I read over 100 pages of the Kiwi Farms thread, and all I really found was that Synthetic Man's most passionate fans think he's an autistic loser who's bad at video games.
Well, they might be smarter than I thought, huh?
They make fun of him for the Fuda and Lolly stuff they speculate he takes part in. They openly say he's bad at any games that aren't for kids, and that despite having a gaming channel, he doesn't seem to actually have played many games. I'm sure it's all meant to be in good fun in their twisted way, but they also note that he can't take jokes, is prone to melting down, and other flaws they poke at alongside, calling him a Zoomer, despite his open hatred of Zoomers for whatever arbitrary reason.
The hell's a Zoomer? What age is a Zoomer considered? Because he's like a millennial, isn't he?
And they also constantly insult his gaming abilities and choices in games. Yet many stick around because they themselves appreciate how doomer and black-pilled he is. They appreciate how real he is for calling out Jewish people and calling out wokeness and not being another shill in the game industry. But way back when he was first getting started, his base takes and veiled conspiracies and slightly edgy jokes were what got their attention to begin with. They encouraged him in a very real way. They made Synthetic Man the channel he would become. They drove him through ever-mounting stages of constant cynicism and negativity, drawing his conspiracist and bigoted impulses out into the public for their own edification. Maybe not his entire audience, but to these folks, Synth is a lolcow. They don't care about his mental.
It's true.
No, they don't care about whatever problems he has.
I also don't care about those things on him, so.
Dude, I could. I mean, I probably made more money this stream than any other stream by far.
Crazy.
I could drink a little bit more, but not much, because I'm already like fucking blasted. You know, I'm sure there's other stuff.
Oh, Synthetic Man getting ready to drive, hon.
Names for drinking, but I'm not into the culture, so whatever. Fuck. Okay, I am gonna pee. I'll drink a little bit more, just because I think that's what you guys want to see at this point. But I'll be back. I do need to pee again.
He has been pushed into being more radical by the worst parts of his audience, which in turn spreads unfounded conspiracies to members of his audience that might just be following or watching because they enjoy a sense of edgy humor. So when there's a black person or woman on screen and Synth freaks out, it's never just him alone, but his chat and viewers typing in thinly veiled calls for violence.
Oh my god, when I think of World of Warcraft, that's what I think of. Oh. Nothing out of the ordinary here. This is
I'm not understanding.
normal. Just keep seeing it over and over again, and it's normal. I mean, it's clear that's what works on normies. They should just start showing media of mutilating, like, maybe I should be careful about how I say this, but I really do mean it. If they start showing TV shows of, like, encouraging, we'll just say, medical procedures on children.
Like, pretty much any time they type in T something D. This dog whistle began in neo-Nazi circles as TND, the N standing for a racial slur, and no points for guessing which one.
What racial slur ends with a D? I only know the ones that ends with R's. I was trying to think, but okay.
Making up the phrase total blank death, as a now memeified call to kill everyone is part of that group. But you can basically swap out that slur for any others, so you get TTD for trans people, TKD for Jewish people, and more. Just as a quick explainer of what you're seeing now. And so...
Oh, maybe it's the beginning of the words, I don't know.
Is encouraged by these ravenous dipshits in his chat, who
I'm sitting here thinking of all the slurs I know. It'll take too long.
Constantly try to push him to acknowledge events he doesn't want to or engage in rants that he has to censor himself on.
You should talk about women of your past. I'm not talking about women.
I'm not talking about women of my past. I wonder why he wouldn't talk about the women of his past.
Talking about women is a dangerous game.
What women do you think he has to talk about, though?
That's a dangerous game.
What woman does this guy have to talk about?
Because I've made comments. I haven't said horrible things, but I've said some things. I've revealed my power level a couple times. That being said...
He actually said that. The only time somebody can make an anime reference like that and not be a nerd is black people. Because for whatever reason, normal black people like anime, and then the biggest nerds, white nerds like anime too. It is so weird. There's not, I mean, I don't think I've ever met a black person that didn't like anime. And also, while we're on the topic, it seems like Asian people like rap a lot. So what's up with that? So interesting.
There are some based women. It's pretty rare. It's pretty fucking rare, but there are some.
And they very openly want him to continue being more...
I wonder how many OnlyFans this guy subscribes to.
...more radical and even violent with his...
Yeah, that's right. He has his mother. Maybe his mother friend said he was cute one time and that made him feel nice.
...content based on what they say in the Kiwi Farms thread. In turn, I imagine Synth has played a part in taking some of those casual fans and exposing them to his wildly stupid conspiracies, further spreading often outright Nazi talking points and often explicit calls for violence.
In the synthetic regime, everyone would have mandatory test injections.
I do like My Hero Academia. I'm kind of a nerd, dude. Look at my fucking room. Just because I'm fucking muscular and based and fucking shredded doesn't mean that I'm not a nerd, bro. I'm just a regular black guy. You don't understand it. You wouldn't get it, but I'm an honorary black guy. Black women are always telling me how handsome I am, so saying it's kind of true. Don't let my wife hear me talk about this. She'll get fucking pissed off. I'll die.
And well, I would have a bunch of other things I'm not allowed to say, but yeah, that'd be step one. Well, that's not step one. Step one is exterminate all the people destroying society. But yeah,
this all the synthetic man. Is that what you're saying?
I can't say who those people are, but you know, there's a lot of people that need to
black
not
people
exist anymore.
Black people do have good tastes. Like, let's be real. They have good taste in anime. They have good taste in food. I mean, who does? I mean, people make memes and jokes, but who doesn't like watermelon? I'm not even kidding. It's phenomenal.
It's time to make it stop. Nobody says bigotry except subhumans. Literally, people who should be executed. Every single one of them, without exception. They need to face the wall. It's time. Firing squad time now. No, you know what? I'm gonna do what all the claims about World War II. This is what I'm saying. Like, people, they keep saying the pendulum will swing back. It's like the pendulum will swing back when Larry Fink is decapitated on live television.
What the fuck am I supposed to do with
People
this
in his comments and chat will parrot the conspiracies he spreads about the Jews and BlackRock. I've done an entire video about anti-Semitic conspiracy theories that has more research than Synthetic Man or any of his loyal adherents have ever done in their lives, so check that out and you'll be able to recognize why their conspiracies are bullshit right on their faces. And don't worry, we will talk about and debunk the scary conspiracy around BlackRock a little later because it's just so fucking stupid.
What is BlackRock? Is that like the DEI gaming studio or whatever? I guess we'll get to it when we get to it.
Synth is well aware of how much of a cynical doomer he is. He practically wears it as a badge of honor. He distinguishes himself, according to himself, as different from other anti-woke creators because he isn't a shill. He'll always tell the truth. Also, the dude has no self-esteem, like, whatsoever, which is part of why I think he's gathered this group of misanthropes like flies on shit. Because you have all these incredibly vitriolic, hateful people mad at the world and that nobody agrees with them or understands them, and he probably felt like he found his group. It just happens to be a group that he hates and that also seems to hate him. So, 4
Wow. Interesting.
years after starting a channel, failing with his initial premise, and then chasing an audience that has really only repaid him with endless criticism, insults, and prodding, how has this already incredibly insecure, lonely man ended up? I mean, I don't want to put words in his mouth.
Even as a 27-year-old man, my mother still treats me like a child and then wonders why I'm a man-child.
What did I say? What did I say earlier? That this guy's mommy babies him. How did I know? How did I know? Right? So it's a little bit of R's on there. Of course, his mom babies him. His mom treats him like a fucking baby. And his excuse is, well, my mommy treats me like a baby, so there's nothing I can do. This guy's fucking pathetic, dude. Of course his mom fucking... Of course, dude. Of course.
It's kind of just, it's obviously the alcohol is making me say on stream, but I have been thinking about this too much lately, just because I'm 28 years old. Things aren't getting any better.
Tell us about a day in the life of you. A day in the life of me is not exciting. It's not exciting. It's not that far off from being a NEET. It's not that complicated. I haven't had a real job in quite a while. Listen,
Same, man. I'm very fortunate, I'll tell you. He's definitely subscribed to his mom's OnlyFans. Yeah, for sure. If she has one, he definitely is. And what is it? I'll subscribe to just to help him out. But yeah, my life is pretty boring too. I mean, honestly, but I'm happy with it. I'm older now, you know. I know I look like a fat nerd, but like I used to be kind of a man whore and sleep around and fuck around a bunch of girls and have like, you know, my own issues and yada yada yada. And now I'm married and I'm pretty happy, man. Like I'm able to put more energy into like this and my house and just kind of enjoy myself, relax. It's easier for me to make time for the gym, obviously, because I don't do a whole lot of work. And I have a really good work-life balance and stuff, and like I'm chilling, man. I'm very fortunate, you know. So as my life is boring, but it doesn't need to be exciting. I'm at an age where like exciting things in your life are usually not good. You know what I mean? Because I'm just getting older. As you get older, you know, the new exciting thing is like, oh, I had a problem at the doctor. Got to deal with that. You know what I mean? That's where the excitement comes from when you get older. You know, when you're younger, it's like, my birthday, it's exciting. My birthday's not exciting to me. It hasn't been exciting to me since I was like fucking, I don't know, like in my teens, honestly. I don't really care about my birthday. You know? But, yeah.
Some things, I'm not saying to follow my life advice at all. I'm really not, because I'm sort of black-pilled on certain things. And the black pill is not a good way to approach life. It usually just leads to...
Right, because he's supposed to hate blacks, or isn't he? Black people. Love having the boring marriage. I really do. You know, it's not even that boring. Like, my wife and I, like, we have, like, we do stuff pretty often. Like, yesterday, we both went to two family parties. My cousin on my side of the family had a family party, and then her cousin did, too, and we went there, and that was exciting. Tomorrow, we're just going to clean the house and relax a little bit. We're hosting a soup party in a month. We're going to like hang out with our family next month as well. Like we have like those are the exciting parts of the days. It's like, oh yeah, like every week or so, maybe we'll have something kind of interesting we'll do. And then we actually at a point, because you know we both work, but my wife's work is more draining and meaningful. You know, having those days where you just do nothing on the weekends are kind of great. So it's like, oh, we're just gonna clean and fucking rot tomorrow because she's off for the holiday. Do a little cleaning for an hour or so, and then we're just gonna rot, and that's cool. We like that because like we don't want to have a lot going on, right? Like who wants that, right? But we have like our excitement, and we're also getting ready for like our Disney trip in January, which is gonna be fun. So we're getting financially ready for that. Like you know what I mean? Like we have goals that we're working towards, so we're doing pretty well.
To bad things because you need to have some.
I'm 43. I don't have a birthday party. Why? Maybe in 8 years. Yeah, no, I don't either. When we do my birthday, usually I call it our birthday with my wife. Because my wife's birthday is January 2nd, so it's like right at the holidays. So it's kind of sucks for her because you know it's like we just did other holidays. So we'll do for my birthday. We'll go out together and do something fun, which I like. Because again, I don't like gifts. I mean, I'm a fucking guy, and I don't know if this is like a guy thing, but I feel like if I want something, I just get it myself. I don't need somebody to buy it for me. So I'm fine with that. I like getting my wife likes gifts. I like getting her gifts. It makes her happy. You know, me getting gifts is like cool. All right, that's nice. I guess whatever. It's not like big of a deal to me. So
kind of optimism to achieve anything in your life.
For me, I just feel like in normal circumstances, I would probably be married by now. But unfortunately, you know, my life path just didn't happen that way. Now I'm thoroughly fucked in the head. So, you know, it doesn't help that the relationships between men and women are so thoroughly just tattered, frayed. You know, it's in a really bad state because of online dating.
It's really not that bad of a state. It's because men like this don't have fathers that were in their lives and they were coddled by their mother, and they don't know how to fail. Like, do you like talking to women online is not talking to women in general is not easy to do. It's like fucking, you know, once you get good at failure, like then you're you're chilling. You just have to learn how to talk to a girl and be okay if she rejects you, and then you'll be able to get girls. Like, I message tons of girls all the time when I was trying to fuck girls. And then, like, you get to the point where, like, yep, fucking 95% of the time you're going to get rejected, but then you're still going to get it that fucking 5% of the time, man. That's all you got to do. He's so afraid of rejection. So that's really what it is, insecure.
I don't want to talk about it. That's not even the type of thing this video is about right now.
And it's so funny because like these people are betas that are like the state of things that are right now are just impossible for me to. It's a victim complex because he's too afraid. He's too much of a coward to actually try to get a girlfriend. So he's just like, well, the state of the thing is not good, and I couldn't. It's like, yeah, because you're a fucking pussy. That's what it is
right now. But let's just say I'm not nihilistic because life does have purpose, but I can't get that purpose, which is why I'm sad. There you go.
By now, I hope I'm giving a pretty comprehensive idea for the kind of cage Synthetic Man and people like him form for themselves, lashing out at everything over perceived slights until the only thing remaining are other hateful and lonely people like them, spending their limited time on Earth tormenting and mocking each other with these toothless slurs and pointless mind games. For Synth's content aspirations, it also probably
somebody's birthday. Happy birthday.
Explains why he's stagnated so much. He's
exactly. You miss every shot you don't take, baby.
Onto this community that found him, and they got him to perform like a trained monkey, using his skills in editing and video production to dance on command. And now he has no recourse but to keep dancing because they are the only audience who will watch. Despite
kind of true
claiming he's been blacklisted, the odds are that his channel growth has stagnated because he has gained a reputation for being overwhelmingly toxic, racist, and misogynistic.
He's boring. He's just boring. He's somebody that people make fun of. That's pretty much it. It's just a meme.
Like, when these guys are calling you out, that's not good for business.
Bad about reusing enemies. Oh, why is that a problem? I don't know, dude. How about you just stop sharing your shitty opinion? There's an idea.
There is an idea.
Consider your opinion rebutted thoroughly.
I like where this idea is going. Stop sharing your shitty opinion.
Yeah.
The other half of that
I don't know who those guys are, but apparently they're not good, according to this video.
Stagnation probably has something to do with the fact that his channel has very little variety in either the games he streams or what he makes videos on. As I mentioned, he's basically given up any kind of retrospective videos or positive conversations of any kind. Most of his modern game reviews are overwhelmingly negative, and the rest of his content is just ranting or reactions to wokeness and game industry media events, or random games he can double up on content by taking his streams and editing them into videos. Content that even his loyal audience is finding tiresome and phoned in. And hey, I don't begrudge anybody using their own content or reusing it. As I've mentioned, I've done the same thing with my audience to give them something to watch and help with views between bigger or scheduled projects, but your output can't only be that, and you still expect to grow. However, I'd caution you to hesitate with sympathizing too much with Synthetic Man. While he certainly made his own miserable bed and has no choice now but to lie in it, he has made the worst of his situation by using his platform to spread outright lies about Jewish people, black people, COVID, election fraud, conspiracies about elites controlling society, violent rhetoric and threats, and plenty more.
Well, that's all he's really got, huh? Right? So, makes sense.
So now that we know how Synthetic Man thinks, and how he kind of got that way, let's get into what he actually shares about his beliefs. I'm going to start off by addressing the big bad BlackRock conspiracy that he loves to share.
Somebody in the chat just said that BlackRock is a one gaming company that basically owns other gaming companies. Maybe. I don't have no idea.
Usually just makes assertions about BlackRock funding games specifically to a variety of ends, all driven by, according to him, elites trying to control society.
This is just random fucking ethnicities all together. Like,
well, who cares?
Fucking the globalism is too goddamn... Arrived the house right, thanks to $2. Alex Jones is right about the globals, absolutely. It depends on how the homosexual romance is handled. If it is like a major part of the main story, like mandatory cutscene, yeah, I mean, I would say it almost certainly was made for propaganda purposes. When you know the BlackRock exists, and you know their social credit score, ESG, it exists, and they fund companies that put woke shit in, then obviously it's all going to seem unnatural. They gave into the corporate funding, and now the game's going to bomb. I don't want to get too edgy in this video at the risk of getting banned, but at what point do we as a collective have to realize that voting with our wallet is not enough because these investment firms effectively have unlimited money, especially if they're getting...
It's so interesting because generally speaking, the reason that there's more representation in game, or rather, the reason why there's so much strings attached to making games nowadays is really because of all the massive lawsuits that we destroyed, like hit companies hard like Activision because of World of Warcraft, and even like Riot for League of Legends. And so investors are just not feeling super duper confident about investing unless they're going to adhere to particular standards that are more sensitive to people, because, like, again, at Blizzard, a woman took her own life because she had revenge porn leaked around at the company because she was like dating a manager, and then he like leaked revenge porn, and it's like yeah, if you're gonna put money into a game, you're gonna want to make sure that like shit like that doesn't happen, because that could be fucking insane. Does it get annoying sometimes? I guess, but like God of War, they worked with like one of these DEI people. Like it doesn't matter. It's not gonna destroy the game in every instance. Sometimes it's just fucking slop that they're just pumping out. I mean, we now have machines of slop being pumped out. That's a bigger issue than the inclusivity in some video games.
Getting that money from Microsoft, and yes, Microsoft is one of the biggest contributors to BlackRock, or if they're getting that money directly from the government, which the Canadian government has funded many woke games at this point.
The BlackRock elite stuff kind of blurs together with the anti-Semitism stuff, which I will get to in a minute, but his whole thought process is very obviously driven by either Alex
The Jews must be doing pretty well if everybody's talking shit about him, am I right?
Jones or people close to Jones, like Paul Joseph Watson, both of whom Synth has admitted to agreeing with and getting information from.
This is the most obvious fucking, like, Fed setup to kill Trump that, that we've seen.
Okay. I think it probably would have worked if it was that.
It's most... Because we live in the age of the internet, it's so easy to find all the little details, The Paul Joseph Watson video.
And also people lying about stuff. But yeah, sure, go off, King.
Those cover a lot of them. Just so we understand what just happened. I paid $17.
I should have got like 2 WoW tokens earlier when it was like 300k. I'm so fucking stupid.
This is 76 cents for a 40-minute game. That was only 40 minutes. It's basically you're just donating to Alex Jones, probably because, if you kept up with the Sandy Hook situation, you'll know he needs the money. Because the feds finally said no. He spoke too much truth. So,
okay. Synthetic Man is constantly pushing the idea that there's a shadowy New World Order cabal putting chemicals in our foods to make us effeminate, and saying that if we weren't so cucked by GMOs and processed foods, people would rise up and kill them. That's what he's implying here.
And I don't know.
Go to the gym, dude. Don't know what to tell you, man. You won't feel as cucked then.
A lot of us have been poisoned by chemicals, quite literally.
I'm incapable of doing anything because I've been poisoned by a chemical.
That's what he's really trying to say, just to be absolutely clear. Like, he's saying he cannot do anything, and he's too much of a fucking pussy because he's been poisoned by GMOs. Everything, and there are foods can be very unhealthy. Like, let's get twisted. But this guy, it's a victim complex for him. I am incapable of doing because they're putting stuff in the food, and I'm complacent about it because they're putting stuff in the food, and I can't do anything because of this, and I can't get girls because everything's broken, and this is it. It's all a victim complex, baby.
For our entire lives. And that has irreparably damaged us. And there still seems to be no end in sight to it, because everything is about making things cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. So we have seed oils and everything. We cook things in plastic, so we're consuming...
Don't we want things cheap? No?
Microplastics, which have xenoestrogens in them.
Okay.
Well, long story short...
there's estrogen in the water because some people flush their birth control down there, and it's in the women's pee, and that gets in the water, and
these are things that he would say.
Because of birth... This is going to sound like a fucking conspiracy theory.
Oh
I don't
my
feel like
God.
bringing shit up.
Is he going to say it right now?
Birth control fucks with your hormones, and it's made women attracted to twinks. There you go. There's my conspiracy theory for you that is not a conspiracy.
Why would it make them attracted to twinks? Are you saying that it gives them more... You're saying it gives them more testosterone or something?
The elites know that. You think they don't know this shit? They know they can't afford to starve people because something then might actually happen. That's the only way. I have become so black-pilled to the point where I think if guns were taken away, it still wouldn't be enough of a pushback. Like, honestly, I might be wrong because they obviously haven't pushed heavy enough. The ATF is just their tool to slowly wear away gun rights over time. But
it must feel good to believe every conspiracy theory because you don't have to be intelligent anymore. You just get to believe that the world's a certain way, and you don't need to take facts into consideration because all the facts are lies because they're conspiracies. They're unprovable. They're unproven, and you cannot prove something wrong that is not proved right. Right, and there's slight level of truth to some of the things that he says. Like, for instance, this idea of how we can't starve people because then they'll, it's too far to push. There's a level of truth to that, right? There's only so much oppression people are willing to put up with before they'll fight back. And so if they do starve, whatever we were starved out, like, it would cause people to revolt and riot. But like, these overall narratives are just fucking insane. Thank you so much for the 1 month small gut from your mum spicy T-T. Thank you. you know? And it's so funny because I feel like so many things are leaked like every day. Like we could see how people like we know for a fact that like politicians lie to us and take money from lobbyists, and we don't do anything about that. That's what we should be doing. We should try to elect people that'll like you know, fix how much money politicians will take from lobbyists. We don't do that though, right? And then, but we engage, excuse me, with these fucking crazy conspiracy theories when like the real fucked up shit is happening in front of us, and we don't care enough, right? So,
but well, the easiest way to get rid of soy would be to stop consuming vegetable oil. The problem is vegetable oil is in everything, because vegetable oil is soybean oil, which literally changes your brain chemistry. Like the point is, she's going to choose whatever is the most attractive to her out of the 1,000 people. That is all it is. And so what ends up happening is that a small percentage of the population is having more sex than ever, and then a significant amount are having none at all, basically. And what happens when...
It's just so funny because, like, this is not necessarily true. Like, yes, there are going to be guys who are very attractive and have an easier time finding girls. But that's not why Synthetic Man can't find a girlfriend. He's just undateable. He's a lazy loser that nobody wants to fuck around with by his own real choice at this point. His mommy coddled him too much. But like, you know, I'm proof ugly men can get pussy because ugly women exist. Okay. I used to fuck around with dogs. The easiest way to get to have casual sex as a man is to find women that are less attractive than you and fuck them and then stop talking to them. Right? And then I got lucky and I met my wife, and she's attractive. Well, my wife's very beautiful. She's as attractive as I am, and so incredible stuff. But that's what these hot guys will also do too. They'll fuck around with girls that are like, you know, 1 or 2 numbers lower than them because they know that it's going to be easier. And that's how they get these girls, man. But like, if you want to date, like, you can date, dude. That's what it is. You can. Synthetic Man's not necessarily an unattractive guy. Like, he's not that bad looking. It's like 100% his personality for sure. So
when that happens, well, historically, there's been revolutions, there's been wars, because generally men are supposed to, you know, breed. They're supposed to get with a woman and have children. That's the whole point of continuing life on this planet. And that's starting to not happen with a significant percentage of the population, which is why there's so many people who are saying 2 more weeks style shit. The only difference between now and all those other times in history is that there's so many chemicals flowing in our body. They're lowering our testosterone, and society is so complicated, and there's so many different, there's escapism. There's so much escapism. That's the only reason something hasn't happened yet, because there's a million copes, and we're not half the men that our grandparents or great-grandparents were.
I mean, your dad apparently didn't stay in your life, so he doesn't seem like a man, but...
Note, this isn't how it works. While the chemical fillers used in processed foods are not good for you, they're yet another byproduct of the ever-churning machine of capital-influenced government or lack of government oversight of commercial products.
Based alert?
Maximum output for companies with minimal safety or care. That's kind of capitalism's whole thing. However, the idea that people are being poisoned to be less combative or whatever is ridiculous. I recommend watching H-Bomber Guy's video on Paul Joseph Watson and the soy conspiracy for a full breakdown, but there are levels to the stupidity of this conspiracy, and the gist of it is that soybeans contain chemical compounds called phytoestrogens, which dumbasses like Synth believe are the same as estrogen, but they aren't, they just have a similar chemical makeup. Similarities in molecular compositions happen all the time for things with drastically different jobs and effects. For example, you couldn't switch CO2 and oxygen molecules and expect them to do the same thing just because CO2 is primarily made of oxygen. Similarly, phytoestrogens are different than actual estrogen produced by the human body. The exact same feminizing chemicals occurring.
That's what they want you to think. That's what the liberals want you to think, guys, just so you know.
To people like Synth are found entirely naturally in fruits like berries, apples, and pomegranates, veggies like celery, potatoes, and garlic, and tons of other plants. The prefix phyto literally refers to plants.
Sorry, I gotta stop burping. My bad, just kind of came out.
Phytoestrogens can work in conjunction with estrogen and are able to bind to the estrogen receptors in the body, but they do not have the same effects. In fact, they come in a variety of chemical compounds of their own, some of which help estrogen's effects, others negate them. But regardless, there's no evidence that they cause harmful effects. And after this conspiracy spread several years ago, there was extensive research done, completely disproving the idea that soy had literally any feminizing effects. The fact that Synth simply regurgitates these old, tired talking points shows he never actually does.
Well, again, Synthetic Man is a beta male. He's a very feminine man, okay, in the worst ways. Because femininity is a good thing, but he's just like a whinging feminine person. He's overly emotional, okay? Because emotion, I tend to say, is a feminine quality, which is not bad. It's good to be in touch with your emotions, but not to be a fucking whinging pussy about it. Anyway, it's a victim complex for him. Everything is an excuse for him to not try to do better for himself. Everything's an excuse to be lazy and not give a shit and to just be uneventful and shit.
Any research into the conspiracies he spreads, because if he did, he wouldn't be able to spread them. He just parrots what he hears from reactionary grifters like Alex Jones, Paul Joseph Watson, and whoever he goes and meets with on 4chan board.
I doubt that he even hears it from them. He probably hears it from his audience and it's like, oh, they're saying this, maybe I should too.
Which brings me to BlackRock. Like most conspiracies, when you actually do like just a hint of research, it's actually super boring. If you're in the games industry, you have probably heard BlackRock in conjunction with Sweet Baby Inc. So let's talk about that. For those not in the know, Sweet Baby Inc. is a marketing and consultation firm that consults primarily on diversity and representation in video games. Earlier this year, a bunch of people on the internet latched on to Sweet Baby Inc. as the
Even for $5 from Fanny Pack Landscaper. Incredible. Have you seen Sambucha got canceled? I don't know who Sambucha is. Is that like an alcohol or something?
surefire reason for wokeness being forced into their games. Wokeness here meaning like a person of color. Like that's it. Well, gamers reacted very normally and began a hate campaign they called Gamergate 2 a few months back. While it mostly fizzled to nothing, as ringleaders like Mark Grums Kern have had to jump from one controversy to another in a desperate attempt to stay relevant, essentially merging with the already existing anti-woke nerd space consisting of channels like Quartering. This is just the same grift with a few new losers. Synth definitely buys into a couple of these narratives, mostly when it comes to the go woke, go broke mentality, where people look at games that didn't sell well and lay the performance on the fact that they have like women or something.
The Hollywood elites with 3 parentheses.
What's happening here?
Just they're pissing on you because like, yeah, gaming's nothing to us. Goy, you know, you're fucking worthless. Everything you like sucks. Really pushing the ugly black woman pro tags on us so aggressively. Maybe they want black women to be eventually preferred by us, but it's having the opposite effect. There's just certain things in this world that are not going to work out well. And having black female protagonists in video games is one of those. Where it's like, listen, nobody cares if you have a character creator and you can make any race, gender, whatever. Though, actually, obviously people do care if you have, like, pronouns.
Yeah, of course people do care.
Or can make some weird, like...
People don't really care about this, but they actually do care about this.
Abomination thing that's unintentional. You know, some people do care about that, but having... This is just a recipe for disaster.
Game.
And it puts a massive fucking hole in all of the communist leftist retardation where they're trying to say this wokeness is about the money, but it's bombed a million times. Like, there's already been so many, you know, go woke, go broke games at this point that it's an NPC response. There's a mountain of evidence to say this isn't about the money, it's about the message, right?
The reality here, of course, is that despite often blaming game journalists for the industry's
woes, this is not fun. I suck at this.
Those game journalists didn't even like these games. They got tepid reviews from critics and fans, which is a contributing factor of why they failed. There's also plenty of incredibly diverse games that have sold well and continue to sell well. Look at the diversity of games like Mortal Kombat, Fortnite, Valorant, Overwatch, League, and
yeah, but Overwatch kind of sucks, man. It's really because they got rid of 6v6, but
plenty more. It's not a surprise that more developers are following suit and putting more diverse characters in their games because there's so many games that prove you can go woke without going broke. You just have to actually make a game that people want to play.
Well, people like people generally enjoy diversity in games. People are fine with fucking black people and gay people existing. People don't like it when they insert a black or a gay character or whatever character, and it seems very clear that you inserted them and made them a particular thing just for like a virtue signal, and you don't really know how to write the character. It's not particularly interesting or compelling, and it's too much about a particular, like, it feels like it's too, you're being too preachy. Like, again, Fallout, the protagonist is a woman, and it's a great show. They do well with the character. There's a trans person in it. It's not about fucking trans political fucking correctness or anything, right? There's a time and a place for everything. It doesn't have to be in everything. They just happen to add the characters. That's what people like. That's chill. It's enjoyable to not get preached at just because you add a black or a gay character. And that's like one of the issues that I think some people will have, and sometimes they will interpret that as hating all like levels of any type of wokeness or whatever you want to call it in some capacity. So,
which games like Flintlock and Conquered didn't. Like, gee, I wonder why another middling indie Souls-like didn't sell well. Couldn't have been a crowded market, must be the wokeness. And probably most importantly for game companies as businesses, there is a shit ton of market research that supports the idea that going woke broadly is profitable, or at the very least, is something that most of the biggest and most profitable gaming franchises have in common. But alongside Sweet Baby, BlackRock kept getting brought up as one of these companies fueling wokeness being forced in everything. People on the internet endlessly repeat the claim that Sweet Baby Inc. is in fact entirely funded by BlackRock, or DEI initiatives. There's literally no evidence I could find of this. I'd love to be proven wrong, but as far as I can tell, Sweet Baby Inc. isn't even a publicly traded company, so there's not even stocks for the investment firm to actually invest in.
Pretty sure Sweet Baby Inc. worked on like God of War Ragnarok, so.
For
Obviously, they don't just pump out not great games.
the last few years, BlackRock has been in conspiracy crosshairs of conservatives like Matt Walsh and others for pushing DEI, or diversity, equity, and inclusion measures, and also ESG, which is the scary-sounding environment, social, and governance policies. While this, of course, conjures to mind evil puppet masters controlling the environment and society and government, it's in reality just a blanket term to describe broad ways companies can try to polish their image to keep making money. When it comes to why conservatives might hate ESG and DEI, it's because a lot of it involves these companies appearing to support progressive causes and capitalism, or kind of rainbow capitalism.
Oh, you want the 5B5? What? Okay. You like your Overwatch, the 5B5? Well, I think more casual players enjoy the 5B5 experience, and that's why they're appealing to that a little bit more. So, yeah.
If you will. See, they don't like that queer people and people of color are broadly appealing in the marketplace of ideas, so when companies try to capitalize on that, they say it's woke brainwashing. I've discussed it before, but while Matt Walsh and his ilk want to make it seem like these efforts are going to mean companies like airlines will hire black women who have no qualifications over qualified white men, the reality is that these measures are meant to help increase awareness of jobs and opportunities in communities that have historically been marginalized, usually so that companies can use that workforce to keep making money.
I have no problem with them trying to add more inclusivity to like different flights and stuff. Just like, you know, but make it so that the flights are cheaper if it's a worse pilot. So anytime I see a woman pilot, I'll know it's cheaper. I'll take that flight every fucking day. I'm just kidding.
So in an example,
I'm just kidding. I would pay more just to be flown by a man. I'm just being stupid.
Well, let's look at this video from Channel Fave Matt Walsh.
Simply allowing markets to work without crude demographic manipulation. The Biden administration's allies in state and local governments are doubling down. They've decided that they know exactly what the demographic makeup of each industry should be. And it just so happens that white men aren't wanted in any industry. So I'll start with Maine, where this week, Democrats have determined that the field of construction, where blacks and Hispanics make up nearly 40% of the workforce, simply isn't diverse enough somehow.
Oh, shit.
Specifically, the governor, Janet Mills, has determined that more women need to be construction workers, and therefore Mills has signed an executive order that, among other things, will use state and federal funding to prioritize construction projects that involve women.
Governor Mills signing an executive...
Ooh, I don't know why. I feel like women don't really want to do construction. I don't think women like working in general. Why the fuck would they want to do construction? You know? If women want to, go for it, but it's a very physically demanding job. Women tend to stay away from more physically demanding jobs, so...
order at Maine DOT in Augusta, alongside female leaders in Maine's construction industry.
Most of the time when I see a woman construction worker, they're usually the one holding the sign. And it's like, okay, you guys could have just had the sign sit there itself, you know? Because then you see like other, like, you know, even when guys do it, it's like, that's our taxpayer dollars are going to somebody holding a fucking sign. It's crazy.
The executive order will kickstart data collection in collaboration with partners in the construction industry and implement grant programs to incentivize the hiring of women while providing supportive services that recruit and retain women in the construction industry.
We need construction workers, especially women, now. Why? Why especially women? And this is odd coming from Janet Mills.
This way, the women can get sexually harassed by the construction workers instead of the women passing by. Smart stuff, guys. I think with your noodle there.
She spent her college years traveling through Europe and learning French before going into law school and spending the rest of her life in government. What does Janet Mills know about construction exactly?
Sounds like a pretty cool life, man.
How is she qualified to say anything about what the construction industry needs or who's most qualified to fill those needs? Now, as always, this DEI initiative is a solution in search of a problem. There is absolutely no reason to believe, and not a single shred of evidence to suggest, that the construction industry was in any way suffering due to a lack of female representation.
Put aside for a moment that Matt also doesn't know anything about those things. What he purposefully fails to bring up is that the executive order wasn't signed to push out white men. It was signed because of a historic shortage in Maine's construction workforce, combined with the fact that they just got a bunch of federal renewal funds for...
I'm just reading through it really quick. Aims to bring more women to the construction industry and trades. It aims to alleviate Maine's severe construction workforce shortage, particularly as the state is poised to utilize historic funding from Biden's. Okay. Gotcha. I don't know. Sure, I don't really care too much. I don't think we need to push more women, but are they just not hiring women? And that's what, I mean, if maybe that's the case, if there's a workforce shortage, but these workforces are not willing to hire women because they don't think that they're as capable, then implementing like a specific number of women being in there would probably alleviate that. So
for infrastructure, Maine needs workers.
I mean, with technology, hopefully women are able to, because like, listen, there are technologies that make it easier for women to be able to do certain things, like the creation of like heavy machinery significantly reduces the amount of like physical labor that somebody has to engage in. So maybe it's partially something like that. I mean, as long as women can do the job, I don't really care. So whatever, sure, it seems fun.
So they're attempting to tap into a largely unacknowledged potential workforce. Of course, facts don't get in these folks' way. So DEI and ESG has become the narrative, the boogeyman to blame for why everything is woke now. It's not because companies are looking to diversify their workforce or diversify the markets that they're selling their products in. No, it's a globalist plot to demoralize white men or something. Which brings me to BlackRock, the largest investment management firm on the planet. I want to be clear when I say BlackRock is a terrifyingly evil company, and along with its entwinement to the other big investment firms, Vanguard and State Street, forms an undeniably terrible precedent for our economy. Between these three, trillions of dollars is handled daily. But what do they actually do, and why do so many people on the internet think they control the world? Well,
probably because like a Jewish person owns it.
So BlackRock is an investment firm, which means rich people pay them to make rich people more money on the stock market. They use a series of algorithms to detect market trends and buy stocks on behalf of investors, in turn making BlackRock a shareholder of massive companies they invest in. But these investments make up a large amount of these megacorps, and between BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, these three control over 20% of the stock market. Again, this is a problem with a monopolized market where control of massive sections of companies and money are just basically overseen by companies and money. Because BlackRock invests on behalf of its investors, it has a lot of shares in companies like Apple, Nvidia, Microsoft, and Amazon, but not because, as a lot of dum-dums online like to depict, they own these companies. They own stocks in the companies, and they technically don't even own them. They hold them for investors' portfolios. That's why they're called holdings. Now, because BlackRock does have such large interests in these companies, they are occasionally able to sway a publicly traded company towards diversity interests, DEI, ESG, through things like shareholder voting, which is a common occurrence for publicly traded operations. If you own a ton of a company, you get to help vote on the direction it gets taken. To which I hear some of you saying, aha, so you admit they're masterful manipulators trying to engineer social change through funding DEI to ruin video games. No. First off, conspiracies about BlackRock owning everything are easily disproven because, as a publicly traded company, all of BlackRock's assets are by legal requirement available to see by its stockholders and the public. You can just look them up right now. They publish regular reports on them too. As for ESG, this comes back to the idea of corporate wokeness, which I've talked about in this essay. Corporations don't have feelings or opinions. They
only essay I care about is Essay Rios. Okay, sorry.
Have shareholders. And if shareholders and public opinion are moving towards something like climate action or social change, like plenty of companies noted following Black Lives Matter, for example, then corporations will act like they give a shit to keep making more money.
Sure, I mean, that makes sense. It's not a globalist agenda, it's just some kind of like marketing ploy. Yeah, I mean, that makes perfect sense. Well, I don't think that's something that really, well, like we said, Synthetic Man has a particular thought and feeling he wants to have to allow him to be a victim of his own fucking world, his own mommy that doesn't make him do anything, doesn't make him get out of the fucking house. That's really what it boils down to. But like, yeah, that makes perfect sense that they're just trying to make as much money as possible. And again, I think they're also trying to be more sensitive because they'll get fucked if they're not legitimate. Because some of these institutions, my understanding is that they exist not just to, I don't even know if they necessarily exist to add more wokeness in games, or if they exist more than anything else to add more diversity in the workforce, so that it doesn't become one group, an overrepresented group that gets away with like sexual harassment, which again has been historical. You know, there's one thing at Riot where they would just walk around farting on people, farting on women, and like obviously women, if you ever worked in like a workforce before, men tend to be annoying and obnoxious, and I'm a man and I loved it. But when you have women introduced, they tend to be a little more sensitive, and they want reasonable boundaries introduced. So like dudes will fucking grab each other's dicks and play gay chicken, and like it's totally fun. Women obviously don't appreciate that kind of stuff, which makes perfect sense, especially since women are, you know, men usually will be like physically capable and willing to like hit another person if they go too far the boundaries, right? Right. So that doing all this shit where they're walking around farting on the women, obviously going to be upsetting to the women, right? So I think it's more like that, though, where they're trying to implement more diversity in the workforce so it doesn't become too cumbersome of like one group that's willing to be fucking pieces of shit. I think that's a lot of what it is. And as an investor, again, you want to make sure that you want to make sure that the workforce is quiet. You don't want a really good game to come out that has a lot of negativity surrounding it, and then like a bunch of lawsuits, and then that gaming company has like a big problem, and then they have to deal with this and that at all. What's gay chicken? It's where you guys will see how far you're willing to go to do gay shit to each other. So like you might like fucking like rub someone's shoulders and then go to grab their ass and then go for their dick, and you'll see how far somebody's willing to push. So we used to do it like work friends, you know, fucking gay chicken and shit. So it's just how guys are at work, man.
what BlackRock is doing. They aren't driving this social change, they are following it. BlackRock began offering investments into ESG around 2017 and 18 after bringing on a
We were also like a bunch of dudes working at the job. Because a lot of girls didn't want to do like bus cleaning. They didn't want to be, you know, I managed like a bus cleaning crew. They didn't want to do that shit. They don't, like, women like to clean, but they don't like to clean fucking piss, shit, vomit, throw up, and all this other nasty fucking period blood off of buses and stuff. A little bit of a dirtier job, so they didn't like that.
Sustainable investing supervisor who worked in the Obama administration. The operating
I always won gay chicken though, guys. I was the best.
Here was that they might be able to entice more or new investors by sugarcoating investment to appear to be doing social good. Kind of like when you buy a soda that says less sugar, and part of you goes, that means it's better for me, when actually you know that's just bullshit.
Oh, it might be better for you if there's less sugar. If sugar is your problem.
You want the soda, they just convinced you to buy it without feeling quite as bad. It's the same reason why BlackRock started doing ESG. At the time, less than 10% of investment funds offered ESG options. So essentially, they were helping their investors diversify their portfolios by simply diversifying their offerings, a very standard investment practice. Now, I want to be as clear as I can when I say BlackRock is a vile, evil company, but not because it's run by master manipulators or Jewish people, but because it's the manifestation of everything wrong with capitalism. It shouldn't surprise you that as a massive firm, BlackRock,
What makes them evil though? I don't understand that.
State Street, and others have access to huge oil stocks, for example. They also have a shit ton of shares in weapons manufacturing. In a pretty direct way, they are profiting off the genocide of Gazans by Israel right now.
A based alert.
But Larry Fink isn't rubbing his hands together mischievously as he thinks
Sorry.
about all the games with black women protagonists who will be making white men in their 30s mad. He's counting stacks of fat cash and telling his investors how awesome they are and how BlackRock isn't actually an evil company. BlackRock is a case of the wealthy and elite continuing to make boatloads of cash, which has always been the case with Wall Street. As much as conspiracists wanted to pick them as behind Pfizer or the COVID vaccine, or saying they made money on lockdowns because they own a company that makes paper masks or something, yeah, sure, that shit is probably evil for massive companies to make money on if there's something people need, but I guarantee at some level, they also made money on bumper stickers protesting the vaccine, and shirts and cardboard signs, anti-vaxxers packed to marches. Because they own a little bit of everything. It's their job to own a little bit of everything on behalf of their shareholders. And because they make so many people money, the government is kind of just fine with it. Does that mean it's right? No. Should a company this big be broken up for the good of the economy? Probably.
Yeah, I mean, if it's hitting monopoly level of size, then yeah, it probably should be broken up. Amazon should probably be broken up, frankly.
But none of that means BlackRock is a conniving front for a satanic cabal, and I guarantee they have very little interest in...
At the very least, we should tax them at a greater rate. Because it's obviously more difficult for like smaller companies to compete with them in any meaningful capacity. So you tax them, which means that their products are more expensive. If you're willing to pay for those more expensive products, that's more tax money for us. Or you're not willing to pay for it, and you're willing to buy from local businesses, which is good for your local economy. It's a good idea.
In ESG or DEI, outside of seeing potential profit in trying to appeal to new markets or investors. Something that, as more conservatives continue to get mad at DEI and wokeness, BlackRock appears to be backing down from. Because again, companies don't have values, they have shareholders. They're going to follow their nose to wherever the money is leading. So remember when I said all of this was super boring? I've spoken about the habit of conspiracy to take things that are complicated and simplify them, and make them more exciting at the same time. Because the banality of our corporate overlords and how evil they are feels dissonant to most people. Here's a fucking company called BlackRock that makes trillions of dollars, that capitalizes on environmental destruction and war, while
Sounds like I'm going to have to invest in BlackRock.
also putting up a face as a progressive organization. That's some diabolical shit, right? In our American conspiracy-laden pop culture poisoned brains, we might just instinctively feel that there needs to be a more exciting story. We need a satanic cabal. That's the only way this makes sense.
I mean, maybe people love that kind of like annoying, what is it called? True crime bullshit. They love being conspiracy brained, and they love feeling smart, so.
How else could we let a company do
same guys, same.
so much evil and profit while so many people are suffering? It's why conspiracies are so tempting, because they spice up the otherwise unremarkable. The truth is that this is unfettered capitalism working as intended. Every politician who's talked about the free market of trade and defended billionaires helped this happen, and they continue to help it happen. And probably because either they or the lobbyists who support them and pay them had a little skin in the game. Where actually looking into the facts of BlackRock, who they are and what they do, results in boring-ass graphs and investment jargon. A conspiracy about BlackRock being a front for Jewish control of video games and society is more exciting because it comes with lore. Lore that Synth loves to share on stream, so let's try to concoct a cohesive vision of his worldview where Jews control the world.
Can't wait, baby. I'm excited.
Now, according to Synthetic Man, Jews control all the markets and Hollywood, and
Except they're just not, for some reason, presidents. Makes sense.
basically the world. So all of their efforts in both DEI and food processing are to basically enslave people, to exert control over an unsuspecting populace. DEI, in particular, he believes is a way to create a mongrel slave race by race mixing.
That's a very interesting concept. All right, so I'm going to have a protein bar. While I do this video, all I've had is a bowl of ramen, and a turkey and cheese sandwich and a protein shake. Actually, core strawberry, very good. But I'm a little hungry, so let's continue.
I'll just let him rant here for a second.
There are many layers as to why this is happening, and it's not just about fucking equity. Okay, let's say hypothetically you're trying to create a race of mongrel slave people with double-digit IQs, while you believe you're the best ever, you're God's chosen people, right? You need to encourage the creation of the mongrel slave race. So what do you do? Okay, well, one,
Well, what I would do is try to constantly cut education costs like every conservative and just put more money into the military. So, that's what
show as many interracial couples as possible in media. Every single commercial, every single TV show, that's one thing. Another thing, these people who, for whatever reason, are considered, at least on average, to be the most attractive people, while they also coincidentally are too intelligent and too they have too much ingenuity, creativity, all those things that could be a threat to you. Well, if we simply stop giving them jobs, they can't feed themselves. They're poor. Women, unless they're extremely high above average in terms of looks, women are not going to date the poor white guy over the diversity higher dude who's making more money, right? Unless he's hideously ugly. The point is to bring things to a balance, because obviously the 10 out of 10 Chad who's broke will sleep on the bitch's couch and he'll never have to get a job, but that's an exception. That's 1 in 1,000.
It's so funny because there's like women who work and they'll fuck guys that are like jobless and homeless, and they'll let them live with them because they throw good dick game. So, I don't know if all this theory is true. I don't think that we're trying to remove white people from the workforce to make them weaker so white women will fuck black guys. Is that the argument? It just seems a little bit bizarre there, buddy. I think maybe just get your shit together, stop fucking around.
Right. They need to bring the white people down and bring the other people up. Of course, also, women are being brought up in society in general, so they'll expect more. And so the white women will breed less because their expectations for men are so high that white men can't possibly meet them. And despite what all of the two-camp propaganda would have you believe, most people date within their race, the vast majority. Okay, and so if white people never breed because the women's standards are impossibly high and the men can't get a job and they can't do any of these things, is any wonder how we're getting replaced?
In fact, it seems the only reason he thinks Americans haven't risen up to...
Crazy. Anyway, like a lot of the struggles people have is the more educated you are, the less likely you are to have a bunch of kids as soon as possible. And then if you're educated, you're very aware of your financial status and you try not to have kids when you're not ready. So if you want to alleviate these problems, make it more incentives for people to have kids. I mean, he just wants to bring race into it because he's a fucking victim, but yeah, man, it's not that deep.
Kill their Jewish oppressors is because, as I mentioned,
also Jews are white, so
he thinks we've been so cucked by processed foods, soy, and high fructose corn syrup. Otherwise, yeah, totally, dude. That's the
and we know that poor people definitely don't eat shitty foods like that. So
normal thing to think. However, this is also ironic once again because
what the point being there, white people tend to have more money, bro. So by this logic, all these other groups would be the ones that are at a higher impact of being fucking mind cucked or whatever. People are eating the shittier the foods. Usually they're more or they're cheaper. So poor people are eating them, right? So people with more money tend to be able to have a luxury of being more health conscious.
Synth just regularly eats like garbage, of his own volition. But it's not just that Jews control food, according to him, but that they also specifically want to take video games away from the white man. Apparently, yes.
Shit. Wouldn't they want? If I was trying to run like a shadow government that was trying to pacify people, I would want them to play more video games because it's something for them to do to exert their frustrations through. So why would they want to take away video games?
The evil overlords who are manipulating multi-continental markets, wars, entertainment, and media are also very specifically invested in annoying incels who live with their mom at 30. This is just one way they demoralize and humiliate. His way to describe anything he seems to think is woke. So, for example, a muscular or even competent woman having agency in a piece of media is meant to be demoralizing to men, according to him. Which,
again, sometimes it can be. Sometimes they'll try to make the men incompetent just to raise the women up in some media, but that's not always the case. Again, he'll say that about Fallout. Fallout show does a great job rounding out their characters.
If that's your reaction, that's kind of on you. It's not someone else's fault if you have such a weak sense of self and who you are that seeing someone else's competency is a demoralizing conspiracy. He loves to parrot his 4chan fascist talking points about DEI and wokeness as trying to erode the standards of beauty and make ugly art. And he can't really seem to decide if that's the fault of creators who are ugly and need to insert themselves or the global elite overlords he thinks control everything. I guess it's probably more of a middle management job somewhere in between there.
This is disgusting. This disgusts me. But I think good game design will be a lost craft after the death or the retreat of the golden generation. This could easily turn around if ESG disappeared and all the evil fucks who are behind all the shit going on, fired.
I think it's more that they're just people that are less conventionally attractive making video games and want to feel represented in them. It's not that big of a deal. Just don't buy the game. Who cares?
All of the political ideologue developers and then hired talented, creative people again. We could turn this industry around and like...
We could turn this industry around if we did that. Who's we, though, bro? What are you doing? What talent do you have, bro?
Probably 3 to 4 years. I mean,
you can't even complain productively. People just like it that you fucking crash out every one of your streams. They don't even care about what you have to say. It's just like how you're saying and how much of a meltdown you're having because it's funny to them.
It's never going to happen, but I mean, it's absolutely possible. I don't think it's a lost art. Everything that's happening is intentional.
He also doesn't seem to get what subliminal messaging is, because everything he thinks is subliminal not only isn't, but if it represented what he thought, which it doesn't, it would be explicit messaging, which is how he can recognize it.
True.
Let me give you an example where he goes on a tangent in a video about Link being made gay in Breath of the Wild.
Is borderline satanic.
Link's always been drawn like a feminine motherfucker, and that's like an Asian market thing. Like if you look at like any Final Fantasy main like protagonist that's male for a very long time, they're usually very femboy coded. And I think that my understanding is from a game design perspective, it's meant to make it so that it's easier for you to insert yourself into it, even if you're a woman. So, yeah.
Imagery. I have no idea if this is intentional or not.
Why can't I say crash out, dude? Come on. I told you I have black. Stop.
But Japan used to be infamous for putting weird Christian symbolism in anime and occasionally video games, so this could be an extension of that. Or again, if you want to take the schizo angle, this is a result of a certain cult organization full of quote-unquote elites that are subtly inserting their propaganda into video games. Not to mention the quote-unquote subtle homosexual imagery from Breath of the Wild has been expanded even further in this one, and I already know people are going to say I'm reading into it, and no kid's going to...
Link never smashed Zelda. Link is gay as fuck. What are you talking about? All right, that's confirmed by me right now. Yeah, elves in general are more graceful. Yeah, for sure. That's a good point too.
See this shit, but that's exactly
and gay, right? That's the whole point.
Exactly how you desensitize people and how you groom them, right? You expose them to things.
You groom them. You're getting groomed. Holy fuck.
The vow that each of the new sages takes to Link looks like they're proposing to him, and
this guy's fucking melted.
Sidon, the giant shark guy, people already made a bunch of gay lewd images between him and Link when Breath of the Wild came out. Well, now, him quite literally putting a ring on his finger, and man, their relationship is too fucking weird, dude.
Alternately.
Okay, that's, it's an interesting theory you have. It's interesting where your mind goes when you see stuff. You know, I personally wouldn't have thought that. Not a big Breath of the Wild fan. Doesn't really seem to be for me. But interesting where your brain goes.
This take about Radahn in Elden Ring.
So some of you might remember Mikola, aka Melania's brother, the femboy who everyone loves for being the only good child in Marika's family. Well, of course...
Is this the femboy? It's kind of hot.
This is being a From Software game, he's actually evil. What is a problem is that he's not just a femboy, he wants to have gay, incestuous sex with his older brother Radahn, and because you killed him in the main game, and you also killed Mohg, he uses Mohg's body and infuses it with Radahn's soul, and now they're gay lovers for eternity.
Is that real?
Now, if you're thinking, wow, he sure seems to think about femboys and gay stuff a lot.
I do. That's an interesting storyline there.
You notice that too, huh? For example, this thumbnail featuring a femboy porn cut out of a character, which he would only get by having gone to a porn website to look up porn.
Looks like you... Holy shit. Where'd you find... What? What the hell is that, dude? What the fuck? How would you even find something like that?
Of this character. As I mentioned a while back, he has suffered from what he called pornography addiction in the past. Something he
me too, man, for sure.
He largely blames for his lack of interest in women.
So yeah, I haven't taken him since near the start of my channel, I think. So I guess almost 3 years. Yeah, almost 3 years. I honestly, I was fine on them, actually. I think...
Hold on.
Years.
Of interest in women.
So yeah, I haven't taken him since near the start of my channel, I think. So I guess almost 3 years. Yeah, almost 3 years. I honestly, I was fine on them, actually. I think they were perfect for me. It's just the like I said, the erectile dysfunction is horrible.
What?
Granted, you know, being a...
He has erectile dysfunction? What?
Porn addict will do that to you anyway.
No, let me tell you something, man. Like, I probably unironically, I guess you never really... Your addiction never really leaves you. I had, like, a porn addiction, but I've never suffered from erectile dysfunction, but I still get fucking large and in charge whenever I need to. What the hell are you talking about, bro? I think that it's more that he only gets off to fucking gay shit and he tries to like want to be attracted to women. I think that's more of what it is.
But it was worse on the drugs, I'll tell you that. And the thing is, being an incel is obviously like the worst thing you can be in society, which is a very smart psyop because it means they can never organize. Zoomers are depressed primarily because of how they grew up on the internet. If it wasn't for pornography, their generation wouldn't have been so hypergamous, ergo miserable. Yeah, I mean, porn is definitely a huge part of current issues. I have to wonder if I hadn't gone so deep into that rabbit hole when I was a teenager, if I would have like nutted up and asked more girls out. Granted,
you could just do it now. You could just ask girls out now, bud.
You know, when I did ask the girl out who I thought was interested in me, she rejected me. And
okay, so then you asked the next one out.
I think it's because she thought I was autistic or some shit, and that's why she was being friendly with me.
My God, this guy's, or maybe she was just your friend. This guy's so fucking, he's like he's an annoying TikTok 13-year-old. Holy shit.
So, that was brutal.
But as we've seen, he is consistent.
I got rejected by a girl in high school, and it stayed with me for a very long time.
That's actually crazy work, dog. That's fucking insane. You're still thinking about that? It's time to move on.
Still porn brain. One of the clearest examples is in a Crash Bandicoot 4 review where he talks about Rule 34 art of this children's cartoon game character saving the character design. His words, not mine. Something, again, he'd literally only know and think about if he had gone to the porn site specifically to look for said art.
Rule 34 has salvaged her design a bit, though. Kids, avert your eyes.
I don't know what this is, but it's kind of hot.
And wouldn't you know it?
What? What the fuck? What did you just show us?
All these choices he makes, he also blames on porn, who he blames the massive world-owning cabal for.
Do you think the small heads are the reason for what you are now? Indirectly, I mean, they cause most of the current issues in society. You know, I don't have to point it out to you guys how much more popular certain genres of porn got, you know, a handful of years ago. Now, some of that was absolutely pushed by...
Is he talking about, like, trans porn? What does that have to do with... Why does everything have to do with fucking Jews, dude? What is wrong with this guy?
Their algorithms, you know, like BBC shit. Any of the interracial shit was obviously...
Holy fuck, he's admitting that he likes watching BBC, dude. This guy's a cuck. Because, like, I'll see some... I personally, I cannot watch... I unironically can't watch that kind of stuff. It has to be a white wiggle, you know? And it's not because I'm racist. It's just because I can't identify with it. You know, it's not mine. It's not the same color. It's way too big, okay? So I only really watch it if it's a white dude. You know what I mean? Respectfully. Because then I can insert myself into the paint. Well, not okay. You get my point. But this guy's like, oh, there's a psyop. They've making more BBC stuff in my feed. It's all I'm seeing. I can't stop. I can't stop seeing it. The fucking Jews put it in there for me to watch. Like, dude, chill out. It's not that deep, okay? All right, I'm a Jew. We don't look at that stuff. All right, we're not trying to get you to look at it either, okay?
You know, push forward propaganda, but...
Anyway, much like the way he interchangeably uses commie, leftist, and liberal, his conspiracies about BlackRock or Jewish control are interchangeable. He probably can't tell many specifics of what he believes because he doesn't actually look into specifics. He doesn't do research, and in general, just doesn't seem to be a real seeker of knowledge. Just as an aside, I think this clip is a great example where chat asks him if he reads, just in general, just reads books. And this is his response.
Do you read? Not really, I'll be honest.
Not really. That's a woman's job. Women can read. I don't read. That's why when I go to get groceries from the grocery store, I just kind of make it up as I go. Doubles it up, too, because then I'm ineffective at getting groceries. My wife never asked me to go anymore. It's called, it's a pretty hot tip for you guys to engage in if you never want to do any shopping at your house. Some people call it weaponized incompetence. I call it an extra beer because I don't have to go out.
No. I have a very low attention span. I've thought about it.
I've thought about it.
I've thought about reading. I'm not a big reader either, you know. I just don't like reading, you know. I've tried reading porn. My wife says that it's interesting. It is interesting. It can be. Doesn't really quite do it for me the same way, but hey, what are you gonna do?
I've thought about reading. I've thought about reading like it's rock climbing or visiting the Eiffel Tower, not something you can just do for free. We have literal places where people can go and read for free. They're called libraries.
They're called
libraries.
Gay-braries.
It's such a wonderful summation of the brain of people like Synth, completely incurious. And as a result, he kind of just swallows whatever garbage he consumes to vaguely regurgitate later. So many of his views can be traced back to the incredibly stupid and wrong idea that BlackRock or Jews are manipulating everything. He thinks that because he's never even done a hint of research before, making him incredibly gullible, yet confident in repeating his half-remembered conspiracy theories. But he didn't come up with them. Oh, no. Let's talk about who did.
Ooh, Alex Jingle, all the way.
You might not be surprised to know where he continually gets ideas like this. Not just the COVID vaccine conspiracies, but election conspiracies, ideas about Jewish control, evil cabals, the World Economic Forum, BlackRock, and more. While it's partly just leftover bile from 4chans and other sources, Synthetic Man is a fan of channels and sources like Paul Joseph Watson and Alex Jones. In fact, he gets news from them and bases his opinions on them. Now, for those who don't know, Paul Joseph Watson has a long history of being a total bullshit grifter. Watson also has a famously anti-Semitic streak where he went on
That's just what they call the people who speak the truth.
a tirade about killing Jews, so he and Synth have that in common. He was a longtime collaborator for InfoWars under Alex Jones, more on him in a minute, but also had a
It's funny because I've seen Alex Jones be like give explicit support to Jewish people. That's funny.
bad habit of immediately hearing a story that suited his needs and reporting it as a verified fact, only for it to be later revealed that the story was a hoax or inaccurate. For example, the time where he believed a satirical article about Common Core teaching 6th graders to use strap-on dildos
Okay.
and reported it as a fact. Or like when he said
Incredible.
depression isn't a real medical condition. He also claimed an entire host of mass shootings were
We got a based alert over here, dude.
false flag government operations or staged, falling directly in line with Alex Jones and his InfoWars job at the time. There was never anything to actually confirm his suspicions. Paul Joseph Watson was just saying shit to generate controversy and try to be the first on a conspiracy train. So essentially, Synthetic Man is repeating the opinions of someone without checking if they're real, when the person he's taking from has a history of doing the exact same thing. I guess they have more in common than just anti-Semitism. Watson was also a big purveyor of the soy feminizing conspiracy, so take from that what you will. This is how conspiracy spreads, through dumbasses looking for anything to confirm their preconceived biases, who will become just an infection vector for their own lazy stupidity. I don't know how often Synth follows InfoWars or watches their content, but from what he said, he was exposed to it from a young age through his dad. And what can I say about Alex Jones that hasn't already been said? The Texas tomato himself, Jones is constantly bloviating about a new world
I've never heard somebody call him the Texas tomato. I like that a lot.
order, and for over 30 years has consistently lied about almost everything he said. I've said it before, but the podcast Knowledge Fight does a phenomenal job of charting Alex's lies, and they are far too numerous to count. Like, seriously, go listen to like 2
How the fuck did I just do quests for a fucking fish?
episodes of Knowledge Fight, and they have to spend hours breaking down why he's lying and how he's lying. So suffice to say, Alex Jones is not a trustworthy source for any news, but he's one that Synth apparently thinks is right about at least a couple things. You can judge simply by the fact that Alex rarely gives any sources for his ludicrous claims, and when pressed on his sources, he simply either gish gallops by over
Your favorite anime is My Hustler's Academia? Wow, that sounds like a real good one. I'll take a look at that later. He's so stupid.
overwhelming the conversation with a series of random tangents or turns to insults.
In the spirit of a proper debate, and you've had a lot to say so far on the show, a lot of it aimed at me, which is fine, but I want you to try and answer the questions. It's a proper debate, okay? I'm not trying to trip you up.
No, it's not a debate. You're running the show. You bring in your victims up front.
Actually,
to-
no.
Look, you got your little note cards.
Yeah, okay.
I just gave you FBI statistics
Fine.
that violent
Alex,
crime
Alex,
and gun crime
Alex.
is down over 20%.
Alex, let me just ask you
And
this.
you want to go to little factoids.
No.
It's really interesting because Pierce is fucking conservative too. He's annoying at times.
They're not little
Anybody
factoids.
can pull those up. Listen.
Do you know what...
Do you have a bodyguard?
Alex.
Why do you have bodyguards?
I don't have a bodyguard.
Yeah, I've seen you on the news with them.
I don't
you
have
want
a
to protect
bodyguard.
your wife from hoodlums or you want to call the police?
Let me ask you this question.
Why does Dianne
Alex,
Feinstein tell 60
Alex.
Minutes?
You said the whole thing is a giant hoax. How do you deal with a total hoax? It took me about a year with Sandy Hook to come to grips with the fact that the whole thing was fake.
At that point, and I do think there's some cover-up and some manipulation, that is pretty much what I believe. But then I was also going into devil's advocate, but then we know there's mass shootings and these things happen. So
But
again,
you're trying to have it all ways, right?
No, I'm not.
If you wrongly went out there and said it was a hoax, that's wrong.
but what I already answered your question was, listeners and other people are covering this. I didn't create that story.
But Alex, the parents, one after the other.
Ghost in the Shell is really good. Yeah, that's a great anime. I should rewatch Ghost in the Shell. It's actually fucking phenomenal.
Devastated. The dead bodies that the coroner autopsied.
And they blocked all that and they won't release any of it?
When you say
Why would you want them to release dead children's? I don't understand that.
parents faked their children's death, people get very angry.
Yeah, well, that's all I know. But they don't get angry about the 500,000 dead Iraqis from the sanctions, or they don't get angry about all the
That's a
illegal storing
dodge.
in. No, it's not a dodge. The media never covers all the evil wars it's promoted, all the
That
big
doesn't
things.
excuse what you did and said about Newtown. You know
but
it.
here's the difference. Here's the difference. I looked at all the angles of Newtown, and I made my statements long before the media even picked up on it.
In our interview, we asked Jones numerous times what he now believes, and he never completely disavowed his previous statements.
Now,
No, he's really just gonna dog whistle to his audience. So fucking morons.
like I said, I can't say how often or if at all Synth still watches Alex Jones, but knowing that Synth still goes to Paul Joseph Watson, and has been exposed to Jones's content since childhood, does give a pretty good idea of why he thinks the way he does. You can see shades of both of their argumentative styles in his rants, but mostly conspiratorial content with no research, no proof, no substance, but maximum confirmation bias. See, Synth will just say something as evidence for a claim he will make, and then he just uses what he's saying as confirmation it's true. It's so self-evident. Just look at the thing I'm saying is self-evident. But if you were to look into any of these things, even just a little bit, you'll find it's just bullshit he's throwing at a wall, attempting to form some semblance of a cohesive worldview from his ignorance. Again, there's never been any evidence that Sweet Baby Inc. was funded in any way by BlackRock. They aren't even publicly traded and don't need investments to make money. They work on a project-by-project basis. So next time someone tells you about Sweet Baby ESG or whatever, you'll know they probably have a hard time drinking a glass of water without drowning. Like, by now I've explained Soy, BlackRock, Sweet Baby, Paul Joseph Watson, and plenty more, so you get the idea that despite Synth apparently believing these conspiracies, he didn't actually do any of the research. Even when he tells other people to go do their own research. Chalk one more up for hypocrisy on his part, but more importantly, it's another example of how Synthetic Man lashes out at everything he can.
Well, that's usually something I'll hear, like it's usually conservatives. Just do your research, and they'll make some like wild fucking claim, and they won't really give you any substance to it. And they'll say, "Do your research. Did you know this?" Like, no, because it's not real.
With anything he can, which is a perfect time to talk about the other beliefs Synth has. The ones that were influenced by real-life experiences, according to him. Like most racist and conspiracy theorists, he doesn't have many actual beliefs. He bases a lot of his current beliefs on things he experienced in high school. For example, he loves to cite how he went to a predominantly black school, so had an inside look into the black people of America.
Do you guys remember me?
An inside look at the black people of America. Crazy. Yeah, I also go to Popeye's Chicken. It's pretty good.
Telling you that I went to a majority black middle school, because I did say that. I'm not sure if you guys are memeing or if you remember that or not. Because I did. It's very true.
Ooh, wow.
It's not as bad as you would think, because
yeah, it's not really a big deal at all. Also, back then we didn't fucking have crazy. We didn't have, well, not crazy. We didn't really have too much race conversation, so things weren't as crazy. I'm not saying all race conversation is bad. I just mean sometimes they can get a little kooky.
No way to say this really, but the classes were, I was in an academically gifted class, so it was essentially.
I could believe that. I could believe that Synthetic Man, he's a lazy fuck who is like an underachiever. Like, he really is his own fucking problem.
It's like almost segregation in a sense. There was some black guys who were in, black kids in the classes.
But more interestingly is Synth's opinions on women. Synth actually hates women. Like, he is a deeply misogynistic creature. And from what I can tell, a lot of that resentment began in high school.
You'll never be as good as my mommy.
Relationships didn't go, like, that whole situation didn't go well. I dated a black chick in high school. I told you guys this in June.
He seems like the kind of person that could do well dating a black girl, like a more, like a, little stronger little stronger woman that can put up with his fucking bullshit and tell him when to shut the fuck up. Or really any Long Island woman would also suffice, to be clear.
Junior year didn't go well. I was ashamed of myself, partially because she wasn't very attractive, and I don't know, she was kind of weird. She'd also dated like multiple other guys who she still talked to, and honestly, her shorter, fatter friend was nicer. I don't know, I probably should have dated her, but anyway. But to circle back around, the point is, I want to date someone who wouldn't have these vast preconceived, isn't constantly comparing me to other people, basically, and also at the same time is not.
You were dating a girl that was talking to other guys? Why would you let that happen, dude?
Like, just dating me for the status thing.
What status? What?
No, it's like, but to be fair, at the same time, that would have always been a factor. Like, a woman's not going to be like, unless you're Chad, which I will never be Chad. This is delusional. Unless genetically I'm Chad, she's not going to be like, oh, this homeless guy, I'm going to date this homeless guy because I really like his personality. It's just many of us, including myself, were brainwashed by like children's cartoons and things to see women as something that they're not. Obviously, the problem is like all of my experiences contradict that. But brainwashing is so fucking strong that it's created like kind of like this mishmash of the two concepts together. Where on the one hand, I see the horrors over and over again. On the other hand, you hold out this hope for this thing that doesn't even exist.
So, Synth got rejected in high school one time by his accounting, and as a 30-year-old man still thinks it's a good justification for hating on all women in dating. It won't surprise you to know he doesn't have any experience with modern dating, but still parrots manosphere misogynistic bullshit about women on the apps.
How much has changed in just 10 years because they have equal rights to us. So
so now they can actually escape you if you treat them like shit. Yeah, of course.
If the government says, okay, trans women are women, women are oppressed and are just as good as men despite all of the biological differences that would make them, you know, weaker, etc., etc. You can name all the things. Blah, blah, blah. You know, name others. Racism is bad. In fact, you know, certain people who are statistically commit most of the crimes, no, they actually didn't do any of those crimes.
Well, maybe you could commit some crimes too if you'd actually get off your ass and do something, man.
Cops are bastards. You know, in fact, and it's... I'm about to go down a super deep rabbit hole here, but the point is,
what the fuck?
White women specifically.
What the fuck is he on about?
Fucked up everything.
What? What?
Because they are the highest status by birth, because they are the most desired women, because at least on average, white women typically are the most attractive ones. Now, of course, if you take a bunch of drugs and you sleep with 100 men by the time you're 25, yeah, you're gonna look like 40 years old. You're gonna hit the wall at fucking Mach speed. But, you know, for them, at least as a general...
I have no idea what the fuck this guy's talking about, if I'm being honest. What the hell?
Rule, they tend to be the more attractive ones. So, that's all I'm saying. I just feel like I've been too colored. You know, like, we're all susceptible to propaganda, let's be real. And I've just... Maybe the most effective propaganda on my mind has been showing degenerate white female behavior. I'll say that. That has unfortunately been the most effective propaganda.
What does that mean? Does he watch... He's watching porn? I don't understand what he's saying. This guy watches fucking black men tear apart white pussy is what he's doing. And he's super self-conscious about it.
Yeah, truly, it's a mystery why no woman would want to date you when you refer to them as empty egg cartons. It's definitely the media's fault, not you, for giving up on relationships in high school. Nobody should be surprised by this point to hear him repeating others' talking points about something he has literally no experience in, or hearing him so confidently make assertions based on anecdotal or even non-existent evidence. As an example of shit where he's just repeating what he's heard with no evidence, this point he makes about how why would anybody go and approach a woman in public when there have been tons of cases of men just getting arrested for just approaching women.
Ah, yes, of course.
No, there hasn't been? What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, well, this is the most obvious one ever, because we've been fucking conditioned that is tantamount to being a creep. Approaching a woman, like, cold approaching doesn't fucking exist anymore. Why? Online dating, duh. A woman can fucking filter through any man at a fingertip. Why would she want to be approached by randos? She can access literally anybody. This is fucking logic. Straight up, like, just common sense.
This guy's fucking pathetic, man. Just hit on girls, bro. It's not that fucking deep. Just fail until you find one girl that wants to fuck you.
How is this even confusing to people? Because it's confusing because they have to deny the truth, the obvious truth in front of their fucking eyes. That's how you are a bug man. You're a bug man when you ignore reality.
Bug man?
Okay?
What
no
is a
shit.
bug man?
You know, a man could fucking get arrested for approaching a woman, and then we say it doesn't happen.
That doesn't happen. I don't think you could ever show that it never happened. That's never happened. You never get arrested for approaching a woman. It can be a scary thought because now it does seem like people may be labeled creeps for walking up to somebody and like hitting on them, and that might be a frustration and a struggle for some young men. But no one's going to get arrested for it. Just be polite. You're not going to get fucking arrested. That's crazy.
And you can produce like 10 fucking... I know there's autists who have saved every fucking example. There's always somebody who's like...
So why don't you show us this supposed example, bro? What the hell are you talking about?
Well, what about this one? What about this one? What about this one? It's never enough for these deluded idiots.
See, Sin's opinions and beliefs are largely just whatever he's picked up from other people. He doesn't have many of his own, outside of the few experiences he hangs on to define himself, which he uses for justification. Now, one thing I do genuinely believe about Synthetic Man is that he desires violence towards women. When I say he hates women, I don't just mean that he wants to subjugate them or have sex with them. I believe he truly hates and loathes women.
Well, yeah, apparently he has erectile dysfunction, so I wouldn't doubt that.
It's probably why, even after being easily goaded into long-winded rants about Jewish cabals and societal control cribbed right from InfoWars, he is much more bullish about talking about women in any way on his streams, despite his audience trying to get him to do it.
Again, I think you guys, this is something I've thought about before off the streams and I forget to say it. I feel like too many of you are either attached to living vicariously through me or just because you have a parasocial relationship with me, you want to see me happy. Well, it's not going to happen. Okay? It's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I am way too jaded beyond belief with certain things in this world. There's a reason why I don't talk about women on these streams, because that's one of the things that could legitimately get me banned if I ever went full force.
Fucking loser. Holy shit, he's pathetic.
He also has a habit of making jokes about how he'd like to sexually assault them.
I wanted to turn invisible so bad when I was a kid. Still do sometimes, to be honest.
You can get away with anything if you're invisible. And no one can stop you.
True, I used to want to turn invisible in when I was like 13 in school. And I always thought, I was like, oh, I wish I could turn invisible so I could look up all these girls' skirts. Right? Which is pretty fucked up, thinking about it as an adult. So it's a good thing. You know, everybody wants superpowers. I'm very happy I've never gotten superpowers, especially at a young age. I could probably handle it now for the most part. But back then, man, I would have been I would have been a good guy. I would have been a bad guy. I'm just saying, I'd be like a fucking kid. It'd be insane.
Is that a rape joke?
Why
is that the first thing I think of? Well, he said get away with anything, right?
Oh, well, okay.
Which is not the first time he's laughed about the idea of rape, or even wanted it in a video game.
I'm definitely sick of the seriousness, because, like, at the end of the day, it's seriousness with no bite to it. That's why I find it funny that...
now, if I had a superpower, I think I would want to teleport wherever I want. And that would be great for travel times. That'd be pretty fucking cool, you know?
Game reviewers think this shit's, like, super mature and serious, when it doesn't even show, like... I know I'm going to come across like an edgelord, but you saw the fucking thumbnail. But there's not even, like, real rape in these games. I mean, they have it, like, implied rape, but...
I don't know, man. Sometimes rape gets boring. And okay. Okay, hear me out. I feel like sometimes I've watched a show, especially older shows, and what they'll do to make the character a bad guy is they'll make him a rapist, which obviously makes you a bad guy, but it just kind of feels boring. It's like, give me something more compelling than, oh, he did a rape, he's bad. Like, give me something a little more intelligent and mature. Like, make him a bad guy, like, idealistically. Like, give me something compelling that's like, wow, this is like a truly bad fucking person. That's I'm just saying. I feel like sometimes it's like a lazy almost, you know?
If you want to go all the way, that's where I would go if I wanted to make a purposely edgy ass game.
But more telling is this moment from a late drunk stream where he seems to imply that he wouldn't want to go on a date even if a woman agreed to it, because I will let this one speak for itself.
And online dating is not the solution. There's a part of me that I'm almost afraid of myself, what would happen depending on the type of woman I would meet. And I'm not...
What? Dude, this guy's insane. This guy's well, for a couple of reasons. One, it's disgusting what you're saying. But two, like, look at you. I don't think you could threaten anybody.
I'm not going to explain that, because that's a trap, definitely. But
what the
I feel
fuck?
like I'd be more likely to meet the type of woman I despise through online dating.
So you're going to get so angry that you're going to try to rape her? What the fuck is wrong with this guy?
Sure.
So there are only two explanations here, right? That he doesn't want to go on a date because he thinks he will either physically assault a woman or sexually assault her, or both. That's what he's admitting to.
Yeah, that's pretty disgusting. This guy's a fucking psychopath. Holy shit.
Here. And I choose to end our summary of Synth with this because it is deeply unflattering. For whatever sympathy or small amount of goodwill he might garner with sad stories about high school rejection, these clips show that it's not other people's fault he can't and shouldn't date, it's his own, which forms one final trend, not just for Synthetic Man, but for plenty of his fans. People who base their worldviews entirely on hate choose to, because they want to blame others for their own faults. Nobody forced Synthetic Man to believe or say any of the hateful things he does. He simply attached to them because he doesn't want to take any personal responsibility. For example, it's not his fault for hating women. If he can regurgitate some Andrew Tate bullshit and blame a high school crush, look at how bad women are today. Why would you hate me for hating women? It's not his fault for not getting a job when the Jews control everything and put soy in the food to emasculate him.
Yeah, he's a perpetual victim.
It's not his fault he's bad at video games when they're being made for Zoomers by SJWs. So now we get to the real heart of the issue. Not the how he thinks or what he believes, because honestly, they don't matter. His entire online personality is a spiteful amalgamation of his influences, and he has continued to lose himself in this content pit as his audience draws him progressively deeper into it. So then let's get to the why. Why does Synthetic Man hate everything?
Because he's a loser. He's just a loser. How the fuck does his pet keep dying?
I don't want to get too psychoanalytical with why he is the way he is, but thankfully, because of several late-night drunken streams, I don't have to speculate. Synthetic Man basically lays out for the world to see why he is a hateful, self-loathing mess who spends his life playing dancing monkey to a horde of internet Nazis. It's because he's a deeply, deeply insecure person, and almost every talking point against women, people of color, the Jews, communists, or whoever else he goes on tangents about He all says because he needs someone else to blame for the problems that he is responsible for in his life. Case in point, how he sees his parents as responsible for his own failure to launch.
Yeah, well, I'll be honest with you. I wanted validation for a long time, but not from therapy, from my parents. I never did get that. Eventually, you learn to give up on those things. I think that the elite's social planning enabled the conditions for your family to end up the way it did.
Dude, my fucking pet keeps
It's hard to
dying.
know. I
Jesus
don't know what my
Christ.
parents saw when they were young, that they didn't understand that you need to teach kids stuff. The funny thing is, my parents...
Weren't you in like a gifted class though? Does this guy even like have any level of oppression associated with him, or is he just a perpetual fucking victim? Was he not in gifted classes?
Parents have always acknowledged that me and my brother were smart, but simultaneously, they never taught us anything useful. I guess they just assumed.
What does that mean? They didn't teach you anything useful. You were in gifted classes. It sounds like. Wait, I'm actually genuinely confused about what he's talking about. Something does not add up to me in this situation. Part of me feels like this motherfucker actually had everything handed to him, and he just needs an excuse to be a fucking loser.
That school would do it. But at the same time, I think there were times where at least my dad tried to teach me some shit, but because of like video game addiction or whatever, I just didn't want to listen, and he just gave up after a certain point. But
what the hell is this guy talking
I feel like
what the
there
fuck?
was better ways. You're not supposed to give up on trying to teach your kid practical things.
Synth has repeatedly admitted to be too lazy to get a job. We talked about it, but at
Dude, my pet dies every fucking 2 seconds. I really don't understand what's happening.
almost 30, he still lives with his mom. Now, I have nothing against people who had to move back in with their parents. I've been fortunate enough to have decent rent and worked hard not to, but the economy is rough and rent keeps going up while wages have stagnated for years and
True
years.
that, brother.
It's almost like a running theme in our society is how concentrated capitalism is ruining everything. But saying that to people like Synthetic Man makes you a crazy commie, wild, just unrealistic
what the fuck
person.
is happening to my
No, to
pet,
them, it's
man?
more reasonable to make up elaborate conspiracies to justify why their lives are that way instead of examining the machine chewing them up, because usually that examination might also require some introspection about the role they play in the world and how the effort they put in can reflect their material outcomes, which, believe me, Synth does not want to do. I said I don't have a problem with people living with their parents, and I don't, but when someone who has never had a real job wants to tell others how to live their lives, that is funny to me. Here's a grown man who admits to caring about almost nothing but video games, who isn't particularly good or well-versed in them, and who spends his whole life now being angry at the world passing him by, and every step of the way he blames others for the things that make him angry. And then he also has the temerity
Kind of a based alert.
to say to his audience that if you've never accomplished anything in life, you don't get to make declarative statements.
I bet this guy's like a Boy Scout or something. I wonder. I want to know about his past. He seems like a real fucking cock loser. Not this guy. Or person. Synthetic Man I'm talking about.
Okay, then where do you get off, dude? Another little case in point. He's a legal adult making a livable wage from YouTube for at least 2 years. By all accounts, he should at least feel successful enough to pursue something he's passionate about, even just a video series or a project, to move out, to try and treat YouTube like a proper job. Like, looking at his numbers and especially the super chat donations he gets, I don't know why he would ever bitch about eating junk food when he can afford good organic food.
True.
He just chooses not to.
My mom just got here, so I might see if dinner is an option, or if I'll have to make my own tendies. I ate a shit ton. I can't really eat anything like tendies, though, because yesterday I ate 2 Popeyes chicken sandwiches, and that's why I didn't sleep, actually. I forgot to talk about that part.
Would he get heartburn or something? What?
So not only did I have to get up at 9 a.m., which I know, it's truly my life is pain, 9 a.m., crazy, but also the Popeyes chicken kept me awake.
Instead, he would
Why did the Popeyes chicken keep him awake? I'm curious.
rather mope and mauled and blame his parents, who are still bringing him his chicken tendies, for messing him up. He talks about how his dad wasn't around much and his mom's problems, and how he was basically raised by the internet.
You've got a whole generation of young men who were raised by single moms, taught by women, rejected by girls their age. Basically every...
It's so pathetic because, like, I was raised by a single mom. I was rejected by women my age, too. But I also wasn't rejected by women. Like, you can get women. Like, just fucking try to get women. It's fucking crazy. Probably did get heartburn, dude. I wouldn't doubt it.
Woman they've known has treated them like shit their entire lives. So their ultimate fantasy is to find a woman who nurtures and loves them unconditionally. So there you go. I wanted to share that with you.
He wants to fuck his mom. He wishes his mom was his age. That's really what it comes down to. Like, listen, everybody, I think typically men will look for a woman that's like their mother, and women will look for a woman that's like, or a man that's like their father, right? I think generally speaking. Because it's a woman's job, or it's a mother's job to teach their boys how to be treated by men and teach their daughters how to treat men. And it's a father's job to teach their daughters how to be treated by men and to teach their sons how to be men, right? And so, like, my wife has similarities to my mom. My wife is a feminine version of my mom, basically, because I was talking before about my mom's basically a man. For sure. But, like, this guy takes it to a whole nother level where, like, I think he legitimately compares women to his mom in, like, this active, meaningful way where it's like, my mom would do so much more for me. Like, I think that's what it is. You don't get unconditional love from anybody. Unconditional love is stupid. Yeah, obviously your parents will give you unconditional love for the most part, but like you're not going to get that in a partner. You need to provide value to that partner. It doesn't just need to be money, but like you have to be attentive to them. And it's difficult to be in a relationship because you have to constantly be aware of where your partner's at and where you're at, and things shift back and forth. Right? It's worth the difficulty. But you don't get whatever you want. But Synthetic Man wants that. He wants to be a whinging fucking baby that gets whatever he wants from his girlfriend. That's literally it. That's all he boils down to. So
something I was thinking about. So anyway, that was just a response to the comment about the young girls having daddy issues. It's like, yeah, everyone's a shitty parent now, so everyone's fucked up. It's like, maybe you shouldn't let the internet raise your kids. Just a crazy thought. As someone who as someone whose mind has been fucked, possibly without any hope of being normal, maybe you should, talk to your kids about healthy sexuality and tell them the dangers of pornography or something. Just the thought.
Oh, you mean teach kids comprehensive sexual health education? I guarantee you this guy would call that fucking grooming if it was a liberal who said it.
But because my dad slept during the day. So,
did he work at night? Was he upset that daddy had a real job and couldn't give him all the attention in the world?
My dad wasn't around that much because of that. Super chats. Yeah, hold on.
Wait, so this guy's dad worked. Okay. Okay. All right. My mom worked a lot too. It seems like this guy's like super ungrateful. What the fuck?
Well, my mom basically waited to date. Actually, I might have been 18 when she dated the first dude. At least the first dude I met. Because I think she dated dudes she never brought home.
What the
And no,
fuck?
none of them were good. They were all fucked.
They weren't like me. I could have been your husband, mommy.
I could have been your husband.
One that she was with the longest was this rich dickhead with a massive ego who abandoned his kids. And I shouldn't be sharing that with you guys, but
wow.
Let me just say, he was a fucking asshole. But
Wow.
my mom was absolutely
He's like, you should probably get a job. You fucking asshole, dude. You can't tell me what to do, Barry. The fuck you, dude.
smitten with him because my mom loves the idea of being rich more than almost anything.
Hey, I like being. I like the idea of it too, baby.
If anything, through my mother, I've learned that women shouldn't have.
Like I said the word whinging. So, thank you.
X.
It's like it's almost like a new vernacular for me. I never really used the word, but I've been using it a lot more lately. I don't know why I like it. I'm appropriating British language. This is pretty cuck. Am I right, guys?
Just to these high-profile jobs and all this money and shit.
But then he will go on to talk about how they also recognized and encouraged how smart he was and encouraged reading, and how when he was depressed as a teen, they tried to get him therapy, and they tried to get him to do other things than play video games, and tried to get him involved in extracurricular activities. And he just didn't want to.
Like, I've already told you guys this. This is, I mean, unless you're new to the streams or you just aren't usually around here for the late night parts. I literally started therapy when I was 14 years old, against my will. I mean, I didn't do it voluntarily, but the point is...
Oh, right, because he can't like therapy. That's why he has to say against his will. Because if he was in therapy, his audience would think he's a fucking loser. That's why.
From 14 to 24, I was in and out of therapy. I saw probably 8 or 9 different therapists. You know, if I wasn't so, like, stubborn... See, the problem is like, basically after high school, since I refused to go to college, it became a mixture of spite, anxiety, and depression, I'd say.
Did your mom make you get, like, a job or something, or what?
The reason why I became a NEET. Because my parents really...
The reason you became a NEET is because you're a lazy fucking loser. That's the real reason why that's happened to you. What are you talking about? Like, there's no way. Like, I was, I didn't really want to do anything either. I dropped out of high school. I was a very smart kid, but, like, my mother was like, you're going to have to get a job. And I got a job. That's really all that is what it comes down to. Your mother, you don't have a good family that helped fucking raise you. I mean, there's really no other thing. Your mom lets you do whatever you want, so.
Really fucking tried to get me to get a job. Like, they threatened to kick me out, like, shit ton of times.
They should have kicked you out. They should have kicked you out. You would have been a better person.
And basically, I would just say what they already knew, which is just like, I couldn't fucking survive on the streets. I mean, you certainly didn't raise me to survive on the streets, And I think they knew. They knew I was right. They couldn't admit it. I've accomplished this YouTube.
Well, no, you kick him out, because then you're responsible. Like, oh fuck, I guess I got to get a job because I can't survive on the streets. That's how that conversation would have went. So yeah, they should have kicked your stupid fucking lazy ass out.
Channel, I have 100,000 subs. It's not gonna fix any of those other issues. What will is exactly what I was told in therapy, and it's not what I'm willing to do. I'm not willing to
fuck a black girl.
Expose myself to increasingly more social situations.
He just refused.
I'm not gonna go. He's not gonna touch grass. It's basically the therapist like, bud, you gotta touch grass. No.
Stubbornly at every step, which he blames them for. Now, I'm not saying I know everything, because I don't know what went on in Synth's life, but Howard...
Dude, I'm pretty sure that this kid has had no struggles in his life except for his parents being fucking worthless. That's what it really boils down to. His parents didn't actually make him get a fucking job, so now he's a crybaby bitch on the internet. And he complains about everything. He's a fucking loser. He's the opposite of like fucking annoying liberals that advocate for the anti-capitalism specifically because they're too lazy to actually try that hard. I'm not saying that like there are obviously issues, but that's all it is. It's a victim complex. That's literally it.
How are you going to try and depict your family as basically being abusive to you and neglectful when you still have to admit that they tried to get you help? When every time you talk about your child...
They took me to therapy. They did this. They did this. They were so bad.
You still admit that they tried to help you all throughout. Now, he
I need to
justifies his
fucking-
laziness by citing the term learned helplessness, something he picked up during therapy. He basically uses it to say that because his parents didn't ever challenge him, he doesn't ever want to do anything. And because he thinks nothing is ever going to change or be good, he isn't going to ever try at anything. But this isn't learned helplessness because he's cognizant of it.
I don't know. I was too hard on myself when I was younger. That's really what it was at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's definitely not true.
It's because it really, not nearly as much of it was my fault. Look up learned helplessness, Darren James.
What?
There's a few good things I learned from my time in therapy. A few good things. Learned helplessness, that was a good term I learned that describes my entire existence.
This guy's a fucking loser. Holy shit. He's somehow more of a loser than I thought that he was. He's pathetic.
Do I want friends? Not as much as I used to. There's a reason why I stopped talking to the friends I had. Because at a certain point I realized that I'm not really getting anything out of it anymore.
Okay.
Like I basically had to ask myself a hard question where it's like, do I really want to tolerate these guys not taking anything I say seriously? And unfortunately, I'm a victim of the demoralization, as we talked about. So
I'm a victim.
I was thinking way too much about political things that my friends didn't agree with. So I basically just asked myself, like, is it worth really talking to these guys, continuing this friendship, if we're not going to talk about anything that I want to talk about, really?
But this isn't learned helplessness because he's cognizant of it. He's using it as an excuse to not even try to work. So it's not learned helplessness, it's weaponized laziness. At the beginning of this video, I mentioned how my past and Synthetic Man overlapped a little more than I expected when I started this project. Like Synth, I was also...
He's an underachieving smart person. He's fucking lazy and annoying is what he is. That's what it comes down to.
So a gifted kid loner type throughout high school. I didn't have many people I'd call close friends, and
Thank God this guy has a YouTube, because if not, he would shoot up a fucking school, for sure.
I struggled a lot with body image and depression. I didn't do many extracurriculars. I didn't go out and party. I didn't date a lot. Even further back from high school, we grew up in a similar time and had similar interests. I love the PS2 era of platformers. I grew up playing Ratchet & Clank and Sonic. I fondly remember the Xbox 360 era of edgy shooters. Hell, I have a whole playlist dedicated to ranking Xbox 360 games on my channel. And also like Synth, I struggle with motivation, depression, and especially failure to launch after high school. I've struggled with ADHD and attentiveness my entire life. Getting motivated.
Me too, I have ADHD. Oh my God. It's so funny because I feel like I have a lot of similar things, but you guys are fucking crying too much about it. I'm sorry if that's insensitive. I just feel like it's not that fucking deep, man. It's not that big of a deal. Let's get you just gotta kind of have to get your shit together. I came off my meds when I was like 16. That's why I dropped out of high school. I had a surge of energy. It's very interesting.
Work on
Why
things
the fuck
has
can I
been
find any more of these
hard.
lesser things?
It's been something I've worked on hard because it has caused so many problems in my life. So when you combine all these things, I spent the first 4 years after high school in a depressive haze where I felt aimless, like nothing I did mattered, and I took refuge in video games to the point where my mom was threatening to kick me.
I jerked off a lot, and I worked a job, and that's what I did.
Me out of the house because she thought I was just going to waste my life on the couch. The reality was I was in a deep depression, worsened by turning to terrible eating habits that made me gain weight and only made the depression worse. So when Synthetic Man talks about his history and the things he blames for his problems, a lot of them I can relate to. And speaking personally, they were not easy to get over. And when you sit and compare what people like Synth and I have been through, from economic struggles to mental health, We had it pretty fucking easy compared to some other people I know.
Yeah, you just got kind of depressed to say, yeah, doesn't seem as big as most other people struggle with.
Knew his
I'm saying with myself as well, yeah.
parents. Had a family who put food on the table, cared for him enough to try and get him fucking therapy, and when he became a burnout, they still provided for him. But here's the thing that really actually pisses me off, is that after Synth spends so much time whining about how he doesn't even want to try and nothing matters and everything is hopeless, he is still a goddamn hypocrite because he is living proof that he's wrong. Synthetic Man got a rare chance that so few people get, especially hobbyist gaming channels. Through actually applying himself just a little bit, he managed to make a successful, if edgy and transgressive, YouTube channel. Some people spend a decade making in-depth content and don't reach 100,000 subs. Against all odds, whether it was through blind luck of the algorithm or people sharing his content or a mixture of both. He managed to actually launch a successful YouTube career. He won the fucking lottery while so many other content creators are starving, trying to even get 50k subs. But what?
True. It's funny because I kind of won the lottery too. I never even wanted to be a content creator. I just kind of blew up during COVID because I posted shitposts on TikTok. And then I was able to turn it into a YouTube and this and that. I'm just very lucky, man. Very lucky.
Whether through sheer ignorance or just his internet poison cynicism, he doesn't care. He has been so broken by the places he turns to for community, where the only thing they share is misery and hate. He is bought so wholeheartedly into the idea that there's no good in the world, and when a good thing happens to him, he just shrugs and continues his pity party.
Well, I think he feels entitled to that good thing happening to him. I think that's really what it boils down to.
The Synthetic Man's mistake isn't being racist or violent towards women or not doing any research for the things he talks about. Those are all byproducts of the one mistake he makes every day. His mistake...
being gay. I'm just kidding.
...is in thinking
He's streaming right now? Is he acknowledging the video that this guy made about him?
His struggles are unique to him, and letting those struggles define every aspect of his life. Do you think you're the only one with executive dysfunction? Do you think you're the only one who had a shitty upbringing? Do you think you're the only person who grew up watching edgy shit on the internet and feeling isolated or rejected as a...
He's playing Star Wars Outlaws. He gets a lot of... It's funny because he actually seems to get a lot of live stream views. Good for... He's at 1,200 views. This guy is a fucking perpetual victim. His entire life was handed to him and he still can't be appreciative of it. Holy fuck, what a loser.
Why are you still talking?
Okay.
Stop talking!
Sort out my speeder.
Alright. Great stuff.
You're not the only one. You're just one of...
I don't know why so many people watch him, if I'm being honest with you. What the fuck?
...the people who let those experiences define you. There are an unspeakable number of people who have been through similar circumstances to yours and worse, and they chose...
The worst circumstances I cannot find. This fucking... I need to find a fucking thing, and it just is not popping up. Here it is. There we go.
...not to become assholes over it. It's a tale as old as time with racists and misogynists. One guy gets fired and the company hires an immigrant. He becomes a racist because don't bother looking at the company. That might mean examining the structures of capital. Or MGTOW movements. You hear common stories of men hating women after being cheated on or divorced. It's unsurprising that Synth would end up in similar places because, like all these dum-dums, one bad thing happened, maybe once, and suddenly that becomes their entire life. And they go online and they find other people who are likewise obsessed with defining themselves by others. They congregate in places like 4chan and Kiwi Farms, and on Synthetic Man's channel where they can reminisce about their edgy high school years and call people slurs like they used to in Call of Duty lobbies before
kind of based, yeah, kind of based.
Before all the left libtards took everything over. And they can commiserate about how those woke lefty commie snowflakes are actually all funded by BlackRock, who are actually Jews, and that's why there are black people in video games and chemicals in food that make you docile. And they say these things as they sit and grind out another battle pass in a live service game with a diverse cast, stuffing their face with chicken nuggets filled with preservatives as their parents tell them to get a job. Every now and then they'll jack off ashamedly to an anime woman with a dick before posting about...
I don't have any shame, brother. I used to have shame when I look at stuff like that, but not anymore, man. The shame is dead.
Troons and how they think any woman with a cock is a freak of nature who's destroying the fabric of society.
I don't think they're freaks of nature at all, man. I'm just too I'm married now. I can't be fucking around with that stuff, you know what I mean? Just people in general. I think I could have dated a trans woman for the reals, but they would have had to excuse some of my ignorance. So as I learned, you know, that's probably a tough one for some people in general, because you know I'm not the most educated guy about everything.
This is not the way people are.
But I bet I could suck a good dick. I bet I could suck a good dick, dude, because I have one. I would know what they would like. You know what I'm saying? So
intended to live. I don't necessarily believe in higher governance or that you were put here for a purpose, but I do believe that you can live with purpose. A purpose beyond waiting to die and dragging as many people through the mud on your way down as you can. Just look at where it has landed Synthetic Man. Someone who started with the honest, even admirable intention of making a channel to talk about games he loved, who managed to actually get a following with numbers most YouTubers in their first few years would only dream of. And where is he now? Wallowing in an endless puddle of cynicism and hate, making no effort to preserve his own mental or physical health, instead following an audience that doesn't even seem to like him outside of the twisted entertainment value they find in his ranting. He does nothing but blame other people for the fact that he is miserable, instead of looking in the mirror and realizing that he's the one who chooses to be miserable like this. Now, I don't believe that Synthetic or people like him are irredeemable or beyond helping, because every day they wake up and make...
He might be. I don't think he'd be willing to give up the easy pass at the money, because that's what he gets. Like, he doesn't put in any real effort and he gets money. And I'm not saying I put in a tremendous amount of effort, but again, it's just playing video games all day, not very good at the games that he plays, and then fucking crying on like the internet about a game every 2 weeks. He puts together like a half-hour video that took him, you know, an extra 10 minutes to fucking edit. You know, it's just like, that's it.
Make a choice to be hateful, and one day they could simply choose not to. One day they could choose to not go on 4chan and instead read a book instead of just thinking about reading. They could choose to not call someone they don't know or understand a slur and justify their bigotry by citing some other asshole.
But where's the fun in that?
Who could never cite his sources. They could choose to realize they have been given struggles like everybody else, and that through these struggles, they might have more in common with a trans person, a black person, or a Jewish person than they realize. And they could choose to see that they have also been given opportunities.
No.
And use those opportunities to live happier, more fulfilling lives. I'm not saying every single one of these people should renounce their bigoted ways and tomorrow they'll be a happy SJW snowflake like me. Believe whatever you want, that's your right as an American. But I also know it's not healthy to live constantly online, and certainly not constantly online in places that speak almost entirely in slurs and Holocaust references. Now, with as deeply self-loathing, insecure, and reactionary as Synthetic Man is, I don't think he will make that choice. Odds are he and the people who were fans of his tuned out of this video a long time ago. But on the off chance you watch this whole thing and you still hate me for being a stupid...
I don't know, man. I don't think that he's gonna fucking watch the video. I think he's just gonna write it off and not really care. I mean, Synthetic Man is used to everybody criticizing him because his own fucking audience hates him, so...
Or you still think Synth is a base chud, I'd encourage you to take a day or two
the fuck is a chud?
away and really just think about what I've said, because there are always going to be more people like Synth. People who have a passion or a talent but no aim or goal to pursue. People who have been through tough times and don't want to keep going. People who feel alone and instead of reaching out or examining themselves, would rather push everyone away and blame others for their failings. Some of these things you choose, others you don't. But if you're a fan of Synth,
how would I get a mail
you can choose not to be like him. I hope you choose to be better than he is.
All right. Interesting. Well, that was definitely an interesting video. I can't say I hated it. It was good. It was a little long, but there's nothing wrong with a long one, if you know what I'm saying. So yeah, man, good stuff. Can't fucking cool.